Well, we are back, huh? We're back at the 9 Club, everybody, today. Oh, wow. We got a special
Another one.
Special guest, Paul Schmidt, the professor.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
In the flesh. He's got his lab coat on and everything.
Got him out of the wood shop.
Oh my God. How often do you wear that when you're going grocery shopping? Do you put that on and just...
When I'm doing events, like for Creative Skate, I'll be just in event mode, so I'll be wearing it wherever.
Right. I like it, bro. I want to get a lab coat.
You got to work in a lab first.
This is kind of a lab.
Kind of.
No?
Sound lab.
Sound lab.
Sound lab.
Sound and video lab. Audio video department. Yeah.
I keep the place clean.
Professor Crosse, right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
How about it?
When did the lab coat come into play? I mean, it's out of necessity, right? I mean, when you're working with wood and stuff, you're protecting your clothes, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, the lab coat for me goes back to actually summer 1986. A Del Mar contest, an NSA contest at Del Mar Skate Park. Mm-hmm. And I've been at a thrift store, and for some reason I saw a lab coat, and I was like, I bought it. It was light blue. And I wrote Professor Schmidt 86 on the pocket.
Okay.
Wow.
Had a bottle of Gatorade in it. Grant Britton took a picture. And then Lucero had laid out an ad, winter, spring, summer, fall. Uh-huh. And it was Monty, Lopes, Lucero, and Grosso. And then Grosso quit the team.
Okay.
And Lucero said, "You're going in." And that sort of set the tone for the professor thing.
And you were in the ad with the lab coat.
Right.
With the Gatorade in the pocket.
But then it was more like, I was more like the wacky professor, almost like Jerry Lewis, who minds a store. I mean, who else would show up at the skate park with a brand new board, drop in and it breaks?
What do you mean?
Well, you're willing to try things.
Oh, you mean in your development of boards?
Oh. Yeah.
You're dropping in and boards are breaking.
I can remember once having this board in Florida that was foam and fiberglass, and I rode at the Bro Bowl, and I'm all super excited, having a blast on it, Then we go to John Grigley's ramp. I do a fake ollie to tail, and the tail breaks off. I'm like, that idea didn't work that well.
Foam and fiberglass.
Yeah.
What is this? Are you just messing with different... What year was this? This was 80...
That's
84,
83,
83? Okay.
84.
Were you just messing with different materials?
Yeah.
I mean, just like, hey, what could I throw in here?
Well, I worked at a boat company building sailboats, so it's like I had access and knowledge with fiberglass and resins and stuff like that.
Molds.
And they harden. Resin hardens pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
It's
sometimes I'll go skate the combi. Pumping to the corner of the combi in Orange. Sometimes I've gone there and put my board together and skate, drop in one ride, and I hop out and I leave, and they're like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "I broke my board." It doesn't look broken to me. It's like, no, I broke a board. I go carve that corner and the square corner of the bowl, and I can feel that limit. Like, it popped.
Do you have special equipment when you're trying to design or develop something? Like, a pressure stuff that
I did something
bends the boards?
Years ago with load cells and that, but never really got anywhere with it. It's always been like the best way to judge a board is take a board, put it on a curb, and jump on it.
Like nothing could replicate. Nothing could replicate what we do
Right.
to boards.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I've never found it. Like, I've tried, I've seen stuff that other people have done, but it doesn't give you that same feedback that your sense gives you, right?
If you did, it would kind of be like what's a word for it? Like a gimmick. Like, this board can withstand X amount of pounds.
It's not realistic to skateboarding, but I did some stuff with a lab this past year, and I was able to finally do some development where I got rider feedback, and I was able to correlate it to some lab testing. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting.
Now, when you say lab testing, what does that entail? Like, what's one thing that they do?
In this case, it was a glue lab, a company that makes glue,
and
they have standards for lamination and glue and stuff like that.
So obviously different glue. I mean, we'll get into the whole manufacturing of a board, right? Because it's super. I mean, people need to know, Raj, how boards are made.
Surprised to find out like 40 people touched their board before it's skatable.
Yeah, a whole bunch of people.
And a guy in a lab coat. No, but do you see the future of skateboards going somewhere, whether it's like bamboo or some type of different material?
So it's not really going any further, I don't feel.
Really?
in the world of composites and that kind of thing, so if we want to make a $500 or $1,000 board, first of all, kids don't want to buy that.
Sure.
There's no skater that didn't get a new board today that would say no to a new board tomorrow.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So if all the money goes into making this crazy board and then it doesn't get replaced, that's not what skaters want. They want the replacement and use of it.
And it's not sustainable for a company.
It's not sustainable
Either.
for a company,
Either.
but the reality is that in the world of composites and aerospace and everything, the big focus in the last 10, 15 years has been nanotubes.
What's
and
that?
they're these little microscopic tubes.
Okay.
We got Mother Nature's best material with nanotubes built into it. In the first generation, that grain is the same grain that was in a tree.
Yeah.
Okay? Where you take a truck and you take the minerals out of the earth and you melt them into aluminum and steel. They don't look anything like they did.
Right.
The wheel might have come from some petroleum that came out of the ground. Doesn't look like anything like it did. Things get processed into something else. Where the board has this organic liveliness to it.
This is true. What about hemp?
So I've made boards of hemp in them before.
Yeah.
You know, and hemp and bamboo, they both have some merits.
But they're not the same as wood.
But not the same as wood, yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 10 years ago, Mega Ramp had Bergquist win a Mega Ramp contest on a board that was 50% bamboo and hemp, 50% maple.
Huh.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I
What
got
is
it
it?
refined to that level, but the brands didn't want to market it. The media didn't want to talk about it.
Well, did it not last long or
you know.
something? Or
No, I had a nice refined level, you know. But the reality is that the obtainability of materials
Yeah.
and cost, you know, when you say, hey, yeah, I can make a board for you for double the money. Hard to get people to spend $1, more or less double the money.
It's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the hard reality.
Yeah.
And in general, in manufacturing, anything that costs $1 at manufacturing is usually 4 times that at retail.
Yeah.
And that could be any kind of product.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
The reality is by the time it goes through marketing and distribution and design and engineering and all those realities of business,
Right. Huh.
And moving from a distributor to a retailer to the consumer.
Yep.
You know, there's
Adds
all
up.
these levels and tiers.
I don't know. What if Elon Musk just came through and was like, I have this revolutionary material?
Well, he didn't have enough nanotubes in his window the other day.
That's
I don't
true.
know.
That's
I
true.
don't know what's going on
The
there.
nanotubes was, yeah, he didn't have enough.
You know?
So the boards have, okay, interesting. Wow.
So if you look at hard maple under a microscope, it has all these little tubes in it, right? And these tubes are where we get all the strength.
I'm picturing like a beehive, like a
So-
bee, like a,
So a 7-ply skateboard, when it came out in the 70s, 78-ish, was 60% of the grain went end to end, 40% went across.
okay.
And then in the 80s, it was 70-30. In the 1989 or 90, Chuck Holtz refined it with a Vision board and got it to be 75-85. And then when I made Featherlight in the late 90s, I got it to 80-20. So the boards I build, 80% of the grain is going the length. So the tubes are lined up for the ollie
Okay.
and supporting that. Now you have to have enough tubes going across to hold the concave in the shape of the board. And that allowed us then to make a board thinner, lighter, and boards now became this thing that had this flex and bounce back, right? Where before then they were thicker and they were more solid.
rigid
And it was
and-
more about a rigid thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh.
And the Featherlight Concave was really the drive of trying to make a lighter board to satisfy Chris Markovich. Okay. You know, and the compromise is, hey, I got to add more concave to it because you look at how flat boards were before that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, we went to a board where they were
Concave
so
will hold the
flat,
strength.
and they had to be so thick because they were so flat, right?
And so the 80-20 that you're talking about, what plies? Is it 2 plies?
yeah, 2 of the plies are going across.
Okay.
The general and 5 are going long. So generally, you look at a skateboard, the 2 outside ones are going long.
Okay.
Then there's a cross.
Huh.
Then a long, a cross, and 2 longs.
I've never even thought about it. You know what I mean?
It's like making a sandwich.
There's some skaters that are really, wheelbase, everything's super important to them. But me, I would just grab a board and just go. You know, as long as the shape was my shape.
Right.
I'd never even thought about
nanotubes.
Nanotubes.
And which way the wood was going. Yeah. That's
how did you even get started? I mean, you said you were build boats.
Well, it goes way back before then. I always made stuff, right?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it goes back to as a little kid, I lived in Wisconsin. I lived in rural La Crosse out in the country. And my dad ran a college theater. and he would take me to work with him, and it's sort of like I was the kind of kid that was like, oh, the drill press at 6, the bandsaw at 7, the table
he was
saw
making
at 8.
sets.
Making sets, exactly.
Right.
And then my dad would build these little models in the living room all winter long, and then he would take this model to school, and there was no blueprint. There was just a scale ruler.
Oh, he made a little miniature.
He made a miniature. And then the students would have to go build that, and I would go help them build it because I watched him build the model all winter long.
Huh.
You know?
So
and that's how I learned how to make things. I was the kind of kid always making tree forts, you know, go-karts, you know, whatever you could make, right?
Did you have a ramp in the trees at one time?
No, I didn't. I wasn't part of that. That happened in Costa Mesa with Volcom.
Right.
I built ramp in between trees on the ground, but not up there. That was a built-to-shred one that was rad.
Yeah, because I think it was Omar who said like you had built a ramp in the trees.
Well, no, trees around on the ground, but the one I'm thinking is one that was up in the air. There was a built-to-shred one that Volcom did.
So you're making stuff as a kid, and then did you just start skating?
Yeah, so then in Wisconsin, in 73, the neighbors had brought a board from left from the 60s. They bought it at a swap meet for $2. And they... you know, it was clay wheels. They lived in a brand new house with a smooth asphalt driveway.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in a 100-year-old farmhouse with a crusty-ass driveway, right? So it's like...
You're going over their place to...
We go over their place and ride their skateboard, you know? But then skateboards became available at Zayre's department store with urethane wheels and ball bearings. And I was like, I spent $20 and got one. You know?
I mean,
and they
back
were like,
then, $20.
Well, I was a fool of the neighborhood for doing that.
Everybody...
You know, but I was like, this is fabulous, you know. And the rally is that I'd ride my bike up and down the street, the rural route too, and just pick up aluminum cans because back then people would just throw garbage out the window, you know.
They still do.
So you would go and recycle and get money.
So go recycle, get money. So
and that's how you bought your first board?
Yeah.
It was recycling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're getting like a nickel a can? Not even a nickel.
Back then it was nothing.
Yeah. How many cans were
So
you
worked
picking
for a while
up?
for that
wow.
one.
Yeah. No, it used to be a lot.
So $20, you got your first board. What was a board?
It was just a plastic board.
Just plastic.
Ball bearings. I actually have a very similar one at my shop that I bought off eBay a couple years ago.
Oh, you tried to get the original.
Yeah.
Or close to it.
Similar one. Yeah. I have a bunch of old boards.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a
collection
bunch of
of things.
skateboards.
You have a few skateboards.
Yeah.
So when did you start? Because didn't you start with rails? Weren't you making
so my
rails
first product
at first?
was rails. So in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
I could skateboard in the rest of the neighborhood, but the other kids had no interest in skateboarding.
You were the only one.
I was the only one, you know. And now there was a new subdivision that had new roads. I could go ride the skateboard in that. It was fabulous, you know.
Yeah.
And I loved a toboggan in the winter. And so I got myself a really nice toboggan. You know, you go hike a mile up that cow pasture and go toboggan down. It's
How
like
much
to
did you
pick
pay
a
for the
line and
toboggan?
curve? I don't remember, but
Okay.
it was from picking cans. That's
Probably,
for sure, you know?
probably paid more for the skateboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when my parents told me that we were moving to Florida and your toboggan's got to go, there's no tobogganing in Florida, I'm like, I was heartbroken. But I had skateboarding in the summer and tobogganing in the winter, and they both had this free-form, flow, go kind of thing, right?
Sure.
You could do it on your own, or
Right.
you could do it with somebody. You know, there could be people in the back of the toboggan, or you could be solo, you know? And the skateboard's like that as well. You can skateboard with friends, or you can skateboard solo, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I prefer with friends.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Me as well.
So you moved to
So then I moved to Tampa, Florida.
Tampa. Okay.
And then I lived in a condo complex that had kids that lived there that had skateboards. I was like, wow, this is great. I get to skateboard all the time
you
now.
finally have people to skateboard
Got
with.
people to skateboard with, you know.
Okay.
Made a wooden oak board, you know, like one of the neighborhood kids had done, you know.
Oh, you
in wood
made...
shop at school, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because back then, when skateboards weren't laminated, you could just get a chunk of oak and glue on a kicktail and go at it. Right? It was obtainable.
Is it oak heavy? Is it in a heavy wood?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy. Maple's still heavier than oak.
Oh, is it?
But the boards back then were 3/4 of an inch thick because that's what you could buy is 3/4. You know.
And so you...
Which is actually 4/4. Just so you know. If you go to the lumber store, you buy some 4/4 wood. 4/4 smooth is 3/4 of an inch thick.
Why?
Because they sell lumber based on the yield from the tree before it got planed down smooth.
Huh.
So it's like a 2x4 is not 2 inches by 4 inches. It's 1.5 by 3.5 because they planed a 1/4 inch off each side.
Are you serious?
What?
Yeah.
They've been fooling me all this time. I thought a 2x4 was a 2x4.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
I have to write somebody about that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
kind of
disappointing. Lawsuit.
Kind of disappointing.
Might win that one.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, you hear about some of those funny
Sounds
lawsuits.
easier to say than 1.5 by.
Yeah,
what was-
2x4.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easy.
That's a lot easier.
Use metric system.
Yeah.
So now you're making your own board in wood shop.
Yeah, so I made my own board at wood shop in junior high.
Huh.
You know, and skate parks came around, so I got my first pro level board at the skate park. You know, with half tracks and a Oak Logan Earthski and OJs.
Wow.
Super Juices.
Huh.
I think Super Juices. I'm not sure what the model was.
Okay.
But OJs, yeah.
Wow.
Seen them come back in the last couple of years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
No question, yeah.
So now, I'm in a big city. There's concrete skate parks,
Right.
It was only a 10-mile bike ride to get to the skate park, so that was easy.
And you said the other kids were building their own boards too?
So back then,
Everybody
it was
was-
very common. Everybody would build an oak board, in school, or ash, were both used very commonly in that era. But the minute skateboards became laminated, now it was an unobtainable thing because you couldn't go buy maple veneer to go do it,
Yeah.
right? So it became, what was a basic wood shop thing for 5 years just instantly disappeared.
You're talking about a straight piece of wood,
Right.
And then
Solid
you're screwing on like a skid plate essentially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, skid
Or a
plates
little
were common
wedge.
back then.
Yeah, like a little
and a
wedge
wedge
thing.
on the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then sometimes you would use bolts. Sometimes the board would be just screwed in.
Dowels, you use wooden dowels.
No, not the dowel. Okay. Maybe if you split it down, maybe if it broke down the middle and you want to put it back together, that'd be a good way to solve that problem.
Okay.
Now you could like having some cross grain in your solid wood board,
See?
right?
I know a thing or two about
Dowels.
A thing or two?
Yeah. So what happens then? So now you got to go buy your boards, right? The laminate comes out.
Yeah, so now boards are laminated.
Okay.
And that comes out and continues to progress along. We get another skate park in town that's on my side of town, so now it's only a 5-mile ride to the skate park, so that was better. And that was like a second generation skate park, so it had, not pure vert or not full vert, but not just sort of surf style. Florida had a very surf style skate park thing. There'd be a big hill, and you'd climb up the hill, and you just ride down and around and climb back up the hill and ride down and around.
Oh, yeah.
And
the Bro Bowl?
that's the way they were. Well, the Bro Bowl does that to an extent, but it does it differently because you have a hill to go down, obviously, but you come back, to the same spot. So my first product was rails.
That was your first.
Right. So rails were being made out of wood or urethane, and they were called grab rails. So when you had
They weren't ready for sliding.
Right. When you had a Z-Flex grab rail,
Okay.
and you rock and rolled, it gripped the lip. So there was this really smart guy, and one day I went to the store, and his nickname was already Ollie.
Okay.
And McTwist, it was still going to be another 5 years before McTwist had that nickname, but he was a local at my park, so
Yeah.
And Alan goes, if rails slid, that'd be really cool. And he just had an interview in the magazine. It's like, I don't like it when I rock and roll. It grabs the lip. I want to slip, not grip. And then I laminated some rails that were wood, fiberglass, and formica. Couldn't break them, but it took so much work to make them. And then I basically quickly went to UHMW Plastic. I went to the plastic place, and I said, hey, what do you got? Super tough and durable. I don't want it to get sharp, and they taught me about UHMW, and it's ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene.
Okay.
And it's a plastic, sort of like cutting board plastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's that really tough, durable stuff, right? Because the particle density is really, really high.
Huh.
But it machines with woodworking tools.
Okay.
Really friendly to work with, so I would cut it up into strips, put a bevel on them, route them, drill them.
Oh, they would give you a big slab of it.
Yeah, they just give me slabs. So it's like I kept on buying all the scraps up, you know? And then pretty soon, after a year and a half of that, I bought all the scraps up, and then when I went to buy a reel sheet, they were like, "Oh, well, this is the price of that." I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't work."
Oh, it was expensive.
And I reached out to a plastics company in Miami, going, "Hey, do you guys sell scrap UHMW?" And they're like, "Hey, kid, you're never going to find enough. There's this guy that makes extrusions." I'm like, "What's that?" And it's like, "It's sort of like Play-Doh pumper number 9. It just extrudes the plastic out in the shape you want it." I'm like, "I don't have to cut the shape. I just got to cut it off and drill the holes."
You got to make like a little template.
Got to make a die.
A die.
And a mold, right?
Okay.
So basically, I meet this plastics guy. I'm 16 now. So I'm already selling rails. I'm already selling rails to all the skate parks in Florida. Okay. And not really going out of Florida like 78, 79. But by 80, I found this plastics guy, designed a die, made it, and now the rails came made. And I just had to put them in bags with screws.
And you're already calling these Schmitt Stix, right?
Well, that goes back to 78. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're help me please, so I don't pass everything up, right? I might just miss something. I don't know, but it's an important story.
Yeah. But that's
because the guy that made the wooden rails at the local skate park in Clearwater across the bay, his name was Steve Fisher.
Okay.
And he was in a band, and he was a drummer.
Sure.
And he worked in a cabinet shop. He was a couple years older than me. So he'd take the scrap Baltic birch and he'd make wooden rails, and they were called fish sticks.
Okay.
Fish sticks.
Okay. So I'm at the competing skate park across the bay, and I make rails, and the locals just automatically call them Schmitt Stix.
Schmitt Stix.
Wow.
It's not even a choice. It's just a applied name.
That's funny.
But you're already surpassing him by making them plastic. He's still over there, Fisher Sticks, still making them with wood.
Yeah, well, he quickly wasn't anymore.
Okay.
It changed for everybody.
You stole.
But I mean, he was a pro skater in the magazine, rode for Kryptonics, really rad skater.
Okay.
And so the band he was in, the lead singer lived in Tampa on my side of the bay. And one day at the skate park, his name was Mike Knapp. And Mike Knapp gives me a logo. He says, here's your logo. I'm like, a logo? What do I need a logo for? Because you're a business. I'm in a marketing class at USF, and I'm in the art department, and you need a logo. So I made you this logo.
You were just slipping them into bags and just no logos, no.
Yeah, well, at point then, so at the start, it wasn't even really that. It was just sell them loose,
Oh, gotcha.
But then when the skate park started to sell them, now it was like put them in a bag.
You need them in pairs.
Make them a little
Right.
bit more, right?
Oh.
And then one of the other local skaters, older skater, he was actually from Hollywood, Florida, where Gilfen lived, and his name is Craig Snyder. He's the guy who made this. You ever seen that Ollie book, the orange book that's like this thick? Amazing history of skateboarding.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Raj
Check out the
hasn't
Ollie
seen
book.
it. This
If
is
you haven't
like-
seen it, it's a good one.
Huh.
It's a
Okay.
history manual.
We'll have to get
900
that.
some pages.
Jeez.
Wow.
But he lived in my town for a year and went to the same college. And he's like, hey, we're going to Surf Expo. And to do business, you got to go to the trade show. So the older skaters were they were drafting me along, right? You're conditioned by your environment. They're like, here's a name, here's a logo, you got to go to the show. So I went to the show.
Because you're 16.
Yeah. So I went to the show with him and McGill and Gilfen and two other people, and went to Surf Expo for the first time. And I met Tom Sims and Stacy Peralta.
Oh, wow.
Are these
and it
guys
was like-
tripping on your plastic rails?
They thought it was weird, at first.
Really?
And then it was like, but then quickly it's like, McGill had already taken some to California.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, no, you're not going to ride those. We're going to make our own. We'll call them rib bones, And McGill's clear that, no, like you were making the plastic rails before rib bones were,
Wow.
I mean, a couple years ago, back early 2000s, actually was when we had the Reese Forbes High Ollie Challenge at the trade show. McGill been telling me for a year, I got some of your old rails, and he brings them to me, and they're the Wood and Fiberglass and Formica ones, and I'm like,
way.
oh my gosh. And then when I met back up with Craig Snyder a couple years later, I go, do you by any chance have any of my old rails? It's like, yeah. And I got the original plastic ones before the extrusion.
Wow.
You still have them?
I only have half a set because I made this display case with one of every rail that went to the Smithsonian
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
the archives, and I have the sister case of the other half of each rail in my office.
That's
Gotcha.
amazing.
So if you
Wow.
come to Costa Mesa, I'll show you a little history of rails.
Do you trip out on you've built this whole career. Literally started with rails and out of necessity too, because Ollie wanted to slide, he wanted to glide, not, what was it?
Just
Wanted to
slide,
slip, not
not
slide.
grip.
So, yeah.
You don't want to. I just don't want to catch, right? And you got to realize that back then there was no concave in a skateboard.
Flat.
So the ability to get that board to slide was really hard.
A lot of
Now,
surface area.
A lot of friction.
a lot of friction, right? Exactly. So as a rail came along, it reduced the surface tension, okay, and you had a more lubrous material, so that helped that. And then as concave came along, then, rails were sort of a crutch till eventually they went away because basically there was enough concave that you could rail slide on that.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the surface tension of a flat board like you had in 78. right?
And now they're back again.
And now
Rails,
they're back-
everybody
back
loves
are-
the rails.
Are cool and curvy and fun and all that stuff, right?
That's Roger all day right there.
Hey,
Scott
loves
rides
the
them too.
rails.
Yeah.
Whoa, hey. Tell nobody
Is there
about
like
that.
how long do they usually last? Is that like a thing?
The rails that I always made, because of the high quality plastic, last 4 or 5 boards. you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem, you know. Where most of the plastics that rails are made of, like the injection molded, you can't get the density of that. So they almost start to, you do a big rail slide, they almost start to melt, right? And they fray off, and then you get that hard edge, right? You know, where the UHMW will never get that hard edge.
So UHMW is the hardest
No,
plastic.
it's not hard.
Oh, it's not.
Tough. It's tough and it's lubrous. So even in the Schmitt Stix era, I made them put silicone in them. And we call them silly sticks because they would put silicone beads in with the plastic
Would that help it slide?
to help it slide better. Yeah.
What?
What is it
Why
like
aren't
now?
you doing that now?
Yeah.
Isn't happening right now. Doesn't mean it can't.
What is it made out of now?
Someone's
Like-
got to market it. Well, the rails that I make for Welcome, the candy bars, are made at the same factory that made my rails back in 1980.
Oh,
Wow. It's same with the UHM
Same
or
material, UHMW.
I want magnesium rails.
Magnesium rails?
What do you think about this?
Oh,
He's been
yeah.
talking about magnesium rails. What do you think?
I don't know. You gonna light them on fire? I don't know if they're gonna slide. I don't get your idealism here.
I think it'll slide.
well, because you're basing
try
off
it.
the trucks.
Well,
you
he
have,
has
right?
magnesium
The
trucks.
The willingness to try is the start of anything.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're willing to try, then try it. Don't. People talk all the time.
Oh, I know.
Okay?
Will you help him?
You can talk about it
Will you
all
help-
the time.
will
But
you-
you're gonna do it. You're gonna make something happen.
Will you help him pour the liquid, the hot magnum, the hot magnesium?
You're concerned.
Yeah. He doesn't have a lab coat.
I have a cauldron in the back. It's all heated up.
But you think that because of the trucks you ride, right?
Yeah.
They
The magnesium truck's great, amazing. I just imagine like sliding on it, probably feel just as good.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, if you can make the rail thin and round.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And as little surface touching as possible. I don't know. I mean, it depends on where you're at, right? And because your body weight and your center of gravity in a rail slide situation is a lot more teetery than a grinding situation.
Yeah.
So watch out for that crack. I got this really thin rail that slips right in the crack. Roger might be done.
He's used to a thin rail sliding into a crack, but
Happens every day.
no, but it's interesting though. I mean, literally rails. I want to try these silly sticks. Silicone.
Yeah, injected. And at the end of Schmitt Stix, I figured out how to make a fastener to make the rail where you didn't have any screw holes. Because with the screw hole, you wear out on the hole because path of least resistance, energy goes
Right.
there, right? And you would also almost get stuck to have to slide there because you slide into that groove, right? And I developed these ones with this T-slot that had them. You could look through the T, and you
just
put the
basically
fastener
slide
on
them
and
right
you
on.
slide it on and fasten it. But people were so confused and flustered by it, yet they love sex bolts. And I'm like,
Same thing, pretty much.
you know, pretty much the same thing, you know, but the problem was that board thicknesses were different, so the screws were temperamental, like, you
Wait
know.
a minute. You would build this into the board, or you would have it
No.
would be a track. I don't
No,
understand.
it came with a set of instructions and a template. You put the template on there, you drill holes through the board. You then take this screw and put the fastener on it. You line them up, and now you
Oh,
slide
you're putting
this
them on like trucks, essentially, through the top of the board. No,
It's
how-
basically it's like the head of a nail.
Yeah.
Kind of like sticking up, and the plastic kind of slides over it.
And then you
In a
tighten the screw to suck it in.
way. So it would go over the head part, of the screw.
on the bottom of the board.
So picture like a T.
You
cut-
would you
cut
would
out of the
drill
rail.
you would screw this T into the board, and then
No,
you'd
no,
slide.
you would screw the fasteners into the board,
Yeah.
and then you'd slide the rail onto it.
I
So
don't
it's
know.
one
I
of
think
the
it's more of a
products.
visual thing that we
Yeah,
can see.
I'm
It's
lost.
almost
Yeah,
like you know like the drawers, like you're in your kitchen,
Yeah.
whatever, like the little sliders, or whatever.
Yeah.
How that kind of like grips around the wheel.
Yep.
It's the same thing, kind of like that. Like, it just
And
kind
then
of
so you
slides
would-
into it.
and would it lock into place?
Well, you tighten the screws.
You tighten the
from the
screws.
top, yeah. But it's like an example of Schmitt Stix. I made lots of products that were amazing products that either your product is only good if somebody copies it. If nobody copies it, it goes away.
Yeah.
True.
Because if it wasn't good enough to copy, it wasn't a good idea.
Well, could you get like
Okay?
patents on it or something?
So-
Or
Nah, I got one patent. I'll never bother with one again. The amount of energy and work. But once you commercially release it, it's too late. The patent thing has to be all pre-planned and ahead of time and that kind of thing. So the fantasy of a patent's going to make you a millionaire is pretty rare, because even if you get a patent on a great product, now you got to make business work, finance work, manufacturing, distribution, sales.
And that doesn't guarantee you that somebody else isn't still going to rip you off.
Right.
Then you got to go lawyers, and it's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So everybody ripped off your rails.
Yeah, just became normal.
Which is a good. I mean, you.
Yeah, no. So exactly that. Schmitt Stix were rails. Everybody knew it, and it was the basis of that, right? Did other people get to market in some places? Yes. Were they being sold around the world when I was 16? Yeah.
Crazy.
Sick.
And I had them in colors, and it's like I had the path ahead of it, and so in Florida, all the guys would come stay at my house and pack rails all night. It was piece rails, a nickel a pack. So Sam
you would
and
be paying people.
Yeah, they would come stay at my house and pack rails.
16 years old, you're paying.
And drive
people
down from Gainesville and pack rails all night, skate the ramp all weekend. It was great.
That's sick.
Wow.
And then when did skateboards come into the picture?
So I always sort of made my own boards, and I would laminate them. And my first press was the heaviest thing in the house that rolls. What's the heaviest thing around your house that rolls?
Fridge?
A car.
Yeah, car. Yeah. Mom's car.
Mom's car. Oh, that was
in
that's your press.
That was
my
mom's
car.
So I developed a mold, as crude as it was, with fiberglass and wood. I worked at the boat company.
Are we talking about concave now? Or are we talking we're still
talking,
flat?
Yeah. So concave existed already.
Gotcha.
But it was very triangulated, meaning that it was deep in the front, shallow in the back. That whole spoon-nosed era happened after that, where I was going more about organic curves and flow and structure, But I worked at the boat company. I had access to these materials and knowledge. And then so I would glue stuff up, park my mom's car on it. But then when she had to go to work in the morning and the glue wasn't dry because it was cold that night, then I would lose my stuff, right? So that happened enough times where I was like, how am I going to do this? Well, the temperature doesn't change in the bedroom as much as it does in the driveway. So
you pulled the car in the bedroom.
Build a press in the bedroom. Build a press in the bedroom, and literally built a frame out of 2x6s.
Okay.
And a hydraulic car jack in there, 20-ton car jack. And you'd hear it go creak, 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 creak as you crank it up, And you was like, I guess that's enough pressure.
And you're talking about two separate things, so you're squeezing them together.
Right, so there's a mold.
Right.
And, laid up with glue in the wood and then a hydraulic car jack to squeeze it.
Because you can't use clamps. There's not enough pressure.
There's just not enough pressure, yeah.
Right. You can't put like 40 clamps around, so it's just not going to work.
Well, you couldn't, you just can't get the pressure. I mean, maybe make one, I don't know,
So you built this hydraulic press.
Well, it was a hydraulic car jack.
Okay.
I can go buy one right now down the corner for $20. Okay.
Okay.
I have an example press in my workshop, and I use it rarely, but I built it for like a Built to Shred show years ago. And I got scrap 2x6s from skate camp, and I brought them home and built it out of scrap wood. It just mimics what I did.
So
back then.
Roger can make a board press right here in his bedroom
right
if he
here,
wanted to?
Right now. It could be part of this table even.
Yeah. Just need to learn how to control the moisture content in there.
Next thing you know, he's going to be pouring magnesium in the kitchen.
Back then, I made my skateboards of epoxy glue, and moisture content, as long as the veneer wasn't too wet, wasn't as much of an issue. Nowadays, I don't use epoxy. I use polyvinyl because epoxy has its cost and its handling challenges for production.
You got to be quick with it.
You got to be quick with it. You have to basically use heat to kick it off. Mm-hmm. And if you don't heat it up and kick it off, then it's going to take forever, right? Well, can't get any production done.
Making this up as you go along, or are you looking at what other people are doing, the other skateboard manufacturers?
Well, there was no Google. Okay.
You couldn't ask Siri?
There was Yellow Pages.
You couldn't ask Siri?
Yellow Pages. Well,
oh, yeah.
Because I worked at a boat company, so I went to a vocational high school. And you'd spend half a day in traditional class, and half a day for me was wood shop. It was cabinet making class. So I was trained as a cabinet maker. And normally in high school, the last 6 months, you go work a job. Well, for me, it was the last year and a half because the teacher's like, I can't teach you anything else here. I'm going to go put you in this job building sailboats.
Go into the real world.
And years later, after I started Create Escape, when you did an interview with me, it's like, I knew it was the right job for you. You know, I trained you how to make a cabinet that's square on all corners, and now we're going to go ask you to put it in a boat. There might be 1 or 2 square corners, and I love the organic curves and the flow and the challenge of fitting that together, right?
Interesting.
You know, so to me it was really cool, but it was also like, you know, I'm, you know, making good money. I mean, you know, $5.15 an hour, that's a heavy rate back then for a young kid, you know?
Huh.
And it's like, you know, I worked myself up in the company and had the skills and ability. And then I worked in a prototype department. I would build like the plug for a mold. So I learned a lot about molds. Like if you had like in a boat, you might have like a fiberglass shower and the pedestal for the toilet and the sink. It's all one surface, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you build a wooden plug for that. You got to put draft on it, and
Fiberglass
radiuses and
it all,
angles,
right?
and then they fiberglassed it. I didn't really do that.
Oh,
part,
you didn't do that. Okay.
You know.
Oh, you were the woodworker.
Yeah, I was the one
woodworker.
that built
Yeah.
the patterns. You know, so I learned a lot about pattern making. Built molds to laminate trim that was curved that went around bulkheads and stuff like that.
Huh.
And then
So you
I've
had
been there like probably 3 years.
Oh, that's it.
And then so I'm now graduated from high school. It's now my full-time job. You know, I'm still selling rails. My friends are packing them all weekend long. You know.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How much were you selling them for back then?
Set of
I
rails.
don't remember.
No.
If you look like an old magazine, you can see what they sold, and then you can sort of figure it backwards in a sense, you know.
Huh.
Like, were you making good money off those things back then, or?
I still had a job and everything, but I lived at mom's house.
Yeah.
You know, I paid rent to mom, you know, like that kind of mode.
Yeah.
Pressing boards in his bedroom.
Just do whatever, right?
But you eventually moved to California.
Well, so
off of-
in the boat thing, basically, I was doing that, and then Fossa was going to have a contest at Ray Underhill's ramp in Tennessee. And Ray rode for Schmitt Stix, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to the contest. And I said, hey, I'm going to give him a month notice. I want to have a long weekend coming up. Like, you can have time off. It's our busy season. And I'm like, I guess this is your 30-day notice.
30 days.
Yeah.
Give him 2 weeks.
Well, the reality is the contest got canceled.
Oh,
I didn't
it
go to
did?
Tennessee anyways, but I still kept the commitment to leave. So now I had time. You know, I obviously was strong enough to do that, right? You know, and I could still go collect cans in the morning. You
Wait
know?
a minute. Are you talking about?
No, I would literally,
Right.
I built my business on aluminum cans.
It's incredible.
That's funny.
If you were at the bar at 5:30 in the morning, not 6, because 6 the bums are awake. At 5:30 in the morning in Tampa, you could cash out. You would literally leave the bar, go pedal up the street to Reynolds Aluminum. They opened up at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And
Dump your haul.
dump your haul, get your cash. You know, then go to the screen print shop. I worked at a screen printing shop printing T-shirts before I built boats.
Oh my God.
So I learned about screen printing and that whole process.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You said that the thing in Tennessee got canceled, but
Yeah.
somebody, you said who was going to skate there? They skated for Schmitt Stix?
Well, Ray
Underhill
Underhill rode for Schmitt Stix back
That's his
then.
ramp.
And
was his ramp.
we're still talking about Schmitt Stix rails.
Yeah.
No boards yet.
Ray rode for the boards at the early side of it.
But the boards weren't
So-
even, did the boards coming into play yet?
So boards are coming in play now. I bought some blanks from Madrid in California, and I cut them out and painted them in Florida.
Oh, we're talking about the
Right.
blank
And I didn't like
square.
the concave of it. Okay. Then I had Taylor and Dykeman make me 50 boards, finished, painted, done, and I didn't like them, and that's part of just leaving the boat company, going like, I'm going to solve this problem. It's, you know, it's
What
clear
didn't
that
you like about them?
they were very just inorganic. You know, they were just sharp lines in the concave. They were triangular. Tails were flat. Noses weren't upturned. So the first boards that I made already had an upturned nose. Now it was tiny,
Right.
but it was that direction. It already had a flip on the end of the tail. It already had dog ears in the corner of the tail.
Was it Madrid and the other companies kicked up in the front?
No, they weren't doing any of
Not
that.
yet.
They weren't doing any of that.
So you got these shapes. Did you have a vision of what you wanted in the future?
Well, it's what I wanted, but you got to realize that you're so conditioned by your environment,
Right.
right? So realize that, like, I always skateboarded. I've always enjoyed it, but I've never been a really good skateboarder. I've just been a guy having fun, right? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's really hard when you see people like McGill and Gilfin and Rodney that live in your region. Pretty clear that you're not good. They are, right? You know, and luckily when they throw you a bone and say, "Hey,"
Right.
I'm like, sure, I can make that happen. You know, so it's like, the first half of the '80s was a lot of that for me. You know, it's like I used to build ramps. So skate parks closed, and now it became very like, very closed off. You know, but Californians would come out once a year to go to the Kona Nationals at Kona Skate Park. and that was super cool. So there was that interaction happening every year, you know.
Interesting.
And then in summer of '83, they all came with us to Tampa, or to St. Pete. We had a ramp at John Grigley's house, and we had a pro contest on a Wednesday. And this guy, Mr. Hawk, got the $50 first prize.
Is there any relation to Tony Hawk?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But it literally, like, you know, make it happen, right? You know. And then later that year, for New Year's, everybody came back, and Fausto helped me run a contest, because Fausto had been doing these backyard ramp contests in places. So then his credibility to get everybody, like, everybody came from Kona, but that's because someone already flew them to Florida.
Yeah.
Like, they were already in Florida, right? You know, and the McGill lived down our way anyways, so it's like,
You just piggyback off that contest,
right.
pretty much.
We just piggyback, you know. But then we had a New Year's jam, and literally everybody on that coast of the U.S., you know, came to it, you know. And we communicate through zines, you know. We had a zine called Just for Fun.
So the Tampa thing, you're making boards now,
Right. So then by that contest, in between the sort of the summer one and the big one, Monty quit GNS to ride for Schmitt Stix. So now I have 3 models out, and Monty gets second place in the contest and is on the cover of Thrasher with his new model, you know. And it was like, you know, people were taking my boards and cutting them down, cutting them out, because the molds were so much better.
Are you producing these guys' boards by yourself? I mean, it seems like you have a little operation. How are you supplying?
There's a little operation, for
How
sure.
are you supplying?
It was in the bedroom. And
Still?
It was they're pressed in the bedroom, and then it moved out to the backyard.
Okay.
And then it moved down the street. So Chuck Holtz was my first employee that wasn't a family member or a contract rail packer. Right?
5 cents a
piece
pack.
rate, yeah. And he lived there with me. He moved from Daytona.
Okay.
And there was a trundle bed, and he would sleep in the trundle bed that would pull out from underneath my bed, and the press was at the foot of the bed. And then I would have to get up at 3 a.m. to press boards, because the epoxy had like a 6-hour cure cycle, and it meant you got a couple more boards each day. If you know, he wasn't having that, you know. He was just getting back from the nightclub or something. You know?
And then how are you selling these
So
boards?
then-
How are you going about, like,
I mean, I was already selling rails, right?
just local?
So I was
or
selling
more?
rails. No, I was selling rails around the world 3 years prior.
How are you doing this? I mean, when you're selling rails around the world and you're 16, 17,
Yeah.
are you talking to all these shops? Or are you talking to distributors?
Distributors primarily.
Okay.
It was shops sometimes too.
So you already had relationships with these distributors. So you're like, hey, I'm making boards now. Here's.
I already had relationships, and I was known for progressive products.
Right.
So it's like I was just making progressive products. You know, so it's like it wasn't really, Schmitt Stix was that. You know, like if you go visit the Skate Lab or Jack's Morrow Bay Museum or stuff, it's hard to go find Schmitt Stix in those places. Not because it wasn't a big brand in the 80s, but because the core skaters just skated them to death, right? Because they were so much better than everything else. You know, so the mold that I made in 83, I was sort of using that mold probably into 86, 87. And so I had a little industrial unit down the street. So Chuck worked full time doing that, cutting boards out, pressing them. I would pretty much just paint and print. And Chuck Holtz would design the shapes. You know, I never really designed the shapes for Schmitt Stix. As much as people see me doing that now, I didn't do it in the Schmitt Stix days.
You would just make the mold.
I would make the process.
You would make the process.
The process. How do you pull this off? Here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. How you do that. You realize I was working in a boat factory where the boats were 25 feet to 40 feet long, right?
Now and
a couple of them will roll out the building every day,
right?
You know, and you know, so assembly line style, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I had that experience of understanding what that was, and had my vision of what that needed to be, and then other people like Bruce Whiteside would work for me, or Michael Daly, other skaters in the region.
Did you know that at the time, did you know your boards were superior?
Oh yeah, they were badass. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Okay.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Were you still using the car jack at this time?
Yeah, we're still car jack. I never had a hydraulic press till I moved to California.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. So you press, how many boards could you press each time?
So originally it was a wooden frame, and then I went back to school and I bought some used I-beam. I was no longer a student, and I got the metalworking class to make a project out of welding me a press. So they built me a press that held 2 molds in it.
You didn't have to
and
pay
had
for
2
it.
jars. I still had to pay something,
the
but
materials
but
and-
low cost, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
obtainable.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, that's the challenge, right? Because there wasn't a bunch of money. You know?
Right.
So you could press 2 at each time, or
2 in each mold at a time, but the press had 2 molds, and then sometimes there were inserts, and you could get 8. And then that room, when I had two units next to each other, had a heater in it to warm it up to, keep the epoxy kicking and moving in the cycle.
Did you have a fan, or would you get high off the epoxy?
Maybe a little.
I could just picture a room with just epoxy.
I would say the screen printing's more that
Okay.
than the epoxy.
So. And
right?
you're screen printing the boards,
So I
right?
screen printed all the boards, yeah.
Who was making the shapes?
Chuck was making the shapes of this stuff.
Okay.
He was good at that, and I was like, cool, take care of it. I got enough to do.
wow.
How many nowadays? How many are in a mold?
Depends on the design. Could be 3, 4, 5.
How many molds do you have working
We
at once?
have 80 press cavities.
80 press cavities, and you're talking 2 to 3 boards in those
3 to 5 boards. in
3
each
to
press.
5
Yeah.
times 80.
Right. If you even ran all 80, you can't fill them in an hour. So the board's only in the press for an hour. And in that hour, the water evaporates into the air and into the wood, and the glue gets held. Now it has to sit and cure for a week and stabilize because it has to get all that moisture out of it. You know, it
It's
has
a
to
big operation.
sweat. Oh, yeah.
And how do you combat warping?
It's process control.
Yeah.
But you can't process control that skate shop in Calgary or
Well,
Denver
sure,
that's
sure.
a mile high.
Yeah.
Right.
And they put the board right there underneath the heater vent with the sun blowing on it. I mean, just think of the hot trunk. Anything that puts air or heat movement past your board has a chance to create warpage.
Right.
It's like having a kitchen door where it's like your door's perfect and then it starts to get stuck, right? And then 3 months later, it's good again.
Yeah.
Because the humidity went up in the air and the wood went... and
Happens with metal also.
Right?
Metal too.
Well, metal expands and contracts with temperature, but not
Yeah.
nearly as much as wood.
Not nearly as much.
But that's part of that liveliness, nanotube,
Nanotubes.
radness. Right?
Are the nanotubes getting bigger?
Yeah, a little bit, not much.
I have to look
I mean,
into this
very,
nanotube
very little.
stuff.
So then from Florida, it came to the point where, like, summer of '84, Chuck Holtz, Monty Nolder, Steve Hilton, and I drove to California. And I came out here like in 80 and 82. So guys would come to Conus like in 82. I stayed with like Lance and Spidey and Nash.
Oh.
And hung around the Whittier skate park when it was closing.
Oh wow, sick.
And then we came out summer of '84, and then it was like, you know, now it's like I'm full in the board business, right?
And didn't you move to California like a year later?
So then beginning of '85, I moved to California. At the end of '85 or '84, Brad Dorfman and I had been talking, and he'd already been selling my rails for 5 years, right?
Okay.
So we had a business relationship. We traded money. And
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Well, it's an important thing of business.
Yeah.
And then when I told Pasta what I was going to do, he was like, fuck that. Why don't you come here? You know? And it's like, oh, geez, he just bought that wheel company factory and he knows how to make trucks. That might be pretty rad, right? And then I thought about it and we went over some economics and he was like, well, what do you owe this? And I sort of laid it all out. And he's like, well, fuck him, you know, the attitude, right? And then I thought about it, you know, I've been taking pictures for his magazine, writing articles, going to events for 4 years, and I've never gotten a buck out of the guy.
Right.
I don't know if I wanted to do business that way, you know?
Huh.
And so I didn't move to the Bay Area. I moved to Costa Mesa
With Vision.
with Vision, yeah.
So did Vision kind of recruit you, or how did that even?
I'd been doing business with him already for 5 years.
And they're like, "Hey, come out here."
He's already been selling Schmitt Stix boards. Well, it was clear that the demand, I could not make enough product the way I was doing it with the resources I had.
in the
Yeah.
bedroom.
In the little industrial unit.
Okay, right.
You know, 1,000 square foot of space or whatever it was.
It's nothing
You know.
for boards, right?
So I joined up with Vision. I moved out here, no real contracts, no real like agreement, just, you know, excited, put everything in the U-Haul, going, doing, you know, and so Chuck Hulse, John Grigley, and I all moved out here together at the same time.
So you're not only making boards for Vision, you're making boards for Schmitt Stix as well.
So the first 7 months, I sort of had like 1,000 square foot unit right by Vision, just a mimic of what I'd done in Florida, an exact mimic of it.
Okay.
And business is getting stronger. It's clearly skateboarding is getting hot, right?
Yeah.
So 84 that was feeling that, you know, it's getting hot. And then one day Brad walks me into this building down the street and goes, "Here's your new shop." And it's like a 14,000 square foot building.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, like I'm 21. Like, how am I going to pull this off?
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, and he had the resources, you know, and so we went to some auctions, bought some equipment, you know, got a real glue spreader, learned about polyvinyl glues, didn't like them, but that's because they weren't catalyzed well at that time. And back then, it was like if you left your skateboard outside in the front yard overnight, the sprinkler went off, it would be delaminated.
Yeah.
Right. It's all coming apart. Right.
So in California, I couldn't even find epoxy that I liked compared to Florida for some reason. Regional, I don't know.
Interesting.
And polyvinyl was the way everybody did it, but I didn't like their polyvinyl. And Brad bought a lot of stuff from Taylor and Dykema, and I got to go down there and see that factory and like, oh, okay, you know. And they came through my little wood shop and they said, oh, well, that's all cute and cool. You can't really do that in production, you know. Like they refused to make round rails, you know. They weren't going to make the concave any better. Like you can't really do that in production. That's child's play, you know.
Okay. Huh.
And you know, if anything, they just sealed the deal that because I was
you
making
more.
it and riding it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and my friends were riding it, and then within the Vision family, there was all the Vision riders and all the Sims riders, right? So it's like Gons was always around. You had Gons' influence, right? You had your collection of your environment, right? Whoever you have access to, you know, and you don't even know what you pick up from people. It's like this osmosis just happening. You know what I mean? It's like you just absorb things.
Totally.
Right?
When you were making the boards back home in Florida, like compared to when you moved to the new place, how many boards were you selling a month, you think?
100 a week,
100 a week.
maybe.
Pretty good.
That's a lot of work though, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
You're hustling.
And so when you move into a new place, what does that go to, you think?
14,000
Well,
square feet.
it took a lot of time to figure out how to scale it up. Well, the screen print shop had to go there too. So when I joined up with Vision, he was like in a 6,000 square feet of shop for warehouse and marketing and T-shirt printing and everything, right? And I was like employee number 30, you know.
Okay.
And when I walked away from it, we'll talk about that one later. But
Sure.
it was then 250,000 square feet of facilities and 1,000 employees, and I wasn't allowed through the front door and like that type of deal.
Wow.
But anyways, you know, he gave me the ability to make this shop and, you know, gave me people to help support doing things. You know, like I didn't have to deal with learning about Southern California Edison and what it took to get the right power and amperage.
Somebody was there to do that.
All I had to do was about the machine, and someone made sure the power came into the building, around the building, to the machine.
Yeah. So he gave you full control.
Yeah, he gave me control to do what I needed to do.
Get the equipment you needed.
And he already screen printed boards and had a good job of that. So it's like it was that scaled up with it at the same time.
So he's already making boards, Vision boards.
Right. Taylor
Now,
Deckman's making them. He's screen printing them.
And his idea was to just have you do it.
Well, eventually, but
Right.
it took the time for the wood shop to ramp up.
How long did that take, you think?
Well, because skateboarding is growing at the same time, it's like, I don't know. And then the reality is I only had that job for 2 years.
Oh, just 2 years.
And then I quit the job because he wouldn't be serious about Schmitt Stix. Schmitt Stix goes from being nothing now to the brand is huge because of the economics of manufacturing, because of my product designs, because pretty much most of the Vision and Sims riders rode Schmitt Stix boards with Vision and Sims graphics, right?
Oh,
and their
wow.
shapes, you know, because it was like I was the
Superior
progressive one.
product.
Right, you know, and that was the case all the way through, you know. The 80s was my stuff was what was being mimicked, right? You know, but by the time we get to 87, 88, and it's the S4 concave, and now the nose is as steep as the tail. Still not as long as the tail.
Right.
Still 5 inches. The mold was big enough to do it. Just we weren't thinking that way. You know, and if anything, for me, I just wanted to do a fakie hang up on a vert ramp without hanging up and grabbing the tail.
Sure.
You know, not even knowing what the foundation was going to be laid for skateboard going forward by having a nose like that. You know, like I can remember meeting Chris Miller at Upland one day. It was like probably the last year of Upland, And, we've been talking about him stuff, and I brought him a prototype board. And he looked at it, and he's like, this is weird. And then he wrote it. He's like, oh, my gosh. And the reality is that Watson made the GNS boards, and this is now 87, and they're still making the same press that they were making in 79, right, and 80. So it's like there was no progression at all.
These companies are just pumping out boards to meet the demand.
Well, the manufacturers aren't skaters, right? And even General now, the people that actually manufacture skateboards, they're not skaters.
Yeah.
Other than little DIY things, and there's little pockets of that happening. But in general, they're factories and it's business people doing business, and they're not trying to progress it. That's a pain in the ass. You know? They're just trying to follow.
Sure.
They have no desire to progress, right?
So, where are we now?
So I'm in California.
Yeah, California.
I got here,
But you said you only worked for them for 2 years.
Well, I worked in-house for 2 years, running the wood shop, like 40 hours a week,
Okay.
And then they hired, an administrator to do administrative stuff. And then I was mad, like, why does he get paid 3 times what I get paid? And then they gave me a little better pay, but still it was like, but then on Schmitt Stix, he was like, oh, I'm just going to treat you like a pro skater. And I'm like, well, I never sold you the trademark. I didn't, and I kept the rail business to myself at that time. So I've still got these relationships, and I'm doing that. And then basically we ended up with a nice thick contract, spent $100,000 with lawyers and worked it all out. Right. And then, I no longer had that wood shop. I wasn't allowed in the front door. I'm not an employee anymore.
So you literally, because I remember Andy Howell was on the show, and he was saying that when New Deal started, you had already had like a secret wood shop going.
Yeah,
you'd already had like a side.
So when I quit the job,
yeah,
I started PS Stix and used that as my development arm to build my manufacturing stuff. And I had to have a business entity.
They owned your name.
It was a license.
Right.
Okay. And so it was a license. But the issue is, the problem with the license was that when you can't make enough skateboards anyways, and you got Gons and Gator, who are you going to make your board for? The one you got to pay a license fee to, or the one that you don't pay a license fee to?
Sure.
Thanks to the guy who built you the factory that made this possible. Yeah. So if you look at back in the mid 80s, all the skateboards that Vision and Sims made that had square edges, Taylor and Dykema made those. Huh. And I refused to make square edges. So all the boards that I made had round edges.
Yeah, you rounded the edges.
And it wasn't until probably 89, I think, Taylor and Dykema. Yeah, basically Jeff Phillips quit Sims. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll ride for Life's a Beach if you make this. And they
gave him your
knocked
board.
off my mold, knocked off the process, the round edges. And then, now it was happening, and they did it really quick. And the reality is that people didn't manufacture stuff. So like back in the 80s, NHS and Powell screened their own stuff. That was very common. Most skateboard brands actually printed
manufactured the boards.
Now NHS and Powell both would cut out their skateboards.
Yeah.
But they didn't press them. They were pressed back in the Powell's were pressed by a bow and arrow company called Dart and Archery in Michigan.
Oh.
And then the NHS boards were pressed in Wisconsin by Warble Products. They made window arches for like Anderson windows and stuff. I call them Warple products.
Warple.
What? Because when you hot press the skateboard, it comes out of the mold.
Yeah. A little warpled.
Yeah, it gets a little warpled. So they couldn't react because the tooling to make a mold high frequency for that kind of manufacturing process was very expensive. It took time, and it's in someone else's factory that doesn't have a desire to change. Yeah. It's that manufacturing person thing. Like, they don't want to change it.
They want to spit it out and get the money.
Exactly, that kind of viewpoint, But pretty much, by 89, if you're not doing what I'm doing, you're not selling a skateboard anymore. Or let's say end of 89. By 90, absolutely. By 90, if you weren't doing what I had been doing for a couple of years, you couldn't even sell a skateboard.
In 1990, this is when the New Deal came into the picture, right?
Yeah, 1990.
1990. So
but even in the Schmitt Stix era, there's still a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
What do you mean? Like what?
Well, just stuff, skateboarding, right? Like I used to, build ramps. I built lots of ramps in Florida, so I got everybody to know I was a ramp builder.
Right.
So came to California, and like Transworld flew me to Canada to build a ramp for a contest, and I would go to contests and fix ramps so we could have the contest, because ramp building wasn't very good then.
Yeah.
You're a busy dude.
And in Florida, a friend of mine, Tim Payne Skate Parks.
Yep.
So he helped me build a couple ramps. And when I got out to California, and people were like, oh, that's ramp building. And I would set up gigs, and he would go build them. And sometimes I would get there. I went to Alabama, and I'm supposed to help finish the ramp, and it's done. And it's like he worked
Tim Payne
through the night, 18 hours straight, and got the ramp built, right?
And you're like, what am I doing here?
Well, Tim was a house builder. So Tim was 2 or 3 years older than me. So he was trained to frame houses, right? I was trained to make cabinets. Okay. So me building a ramp, I was trying to make it like a cabinet. Right? I got a really good result. People would come all the way from California, come all over the East Coast to ride the ramps I built. I got a great result.
Sure.
But Tim had the bang it out thing. And then when I moved to California, I remember there was some kind of like demo at a water park in Atlanta, and they flew me out, and like it was McGill, I don't know if it was Cab or Tony, I don't remember, Lance, Monty, and so I'd always get Monty tied into the demos. He was always a great showman, and built a ramp on the edge of a wave pool, and Tim was in town because his dad lived there, and he came and helped do me to that one, and then basically I would just set up the jobs, and then pretty soon I'm like, they don't need me to set it up. They know Tim now. It was like when he built the chin ramp and he comes to my factory, I'm like, Tim, I heard about this. I couldn't tell. I'm sorry. Like he felt so
He couldn't
bad.
talk about it.
He couldn't talk about it, And then the worst thing to me was I look at his board and it's like, what are those wheels? Oh, these are new crossbones. And I'm like, I designed a wheel like that last year, and the manufacturer wouldn't make it. And it was Rogers Urethane, which was who made PAL wheels.
Whoa.
So he wouldn't make it because he was already making it for PAL, or maybe
in development, maybe.
Right. We're like the Vision Blur, I designed that wheel. But I was trying to get the lip thinner, and he did that style with the lip
Where do you
thinner.
find any time to develop wheels and rails and boards and presses
The
and
willingness
making
to try.
ramps.
How to make
ramps,
things happen.
cabinets? My goodness.
I used to build like pad printing wheels, and like figuring out how to pad print wheels and how
What
to
is
build
that?
silicone. It's the way the graphic goes on a wheel.
Oh, they would stamp it on.
It's like a little boob.
Right?
It's like a boob, yeah.
Yeah, but you got to make the boob to get it right.
How are you
So I
making
used to
that?
make boobs. Well, it's just silicone.
Makes sense.
Yeah, silicone, mix it up. Okay. So I figured out how to print a Vision Blur by going to the thrift store and buying a bunch of glass vases that look like the right size, pouring in silicone in all of them. Like, oh, this one works pretty good. And I go to the wheel company and go, hey, can you build a master for this in a mold? And they're like, okay, we got it. Like I just figure it out. The tenacity to figure something out, right?
You do so much. I mean, it's crazy.
I've done
I'm blown away.
Or a thing or two, yeah.
No, I'm blown away. It's
But it
insane.
used to take so much to get things done,
That's
right?
right.
A true professor.
True.
There he is.
Yeah. So also in that era in the 80s, I used to help run the NSA and run contests.
Okay.
So it's like I knew all the big five, right? Like the reality is I would be in an NSA meeting with the big five, which was Vision, PAL, NHS, Fosto,
Right.
and Tracker, right? And all the brands tied in there. We'd be in a meeting and they're like, hey, Paul, you got to go. And then after the meeting, all the big five, not Dorfman, but the rest of them go, hey, sorry, you had to leave the meeting, Paul. We're totally cool if you'd be in here, but Brad didn't want it because I was his employee, right? And or my licensor. When I wasn't his employee anymore, he didn't have that. But now when the contract was done, now he had that, right? So now, he still had this control in our relationship, and I'm there part of those meetings because I was the only one that was going to go ride the ramp with their riders. I was the only one that had a generational tie to it. I never skated with any of those guys. I'm not saying they didn't kick down the street in the 60s or 70s.
Do you still talk to them? Are you in touch with them?
At times, whoever,
Okay. It's just weird.
Without
It's
the
just
trade shows, you don't have the same visibility to see people anymore.
That's true. Right.
It's really interesting. You used to be able to see, I'll see him and see him every 6 months type thing.
Go to
It's
ASR and
now you don't.
Yeah, you on their Instagram.
Yeah. So now
Yeah, you
through
ever DM
Instagram
him?
or stop by, but then, you're busy, they're busy, whatever,
It seems like there was some, bad blood there, maybe.
Yeah, well, he gave me a lot of opportunity. So realize that
Right.
but I gave him a lot of opportunity. But the problem he had was he's got this big machine. Business is hard.
That's true.
Business is hard. Once you're established and you got to pay for the forklift and the employees and all this stuff, right?
Right.
It's not easy, So it's like he grew to this huge, gigantic thing. The shipping skateboards faster than the other brands meant that he got market share there, right?
Uh-huh.
And then when they caught up with that, he just went into Vision clothes, he went into Vision shoes, went into Sims snowboards, and he was like the first market leader in those three categories, right? So boards, a four-wheeler, right? Okay, so boards, clothes, shoes, snowboards.
Yeah.
There wasn't a new category after that. And now he had to compete. And then the business went down on top of that, and then he was dealing with the trouble of, dealing with that, right? It's not easy. And I've been through those cycles, and they're no fun. The tenacity to survive, So if anything with Dorfman, I applaud him. He's still there. He's still around.
there,
He's still
right.
in business.
At the time, I could imagine, though, you would be like, oh, what is this guy, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was like basically the reality is, someone that's a different generation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I remember when I met him, and I was like, oh, he's old. And it's like, he was in his early 30s when I met him, and I was 16, right? Like, I'm only 56 now. I'm not even old yet.
What'd you get a patent on?
Airframe construction, element marketed as helium.
All right. Yep.
What's that?
It's construction where the board's thicker than a regular board, hollow in the middle, has air cavities that dissipate energy. Boards don't lose pop.
Do you remember
How the hell you think of that?
do you remember the helium boards?
I don't remember the helium boards.
Oh, I do, actually.
It sounds familiar.
So they were 6-ply, and 2 of the plies had a groove in them. And then, by the way, moisture and expansion and contraction happens, a thin layer of wood would warp in that first half hour once the glue got put in the press, and then get stuck in a warped situation, which is a pre-tensioned situation.
You're purposely warping it.
Put it in tension.
Okay.
And then when energy comes, imagine that every time you land a trick, it's like this energy.
It's like a spring.
But this energy is radiating through the board. Imagine you throw a rock in water, right? And the waves are going to move away from it. And the things that are going to change it might be branches in the water, twigs, wind, things happen, right? Mm-hmm. So when you land a trick and you do that, and that energy radiates through your board, even when you land trucks, you know what you broke?
The Nano Tubes.
A couple Nano Tubes.
Every trick landed, some Nano Tubes.
Every trick landed, some Nano Tubes probably got compromised.
And that's why the boards start getting a little
And
soft.
that's why they start to get a little soft. Oh. But the problem is, if you make a board so rigid, then it's like the energy transfer isn't right. The resonance isn't right. You know, it's like that whole thing, you tap a board on the ground and there's something that tells you it's right.
It's
and
good.
There's a point where it's not, right? Yeah. And that's just the tubes. You broke enough tubes.
Wait, so what about the helium, though?
That's marketing.
Was a patent worth it?
There is like a 0.2024% helium in the air that we're breathing right now.
Was just marketing, yeah.
Was the patent worth it? Because you said you never again. You would
never.
Right. You would.
The energy and do it, and then the problem is I made this construction. Mm-hmm. I tested it. I developed it. Had samples out to retailers around the country, and then I went to all my customers and said, I got a new construction here. It's all developed out. And they're like, no, thank you. Not interested. It's not 7-ply. It's not whatever. Our skaters don't want anything different.
It's not what they're used to.
6 months later, Element says, hey, you still got the helium thing. If we could do it under our trade name, not Airframe, our trade name Helium, not your trade name Airframe.
Right.
Because they'd be like, don't tell us what to do, you know. And that was across the brands as a whole that I worked with, right? Very prestigious brands.
Yeah.
And it's the don't tell us what to do thing, right? You know? And that sort of canned it. And then because Element did it, nobody else wanted to do it because Element did it.
Right.
You know, and that's the whole thing. And no other company was ever going to manufacture it because it was patent locked. But also, why would we spend $2 more making a board
Right.
and selling it for $4 more? Now, a bunch of people initially, well, you can't sell boards for any more money. And I'm like, you know, whether it was helium or whether it was like Fiberlight or pop drops for Pop War. And I'm like, you know, I'd be talking to someone, I'm like, you know, I've only built 250,000 of those in the last 3 years. And they look at me like, oh no, you can't sell 250,000 boards. I built 250,000 of them in the last 3 years. They wouldn't believe me. Oh yeah, right.
All with car jacks.
And did that?
kidding.
Yeah. Right. And
No longer car jacks.
Yeah.
so that died out. The helium.
Yeah,
stuff.
so the patent's still there. And I've done a little bit of stuff in the recent years, and you know, possibly now with New Deal, I'll do something with it. I think the New Deal project. I'm going to try to use it as a development lab, because in a sense, I mean, a product doesn't mean anything if somebody doesn't market it.
Sure.
Convincing them how to market it and what to do is a big problem.
Yeah.
But if anybody says to me, "Hey, we got an idea for a marketing program, and here's what it is," I go, "Okay, I'll make you a board match that."
Right.
And they'll be like, and then they're like, "Whoa, it works!" You know, like go back in the heyday of Giant in the late '90s, early 2000s, and man, the black label boards are tough. I'm like, yeah, they're tougher than element boards. Well, same factory. Well, the cross pans are closer together, and there's more longitudinal fiber on the outside, but you're more likely to get stress cracks. A black label skater ain't fucking caring about stress cracks. But an element kid, a little flippy tech kid, he's worried about stress
Little
cracks,
stress
right?
cracks, right.
Now, the black label board was 10,000 thicker. I mean, that is like 3 human hairs. But that's a lot when it comes to the structure of a board.
Yeah.
Especially when you orientate it in the right place.
Right.
So I've always built product where people like, they buy this product over and over because it works. And they don't necessarily know why. You know, I know why.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. It
you
seems
know, I can make anything that I've made in the past,
right.
you know, over and over again.
Seems to me that the development nowadays is in the graphics. Everybody's
Right.
doing the embossed and the raised and the different veneer cuts and
Fades, yeah.
it's
Splices, yeah. It's
deal with
aesthetic.
the hologram. Everybody's doing the graphics. They need something new, and
Right.
that's a development. I feel like.
Yeah, and some things like, you know, that's actually not a hologram, it's a lenticular image. And that lenticular image was quite a lot of work to develop the manufacturing process to make that work of a board.
Right.
Make it stick and work and all of that, right? So everything becomes a process, right? Like the emboss look. That was something we did for Dill originally, truly embossed. Nowadays it's graphic emboss. People don't
Just
do real
layers of ink.
emboss.
Yeah.
It's just layers of
So
ink.
people are coming to you being like, "Hey, I have this idea for this graphic," and now you're facilitating how that's
Well,
put on the board.
Right. The challenge is, can you put together a process to get that to work with your vendor pool or with your own internal development
and still
right?
function.
And still function. Yeah. Easy
When
said.
some people come up to it and you're just like, "Oh God, not again!" Like,
No, see,
well, we'll try that.
I-
I'll figure
I like
it
a
out.
challenge.
You do? Well, yeah, of
Okay.
course, right?
So it's like I like a challenge. You know, it's like sometimes people are in my shop and like, "Do you get bored doing this?" I'm like, every board's like a puzzle. Okay, I'm taking this feedback, this interaction. You know, if they're in the parking lot doing some manuals and some ollies like I asked them to, and then they bust out 5 bangers, and then their heel flip's not working, and I look at it and go, "You just need the board to spin a little bit more," and I'll go change the tail length, and they're like, "Yeah, that's what I want." It's like they just got to watch it, you know.
So you're watching
Wow.
them skate the boards, and you're figuring out in your head, "Oh, I got to change that."
It's math. But the challenge is, whatever you change, I made it better here. You might take away something over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the hardest balance, right? Like you go like, "Oh, big wheels are great for cracks and rough surfaces," right? But, well, my ollie hits too late now.
right.
Okay, so I don't like
My
that
board's
part.
heavy now.
Now I could make the mold and the drilling and everything work to counteract that.
Right.
If someone gives me the opportunity to have that interaction, right?
So with the graphic stuff, you're trying to facilitate what the people want in their graphic board, you know, with the veneers or whatever it may be, embossing but still keeping it in that price point.
Right.
You're still trying to match that.
Right.
So it's a challenge.
Oh, it's very much of a challenge. I mean, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
The reality is, like, I'm in a tread water business. I've been treading water for years. I'm in business, and I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
But, 1,000 boards a day has to go through the door to tread water.
Well, I heard that in 2005 you sold 10 million boards.
Yeah, past
total.
10 million,
10
somewhere
million,
around
so
then.
Wow.
10 million.
Built over 15 million now in my career. and I didn't build it myself, by the way. I built the factory, I built the tools,
Sure.
the systems,
But
the
they're leaving your
processes, the
facility.
molds. Yeah.
They're leaving your facility.
Yeah.
15 million
Yeah.
skateboards.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And your facilities, where, down in Mexico?
The factory's in Tijuana, yeah. It's been down there for 12 years.
12 years.
You must go down there a bunch then, I'm assuming.
Once a week, usually.
Once a week.
I'll go execute stuff. Like, I'll have someone in the shop make a template, and it's like, they're like, I'm going on a trip. Okay, well, I'll go make a couple, bring them back, drive them to them or whatever, or get them to them before they go to the event. Unfortunately, production has to cross the border normal. A lot of paperwork and a lot of compliance crossing things across the border.
Customs.
Just customs as a skater, going through an airport with a bag full of stuff.
Right.
So that's literally happens every week, only it's a whole truckload. The list is really big.
Right.
And there's a lot of compliance.
Huh.
People want to think, oh, it's Mexico. It's like it's low key. There's a lot of compliance to do
A lot of
business down there.
paperwork.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Damn.
15 million skateboards. It's a lot.
Over, yeah, somewhere.
It's
I haven't
incredible.
added back up lately.
How many of them were band boards?
There were a lot of band boards in that heyday. And that heyday, there were a lot. If I was at my computer right now, I could type in BAM. And since I've got pretty much everything in the computer accurate, like 2002 on. So his heyday, I could go like, yeah. And I can go any skateboard that I made since 2000 and half a 2 or into 3 that has a laser number on it, and I can look up that number and I can make that same board again. No problem.
How many shapes do you think you've done
Well,
since 2002?
I made 2 today with Mike V.
You have a scan for it?
A number, yeah.
You have a number. You can
Yeah.
scan it and make that
I
board.
didn't scan it, but yeah, it's
Oh.
physical. It's a hard physical template.
So you have a storage of
Storage of them.
templates.
Yeah.
You must have like thousands of templates.
1,661, I think, was the number today.
Oh, wow.
So when
2661, but 1,600 templates, yeah.
when Girl came out with their boards, like the reissues, like
Yep.
the Javante and the Mike Carroll board, those were ones from back in the day still?
Right, so those are made in the same mold they were made in back then.
Wow.
So you pulled that mold.
Yep. Still use it for a couple people, like Chris Miller still rides that mold, Danny Way still rides that mold.
It's a 7.5.
You can make an 8.5
No,
in it.
it's just the mold
Right.
of the wood.
So the mold, it's a plywood
It's
shape.
a square.
Right.
And then you're
Right.
cutting out the shape.
Right. So it's the shape
Right.
interfaced with the surface of the mold.
Okay. But what about the shape though? You know
So
how to.
everything since I started serial numbers, I've had the same manufacturing systems since. At that time, when I took on serial numbers, I changed the way I shaped boards, and I'm still on the same system.
So run me through it. Like if Girl says, "Hey, we want to make this Mike Carroll board. This is the shape. PS Stix." How do you know? How do you route the shape? How do you do the shape?
Well,
how do you know what
the shape in this case is like? Hey, just give us the ones you used for the mid '90s movie, because I made boards for the mid '90s movie.
Oh, right.
Era accurate in the right mold, the right thing. It's like, well, just give us that board.
Yeah, if you have the right mold and you have the right, basically what's that big block of wood that you use to basically cut the shape?
Well, the shape is a template, right? So the
Yeah.
template cuts the shape,
Yeah.
right? So once I have it, so in my factory, the way we do it is we'll take the stack of boards, we'll drill through all of them at once, put them on that template. A big clamp comes down from the top. 2 cutters come in and it rotates around. The big cutter is going slower and just eats it all away. And then there's a little cutter that's going faster that just gets the finished cut.
And it follows the
Just
mold underneath
turns
the
it away.
floor.
The dust collector sucks the dust up, goes in a bin, and the forklift driver empties the bin a couple times a day.
Who's smoothing it out?
Well, that's
You
the
smoothing
shape,
it
right?
out by hand?
Well, yeah. So now it's shaped.
Yeah.
Then it gets edge routed. So we round the edges
Round
of a
the
router,
edges,
and it's
okay.
very not perfect yet. And then it's edge sanding, and you have a balloon sander, and the sander's like a balloon. It's got an inner tube in it, right? And you sand it against it, and it's about not sanding too much,
Right.
but sanding enough
That's
getting
by
a nice
hand.
round rail. Yeah,
That's
all
by
by
hand.
hand.
So the laser numbers you had, that's like something you can go in and hit it, or like you put in the number for the laser and then
So it's process control because it's really the laser is used in my factory, so they don't mix things up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, if you made a batch of 50, 20 different shapes today, and you mess up that batch, you can't mess up the batch. It's all about the number. The rack has a number. The board has a number.
And this is computers.
moving-
It's all done by computers.
Well, the management is done by computer.
Okay.
The paperwork.
Right.
Right. Just paperwork. But basically, yeah, people have paperwork. They walk
Yeah.
around with an iPad and they go, okay, this was now cut. It moves from stage 3 to 4. Oh, it's out of sanding and moved to stage 5. Oh, it's done with painting. It's 6. Oh, it's 7. Okay, it's done with heat transfer. Oh, 8. It's packed and ready to ship.
This
Oh,
customer
9,
wants 500
it's out
of
the
them.
door. Right.
Huh.
So there's a system for it.
How long does it take from the press to out the door?
Well, you press it and then it needs to cure for at least a week.
At least a week.
How big's your curing facility? You can have like
Got plenty of space. Yeah, plenty of space.
It's an intensive process. It feels
Yeah.
like it's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a lot.
That one board that dude's skating took a week to make.
Yeah,
Essentially, with
basically,
curing
yeah, pretty much
included.
from cut through packaging department and shrink wrapped and in a box is usually 2 to 3 days.
What's a minimum? If I wanted to come in there and make 20 boards, would you do that?
A pro skater like yourself who can't get what they need and they'll come spend their time with me, I'll help you tune it in.
Okay.
But when it comes to business, now
Yeah.
it's got to be enough business to do business,
Sure.
right? That's the hard reality there.
Yeah.
So usually it's like 300 boards.
It's
for an
okay,
order.
it's a good minimum. Yeah.
Could be multiple graphics or multiple sizes, but
I mean-
but in general, I try to really focus on big premium brands.
Right.
I don't do shop boards. I don't play the bottom of the market. I try to
Okay.
stand for that premium, and I try to really put the substance into the product. So the consumer can count on it.
Because there are other wood shops out there that will take a 20 board order.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
what boards are you making now for the most part?
I mean, you can go to a skate shop and see everything with the laser seal.
Yeah.
It changes because some brands will be like, I'll build stuff for certain region of the world and to be cost effective and comply with Brazil. I don't build that stuff, right? So it's like sometimes it can be regional things like that. Sometimes a new business person comes in or a new salesman comes in and they're like, I really love this brand from this other factory, or a rider be like, well, I want to ride what my buddy's riding.
yeah.
And
bareback.
where
Right.
if they'll come and spend some time to manual around and ollie around, I'll get them to a better place than they'll ever be with their buddy's board. But got to go on a tour this week, got to film a video, so it's like
Right.
spare time, right?
Sure.
And now, and it used to be right now we're in the dead time, but with Olympic season going on right now, there is no break, right? So usually I would work with guys in the 6 months where we weren't having contests and get them tuned in for contest season, right?
Oh.
And then sometimes I'll tune somebody right in the middle of contest season, Like a couple years back, I don't know, 5-7 years ago, PJ Ladd made a board with me and then won the Battle of Barracks the next day on that board. He painted and sanded with me the day before,
Wow.
right?
I heard stories that he was in there a lot with you.
PJ spent a lot of time with me, and at the end, I never really satisfied PJ.
Oh, he still wasn't satisfied.
Nah, he found a board from another factory that he liked, and that's what he rides.
Yeah, I know you always like Chapman Wood.
Yeah, it's a different factory than that
Crazy.
up in Canada.
Well, it's funny that he still won Battle of the Barracks on your board,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then he still wasn't satisfied.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
But he's,
But
he's
there
amazing.
are
dude. Yeah.
skaters like that who are
that's
just
that's a
super
skateboarder.
hyper focused on
Right.
every little detail of the board.
No, but there could be things as well, like, I don't know, two and a half summers ago. Lacey Baker came to my shop for the first time, and she spent the time to manual and ollie around. And I built her boards for many years. She used to ride for Element before, I've known her for a long time. And she gave me that 3 hours, and she's like, well, I want this. I'm like, that's not, I don't think that's what you really want. Let's just modify the board. And then she mouths around, oh, that's what I want. Like her head was so stuck on what
She thought
the
she
mold,
wanted.
which is actually the mold the girl used, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, but the other things weren't adding up to that. But what it was really that fingers are flat behind the bolt holes, and getting that leverage point right for her. And then 2 weeks later, she win Street League in LA with a, I don't know, 20-foot, I don't know if it was a flip in or out of a nose manual or whatever, but it's exactly what we worked on was her manual off her nose, and then you go see her do that with it.
That's amazing.
It's so funny. I used to have this guy that we skated with, acquaintance, right? And he'd always be like, you guys get special boards. And like you're so good because you get special boards. And it was never the case. We would just, at a girl or chocolate, we'd grab our boards, right? But there are those skaters that come and work with you that have their own special board tailored for themselves.
And sometimes that becomes production that the brand sells.
That's right.
Sometimes it doesn't because that size isn't selling right now. And this brand is talking to this customer.
Yeah.
And so Creature talks to a different customer than Girl talks to, right?
Yeah.
You know? And the reality is the brand has to sell what's working for the genre they're in. And if it's not, then they're not going to be in business.
Right.
You know? So sometimes what the rider likes to ride isn't what the market wants to buy right now.
And that's the closest thing we got was just screening our graphic onto a shape that we liked, you know. So I would skate a 775, but my board out in the market would be at 8.25 or whatever. So I was riding a different board than what was on the shelf.
Which is a confusing story in one way. Mm-hmm. And I think a part of it times the product is not talked about enough because the salesman just wants to sell.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to get distracted by talking about what the pro likes to do with it, who made it, any of that stuff. They're like, realize a brand is an ego. And what's the ego going to talk about? It's brand. Yeah. It's not talking about anything else. We don't have time for anything else. Okay, we're selling an ego here, buddy. There's a lot of hot air's got to really be blown up to get this ego up, right?
Sure, yeah.
And that's what a brand is, you know. So there's, you know, we're all in this room here, but then the 9 Club's here too.
Yeah. That's right.
It's a brand.
It's a brand.
Right? And
it's a living, breathing thing.
It's a living ego that you guys have put your resources into, and you've developed this ego.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And the world out there appreciates it, and it's fabulous, right? So it's like you're in the exact same business.
It's funny. I think Roger's ego is bigger than the 9 Club ego. It's really bizarre, you know. So
big ego.
He's got a big ego. So fascinating. I want to go back though because we were
sort of wrapping up. We're trying to get out of Schmitt Stix a while ago.
Well, yeah, we were on the verge of the New Deal coming into the picture, and Andy Howell and Steve Douglas calling you and being like, "Hey, we're out. You either stay or come with us." Was that kind of the conversation?
Yeah. So basically, the last couple years at Vision, it got harder and harder.
Like you said, you couldn't even go in the building.
Everybody, you know, and it's like whether it was Phillips leaving to go do something else, Monty left Schmitt Stix, you know, and it's like guys would leave, and you know that was part of that. And I kept on going to Brad, "Hey, can we just do roulette?" Because business-wise, it was so hard when a rider left and it wasn't planned. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And I'm like, but I was trying to get Gons and Gator on my team. And Phillips like they're all riding my boards anyways. Brad never wanted to do that. He just let him quit and go somewhere else.
Okay.
But just that interesting thing. But I had the interaction with the riders through running events, being part of things. I ran like all the NSA amateur contests, that type of stuff. So I had the on the tip, you know, who and what's happening and that kind of thing. And I was still generationally close enough, right? You know,
right.
Obviously, those days are long gone. You know.
Well, you're still helping PJ Ladd and Lacey Baker, so it's amazing.
Yeah. I haven't done a PJ in a while, but maybe we'll come back. We'll see.
Maybe you could help Raj next one.
Oh, we could fix that real easy.
Well, he's pretty close in age, but
so as Schmitt Stix wound up, you know, I had the relationships with the riders within the Vision camp, even where, you know, we go to contest, and I was the only one that worked for Vision that they could relate to in any manner, right? They couldn't even relate to the other people,
right? Because
they were older, they didn't skate, they
removed.
So far removed, just business people, right? You know, and doesn't mean he wasn't a cool team manager or whatever, you know.
Sure.
When there was a cool team manager, his name was Steve Rocco, you know. Right. And then when Rocco got a new car, so Rocco's office was in front of my wood shop for a while.
Oh yeah.
And he got a new team car, 2-door red sports car. he thought it was funny because everything with Rocco is about having fun. So
Yeah.
that was funny, you know. And Brad was having a hard time with each move of Rocco, all the more. And, well, I still worked with Brad. He's like, come on, we're going up to Redondo Beach or Manhattan or whatever. And I was like, and he fired Rocco that night. He took me with as his backup.
Oh,
You were backup.
Yeah. However, there was no fight. And
Sure.
Wait, so you watched it happen?
yeah, when he fired Rocco. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. How did that conversation
And
go?
then Rocco Wen started.
Yeah, so then he
World
started
Industries.
SMA and
Yeah,
the World
yeah.
Industries.
Crazy.
You know, that whole thing, you know. So that sort of segues into New Deal, right? So because Steve as well, he helped me start New Deal. So, and the reality is that Chris Miller was in contract negotiation, and Brad would not let me be part of the contract negotiation because he held the license. The agent Miller had was also the agent Gator had, which was the only agent in skateboarding at that time. Nobody else even had agents yet. It was the start of that era.
Crazy.
And he was trying to get Miller to ride for Vision Streetwear and that kind of thing. And Miller's just like, I'm over it, you know. So he called me up and said, hey, we got to get together. And I was afraid what it was, you know. And I told Brad at the trade show when he would let me part of the meeting, I said, you realize if Miller's gone, it's over. And he just didn't. But I had riders were leaving left and right.
Well, you had no
and they weren't-
control.
I had no control, right? You know, and all my creative stuff was happening in my own shop, separate from that. You know, and some of it I could get into the Schmitt Stix line, some of it I couldn't. You know,
Okay.
and then basically Miller said, hey, we got to meet tonight. I'm going to ISPO tomorrow morning. Well, we're going to meet tonight then. And you know, he drove from San Diego, and I drove down like San Clemente. We met in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm done. I'm gone. I'm going to go to this new company with 8th Street. And I was like, oh, you know, I got it. I understood it, you know.
Right.
But also it was a face-to-face discussion. It was like that. Like we had that
Which is amazing.
enough of a relationship, right?
Sure.
A long enough of a relationship.
Right.
Because he wasn't saying it to a businessman. He was saying it to a skater.
Yeah.
You know, the businessmen were already talking, the contract people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business
Out of
people's own
more
business.
respect, he
Right. Yeah.
had the conversation.
So then I go to ISPO the next morning. This is before cell phones.
ISPO.
There was no Evo. A trade
San Luis
show.
Obispo?
No, ISPO is a trade show in Germany.
Oh. Okay.
So a European trade show.
San
So
Luis
by the time I
Obispo.
get back 2 weeks later, you know, Douglas is an upheaval of, you know, well, you know, and it's like, well, Santa Cruz will fund us. And I'm like, I know that. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, I pressed 10,000 boards for them last year. I know those guys. Schmitt Stix is still going on. I'm making boards for them, right?
Yeah.
And because I had my secret shop, right?
Sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
I almost quit. I prepared to take Schmitt Stix away from Vision, and it was too much of a fight.
You created your own little did you see the writing on the wall? You
So I
were
saw the
like
re-
kind of preparing.
I wasn't in control, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, I was taking my licensing money. I was buying equipment.
It's uneasy.
Someone was shutting
Unsettling.
down a factory. I bought 40 presses from him, 40 cavities worth of presses.
Yeah.
All on
Still-
the side.
On the side, yep.
Yeah.
2 of them are working. The rest were stacked in storage. And, you know,
I
so
like it.
I'm making stuff. But anyway, so as the conversation started to happen, I'm like, well, I know that. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do it for somebody else again. I already did that once.
Yeah.
You know, I already did that for Brad, you know.
Right.
And I don't want to go do it for someone else again, you know. Because here I'm at the end of Schmitt Stix being like, I saw this big machine go, well, how much do I got? I got my tools that I got in my place. I got a little bit of equity in a house. I don't got much,
Right.
you know. But then again, he had a big problem, 250,000 square feet of facilities, 1,000 employees, losing money. It's like, business ain't easy at that level.
Sure.
It's
Right.
not easy at that level.
The bigger you get, the harder it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
So you were prepared to leave your company behind.
I was prepared to walk away from my
walk
name.
away from your name.
Really
Right.
prepared.
That's
like,
crazy.
it's happening, you know?
Yeah.
And basically, so we decided that the name New Deal was going to be the brand name and all that. And, you know, we all lived in my house and worked on it and developed it, you know? Now, during the day, I'm going to the factory because pretty much that started in February. And in March, I still started billboards for Rocco.
Okay.
So Rocco knows we're leaving Vision. He's trying to help us leave Vision because he wants to beat down the big 5, but he's having a hard time.
He's right along with the ride. Yeah. I
He's like,
love
you
it.
guys can help me beat down the big 5, and I can't get enough boards, so I built blind boards for 6 months.
Okay.
And the veneer guys and the glue guys would give me veneer and glue.
You're doing that at night.
No,
Oh, but in your own little
in
facility.
my facility.
Okay,
So
okay.
the veneer guys would give me wood on credit because they'd done business enough years
Sure.
and knew me, and
Yeah.
they weren't the shop that Vision was doing business with. So it's like I had to switch vendor pools, you know.
Okay.
But because I was making boards for NHS last year, you know, it was already working. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they was never able to get my business in the Vision days, you know. And now they got my business, right?
Okay.
And the people that had done the wood for Vision all the years, my original vendor from back when I was in Florida, couldn't do business with me because of the Vision thing.
Crazy.
Like conflicts, you know?
Right.
And the craziness of that, right? So
Right.
so basically, I'm cash flowing things because I'm building product. For Rocco's like, I'll give you money the minute it's screaming. And I'm like, okay, so every week deliver stuff, go get a check from Rocco, catch up, here's what's going on. You know, so Rocco knew the whole plan was going on. He's like, hey, we're not using these computers. You want these computers?
Oh, he's helping.
Oh, yeah. Here's how FileMaker works, and here's how you can do your invoices. You know,
It's amazing.
Here, give him a copy of that. You know, it's like, so he was super, super helpful. You know,
amazing.
even though I was there when he was fired. Right?
But he knew the bigger picture. He was ready to take him
The
down.
bigger picture was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to take him down.
Sure.
Everything about Rocco was just about fun. That's all it was.
And to see if he could do it, probably.
Yeah. Now, I remember I first met Rocco when I came to California in 1980. And then he's like, hey, who's this Rodney kid? And I'm like, oh, he rides for Tim Scroggs. Scroggs said, well, I'm going to start the Rocco squad. And we're like, no, the Scroggs squad is Tim Scroggs. And Rodney rides for Scroggs. You know, and it's like, well, you know, Rocco didn't get his squad that time, right?
Right.
Stacy got Rodney in that era, you know.
Yeah. He eventually
And then
got him.
Rocco got him later.
Yeah, eventually got him. Eventually got him. Wow. So now you walk away.
Right. So I walk away. Brad doesn't know we're walking away. I just don't. I could barely get in the building anyways. Okay, I could have an appointment to pick up a check, or it would come in the mail or whatever. So it's like, we're just working on getting checks.
But you're meeting.
But I'm not spending any energy on Schmitt Stix whatsoever at all.
Right.
Now, I didn't have a commit. I didn't have to be there.
Yeah.
I'd still go to the contest and I'd be visible, and we're just working on it, right? So it's like basically we worked on it for, you know, sort of the end of June we started to ship stuff, but sort of like in, I think of April or May, I'm not sure exactly, we shipped out the promo video. And we made this video that had, you know, the riders. So it was clear now that these were mostly riders that had ridden for Schmitt Stix, right?
Andy Howell said that Steve Douglas was faxing skate shops from your house
Yeah.
And they figured it
about
out.
New Deal, but it had since it was a fax machine, it had your name and phone number on it.
we didn't know that at the time.
Right.
And the distributors.
kinda let the cat out of the
and
bag.
the distributors and the business people, because we were trying to go to the skaters, not the established, right?
Sure.
So in general, but eventually one of those fax headers came back to me from the Vision lawyer and says, is this you? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, you don't have a contract to have me, you know? And then basically it ended up being that they're like, well, we'll give you your last check if you sign over the brand. I'm already deep. I'm already
You're
doing this thing.
done.
I'm like, give me that $7,000 check and I'll sign the rights away to Schmitt Stix.
That's it?
Yeah.
Crazy. They
You know?
still own it to this day.
Yeah. So then it was, after, when New Deal was 3 months old, Transworld Business had it as top 3 brand in the market. You know, so
How
now World
insane is
and
that?
New Deal are in the top 3. Okay, so Rocco's plan's working.
He's stoked.
Right, is what he's doing. But the reality is, like, Schmitt Stix then quickly shut down. You know,
Sure.
he thought he was going to go forward. Then it quickly proved that that's not
Because
working.
no one will ride for it,
You know, because I would be at all the trade shows. I had the public face of the brand, right?
It's your name.
Right. And then basically he still sells Schmitt Stix now, because when Joe Lopes died, I don't know, 15 years ago, I went to Brad and said, hey, I don't care if you build them or I build them or you sell them or I sell them. I want to make some boards to commemorate Los and raise money for his family.
It's amazing.
And Brad's like, oh, it sounds like a pretty cool idea. And then he wouldn't return my call for 6 months. And then he's got 10 boards out.
Oh, wow.
It's like they didn't want just one. you know?
Crazy. Well, he
It's
could do
like-
whatever he owns.
But he owns it, you know?
I like though how you still went with the PS Stix. You just took your initials and just
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah, so basically PS Stix was a contract manufacturer for plywood only for NHS, because they couldn't get the molds fast enough through the other thing, and they gave me their master. I could be production next week.
So when New Deal starts,
So I'm already doing production, right? So then I build the blind stuff.
okay, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And that went on for about 6 months. But then as we got everything shipping and going, I went on vacation, and Steve Douglas and Mike, the guy that ran my wood shop, were like, we could sell all the New Deal boards we can. And they didn't make any blind boards because I wasn't there to tell them to make blind boards.
Oh no.
And then Rocco calls screaming and goes, hey, are there any boards for me this week? No, there's none, man. You know, are there any New Deal boards? Yeah, we got double the normal New Deal boards. And Rocco's like, and I come back from vacation and Rocco's like, you fucker. And I'm like, oh, you guys fucking, because they've been putting pressure on me the whole time. Like, fucking don't build anything for anybody else. It's like, that's not
It's not how it
what will
works,
make
right?
it work,
Yeah.
right? You don't understand the economics of it.
Yeah.
But Rocco gave me the cash flow to get it started, right?
So did he pull out of?
Yeah, so then I lost
That's when I did
manufacturing
Prime.
because Prime in that time then scaled up enough.
Oh.
Prime wasn't really scaled yet.
Was Slick Bottoms in the picture yet?
Slick Bottoms, they're no,
A
not
little
yet.
later.
They're a
Okay.
little later.
Okay.
I found Slick Bottoms at a plastics show in Chicago in 89 on snow skis,
What?
right? and I got samples of the material, talked to the people, and then basically I got distracted by New Deal.
Oh.
And I didn't bring it to market. And then the first one to make slicks was actually BBC.
Okay.
They did horrible graphics.
It was like a P-Tex, something like that.
There was a PTEX one, but then there was PBT as well.
It's a PTEX.
And then Santa Cruz took a hold of it and marketed it, put the Ego Santa Cruz on it.
Yeah.
Only had a Santa Cruz logo. That was Ego, right? Sure. And did it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Rocco and I both wanted to do it, but it was $10,000 for a print run. So we split a print run.
$10,000 for a print.
For a print run
Of
to
how
do the
many?
slicks. The setup cost was $10,000
Oh, jeez.
at that point.
To print on the plastic, the whatever it is.
Right. So basically, the print one was what was the Mike V one? Was it the first Mike V slick and the New Deal Siamese?
Oh.
Was that the Douglas first? I don't remember now which one was first. Anyways, we split a print run because in a sense you couldn't. It was still $10,000 if it was one graphic, right? But basically, we both
could
took
split
the
it,
risk.
right.
Okay, because we thought, hey, we think we can sell this. We think this will work. It's the copy thing, right?
Yeah.
If Santa Cruz copying BBC wasn't enough because BBC wasn't relevant. It was a brand that had some vert skaters from the 80s. But New Deal and World had street skaters from now.
Right.
Right? So NHS didn't even have that. They just had the marketing horsepower and the ego to make it happen.
Sure.
You
Huh.
know? So, but it's the slick thing is a great example of if it's copied, it will be successful.
Right.
And literally 80% of the boards I made were slick. I developed a manufacturing process to do it in-house.
You figured it out.
I figured it out. So I imaged my own film and did my own stuff and literally made 2 million slick boards in that era.
Were you charging the same? Were you charging the 10 grand also?
No,
to set
you
up?
couldn't get that much out of it. But it was business worth doing.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
And I even did snowboards, did like a 500,000 snowboard plastics.
Crazy.
Because they didn't know how to do it either. Because then I had the I had a bitchin' ass Quadra 900 in the back of the building. It had 256 megs of RAM. That was $15,000 back then.
Wow.
Oh.
But that's how I had to do it. So like even with the image setter that we made the film with, I became a beta testing. It was the first soft ripped. Before then, they'd all been like proprietary hardware. It was Adobe soft rip. And then when we went to do snowboards, they were like, they're like, well, it's not calibration. We don't say it is. And I'm like, I think it is. I just want a buffer drive 4 times the size. And the engineers are like, it only needs to be double. And I'm like, it needs to be 4 times the size. And they gave me the drives, formatted, put it in, and printed 6-foot-long film just fine. And it was just basically like math of how Photoshop worked, right?
So you're
I'm
sending-
like, your machine works like Photoshop, right? Like that's how I looked at it.
Oh yeah. So you're sending them the
The films. With all the scientific adjustment for the sublimation process. Because when you look at a sublimation paper, it's dull and the colors aren't bright. The paper has to go with heat and pressure. The ink turns into a gas. That goes into the pores of the material. And then it becomes bright.
brightens it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had this situation then where even like my printer one day, I'm like, they didn't understand that they had, because ink people sell ink, and I found somebody, a new vendor for the ink in the region, and they were well connected. And pretty soon I go to my print shop and they're printing real papers. Like, what's this? Well, we can't get it right for them. And I'm like, they don't. I have the film. I tell you, you hold the levels. I know you know how to hold levels, and here's what you do. Because it's like printing blind. Printer goes like, oh, look at that 4-color process image. It's beautiful. This doesn't look right. It's muted. It's ugly. I'm like, just follow the bar strip. It has a code in it. You know, just systems, right? Like, I'm a systems engineer.
I don't even know what's going on right now. It's complicated stuff.
Kelly doesn't know what you're doing. No, it is very complicated. It's fascinating.
It is.
though, you know. So you're. Rob's just filling up his cup.
We jumped there around a little bit because we sort of jumped a couple years ahead. We were talking about.
Well, I asked about the
slick.
the slicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in that first year of New Deal, it instantly went kaboom, right?
You said number 3. You went to number 3.
Yeah.
In the market.
Yeah, so really
Crazy.
quick, you know, and literally by the next year, I mean, we sold like 15,000 boards in 1 month. Schmitt Stix only ever sold 7,000 in a month.
And here you are.
And we're like surpassing it double because I'm not held back anymore, right? Even though the industry is crashing right now. The Big Five is crashing, right? But Rocco and I are, and the new generation is just going up, right?
Wow.
Could you imagine if you were the one doing all of World Industries boards back then? If he didn't leave you and go to Prime?
Yeah, well, realize that they already had Prime going. They just Prime didn't figure out the production level. So Prime did make skateboards in the 70s. 7-ply, no concave. And it was about concave, but the molds got from the Vision factory to Prime. So I realized molds are stolen, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And I go to my mold maker in Costa Mesa one day, and I'm like, what's this? Like, well, other people are coming to me for their work. And it's like, they're not coming for your work. They're coming for my work. Okay. And because I wasn't working in-house anymore, I was developing Schmitt Stix separately. Well, Chuck Holtz was going forward because his job was still to run the work at the Vision factory. He was doing product development from his perspective, you know, and we weren't working together.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And he made the first mold that was truly double kick, double shape, double vision, you know, and the shape wasn't accepted, but the principle was, right? You know, but even though if you go to like the World Barnyard for lately, the nose is still an inch shorter than the tail. We're still not there yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So even going through all this stuff with New Deal and this documenting all this stuff this last while and building templates, you know, like the original Siamese board wasn't a true Siamese. It was really close, but it wasn't.
Right, it wasn't.
It wasn't, right? You know, and it still wasn't till another year before that happened. I remember at the point when Templeton's like, I want my nose longer. And I'm like, why do you want it longer? It's like, do you want more room to slide on? I just want it longer. It's just sense. That's what I want. Okay.
Is that when
Make
it started to
happen.
switch at that point when the nose started to get longer than the tail?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much 91.
So that's,
91.
so you're saying Ed Templeton basically started that whole thing?
I don't know if Ed started it. I can't really say. Ed made it clear to me what he wanted.
Okay.
To say what was happening. Because even going back and documenting those old boards, it's like I'm going back, I'm taking the boards, I'm taking the magazines, I'm going like, okay, well, here's the story and the lineage and the time of what happened, right?
And also around that time,
I didn't know that the
double
first
drilled.
slicks I made were 9-ply slicks.
Whoa.
You know? and in 90, all of the boards were double drilled except for the Siamese.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, double drill.
And then as we get into 91, we weren't double drilled anymore because now we had the molds to support what was going on, right? The double drill thing was sort of like, it really comes from Gons at the Vision shop always being like, more nose, more nose. And drilling there, I just drill it back. And it's like just doing what Gons wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the noses weren't as big and tall at that time.
But then the trucks would come double drilled too, right? The trucks
No, the trucks were never double drilled, but that's the 6-hole pattern.
Yeah.
So that's
That's when they changed the whole
that's
pattern.
venture in 92.
All the nose slide tricks, whatever, were basically
Grinding the bolts?
down.
And you'd have to
So they-
hacksaw the bolts off.
Yeah.
So they just
If you check my Instagram, I just did a post on it the other day.
So they just moved the bolts back on the truck.
Right. So Venture moved the holes back on
Yeah.
the truck
And everyone followed.
and just said, we're doing it. And then basically in that case there, Steve said, "Do you want to drill 6 holes in boards?" Like, no, it doesn't make any sense. We're just going to do the new hole pattern.
Yeah.
And him and I both agreed, and we retooled the factories. And between Christmas and New Year in '92, and in January 1st, it was different now. And people were freaking for a while. Because they were like,
drill out their trucks.
Well,
they
you had the
to change
boards
them.
and Adventure had the trucks.
Right.
I could have sworn there were 6-hole trucks, no?
No, yeah, they had 6 holes.
6-hole
but not,
trucks.
Not 2 patterns. It's just 2 holes on the front.
Yeah. No. 4 holes
It's
in
for
the
the
front.
original hole pattern and then the new hole pattern.
Right. So it's 6 holes, but not 2,
It's not 2 different hole patterns on
not
here.
2 hole patterns. The inside holes were still the same. It was just the outside holes. And it was just because where tricks were going with nose grinds and K grinds and all this, bolts were getting ground.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't get your truck off. And then if you tried to twist it, you try to hacksaw it, you can only get in so far, twist it, break the corner of the base plate.
Yeah.
Was it Markovich that drilled his truck spec first?
What's that?
Markovich?
Did what?
Did he drill his truck spec first?
I don't know who did. I mean, it came from the venture camp, in my viewpoint, and who did it first, and they just put it in one ad in November '92, 27 years ago. They didn't even talk about it the next issue. They're already over it. They had an ad like V for victory.
Right.
I think they were talking about winning over vert skating. Okay, because it's that time, right, where vert's like being put to bed. Like, no, we're where it's going.
Wow. That's so sick.
It's fascinating. Where were we with New Deal? Where were we going
so
with?
well, then it just started to go along, became a big brand, quickly. And I did the manufacturing and dealt with sales and distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas was sort of the coordinator, and Andy was the art director. Andy was in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas was in San Jose. I'd have him with a computer and a modem, and they'd dial into our quick mail system, and we had email back then.
Yeah, I think Andy said he would have to send graphics overnight.
Yeah, literally could be all night to do something
All
like
night.
that.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I was very technically aware, right? So I
Okay.
was,
You set it all up.
We had internet, email accessible internet in '91, and we're communicating,
Dial up.
and dealing with all that, right?
That's so insane.
And I was a systems guy, so I just do systems, right?
It's amazing, though.
How do you systemize that thing to solve that problem,
Well, you got 3 people in 3 different places.
Yeah.
So you needed to come together.
Exactly. But then I sort of ran the operation, it was all in Costa Mesa, so it was my R&D shop, New Deal was in the front, and we made boards in the back, and then quickly we got the unit, PS Stix moved the unit next door, and I got that one, they got the unit next door to that,
Wow.
and then eventually moved to from 1281 to 1351 Logan, and just kept on going.
1281.
Yeah. It was a location of my R&D shop.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with New Deal.
Oh, really? Now, Andy ended up leaving. He started Underworld Element, right?
Right. So that was within the same business structure. So basically, Steve, Andy, and I became partners.
Yeah.
We started New Deal Skateboard Products Inc.
Uh-huh.
That side was that. So PS Stix would sell a board to New Deal.
Okay. Oh.
And
Gotcha.
so it wasn't, we became partners, legal corporation, and all the paperwork, all the systems, right?
But you were still selling boards
Right.
too. Okay.
And then I'm still building boards for other brands
Sure,
too. You
sure.
know? So PS Stix is going because you can't, the hippest, coolest brand at some point is not going to be the hippest, coolest brand. You can't run a factory on one brand or
Yeah.
Right.
2 or 3 brands. I mean, even a couple factories have gone out in Mexico since I was down there, because they only did 2, 3 brands. And when those 3 brands aren't hot enough to support a factory,
They're out.
Yeah.
it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Crazy, yeah.
And we're talking prestigious brands and prestigious times.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
I'm trying to think of how long did New Deal last for? How many
So
years?
It's sort of magical years was its first 3.
First
okay,
3.
It was 90 to 92. And that was, Andy was so on the tip of art, creativity. He would love traveling, would go to, whatever city he went to and always bring a piece of that culture and vibe back with him, right? And he would mix it together and he had this awareness, right?
Yeah.
And then I think part of it too was none of us were Californians. Okay, Andy's East Coast, I'm East Coast. Yeah, I've been in California now for a while. Douglas is from England. So we weren't trapped in the entitled, I was just here. We had to work really hard to get somewhere.
Right.
And so it was super cool, But then, like anything, you have success and then you have the problem of success. Now the team's too big. Now how do you keep everybody pro. Okay, well, now we'll start a new brand. Now we'll do Underworld Element. You know, and he's like, I got this idea, and I want to be underground and seedy, and I got an opposite idea of that too, but that's for later.
Right.
And that kind of context, you know. So then we did that, and that was within New Deal Skateboards. You know, it was still same business structure and everything. And then we started Giant Distribution because now we had the diversity of brands going on.
Yeah,
know?
you needed an umbrella.
We started 4-on-1, you know, and now we had video.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I see that your generation really appreciates that.
Oh, yes. Very much so.
You created a monster.
A bunch of them now.
I didn't save enough of those.
Oh, well, I mean, they're online now, I think, aren't they?
Well, you got started, what issues? Like you were more from the beginning.
I was like 16.
16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're already 2 years into it.
Yeah.
At that point. you
Yeah.
know?
Wow.
But that's interesting because that marker, right? It definitely became a marker.
What were you doing with 4-in-1 at that point?
All I did was sort of the books, the business, and the editing systems and infrastructure. So basically, in the New Deal days, the first videos were deck to deck, and Douglas edited those, and I set up a system where we'd have time code. We'd send VHS time code tapes to the skaters. They would pick out the parts they liked the most. Steve would manage the process of all the numbers, and then get together and edit it, right? And then, you know, when it wasn't right, then you had to re-edit it, and it was tape to tape.
Sure.
Put in this tape, roll it down. This one's like very tedious, right?
Headache, yeah.
And then in '92, we got this system called Video FX. And again, I was technically aware, right? So it ran on a Mac FX model computer, and it had a digitizing card in it, and it had machine control, and it had postscript to tape. So that's why the graphics and the names on 401 always look better than the video, because it was postscript to tape.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah, the blue little logos and
they
stuff.
always look way better than
Yeah.
because it was that, right? It was a control. But basically, with this system, you would digitize your tape, and you would have a low res, like 240 by 320 video,
That you're
30 frames a
editing
second,
with.
and you're editing with it in a timeline like you are now. But then when it's time to make the master, put in tape 12, put in tape 27, and then it would fast forward, go to the time code.
Oh my God, are you serious?
It's fabulous compared to what was
compared to what
that.
you were doing, but still you would have to have everything in order, or else you would be screwed.
There was a system for that. You could, for the first 5 years of 4-in-1, you could type in Ollie Tony Hawk and find every Ollie of Tony Hawk. And then at some point, when 4-in-1 got successful enough, it's like, you just move your office to the back of the building, go in the wood shop, leave us alone. You know, and then I just became the guy that did the books because Josh Freeberg had gotten technically adept enough. And then Media 100 came out and got to be much better, where the systems we were dealing with, like that editing system, we had a 2 gig disc array. It was pretty badass. 5 1/4 disc, $10,000 for a 2 gig disc array.
$10,000.
You know, that's what it took then. But compared to a Hollywood style editing room,
sure.
You know, with $250,000 worth of equipment, here we got 25 and we're doing it.
But you're
right?
you're putting out good shit.
You know?
Yeah. 4-in-1. I never got a dun-da-da. I always wanted a dun-da-da.
Yeah.
Did you have any choice you weren't choosing any 4-in-1 openers or anything
No,
like that?
I didn't choose anything. I just made the things happen.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
I was the tech support.
The systems
my
guy.
office. So when we got Giant over to the other building, then I was right there. Before I was downstairs first, and when Giant moved to another building, then I was still there in the office, you know, same hallway.
Yeah.
And so I was always just tech support and set up, you know, so whether it's like, you know, Kirk Deanna or Colin, you know, and then sort of those two guys I always knew well, and then there came all the other filmers like, you know, Ricky or whoever. They're like, I never really knew as well.
Okay.
Because they weren't the first. I wasn't dealing with those guys by the time they were around.
Sure. New Deal, you said the first 3 years were the glory years.
Right. They were the magical, art, the generational relevance, right? And so it was also a time where for me it was hard because it was like, go away, old man. Your opinion doesn't matter.
Oh.
Well, it didn't.
Yeah.
I was the old guy now. I was a vert skater from the 80s, you know? Right? You know, my opinion mattered getting the business done and making things happen. But
Behind
when
the
it came to
scenes,
the branding side of it or the public face of it, even in this New Deal thing, I've had people be like, I never knew you were part of New Deal.
Oh.
Yeah, well, those guys had a 4-in-1 Transworld Business article. I opened up the magazine one day. I'm like, there's all the founders of 4-in-1 in my building, and I'm not in it.
You're not in it, right?
Because this generation doesn't care about that generation.
It matters. Yeah.
But that's
nowadays
a cycle of business. That's just the reality of like generational relevance. I know what it was because in the 80s, I was it.
Right.
I was it.
Yeah.
You know, it was absolutely clear. You know, in a Big Five meeting, it was absolutely clear. You know, as much as they had their perspectives and they all contributed to skateboarding a lot. If anything, that was something that didn't happen in the 90s, which was disappointing, was people would support making things happen as a collective.
Right.
You know, so the Big Five was positive because it made events happen and it made things happen.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
You know,
They're
but a
doing
lot
what
of
best
people,
for
it's
them.
like, it's the negative because, well, they're successful business people and that's bad, you know.
How is that bad, though?
It's a weird thing. I mean, I had a hard time. It's like, I'm an enthusiast doing what I like to do, right? And that's what I've done my whole life. And if money doesn't work, then that doesn't work, right? So it's really challenging, you know. But it's almost like, you know, never been my focus to work for money.
Do you ever
Byproduct.
Do you ever wake up with an idea? You ever go to bed and in the morning be like, uranium skateboard, like something, just whatever. You ever wake up with just crazy ideas and you're like, let me.
When I was younger, I did.
You did.
But honestly, I've done so much and know so much that there's just not much to do.
I feel like that's
It's
when the
like
ideas
board,
would come,
The board
though.
is so refined, right? It's just so refined.
Don't you feel like it needs something, though? Like, don't you feel like... I know you said it's
Well, I see,
it's
like,
at the... It's
like Powell makes those flight boards and Santa Cruz is doing their version of that, right?
super thin,
Right.
durable, crazy.
Right. Yep. Costs more money. You know, got to pay more money for it.
Right.
None of my customers at PS Stix are saying, hey, we want you to build boards that cost $10 more to make. They're not saying
They're happy
that.
with what they got.
They're happy with what they got. They don't want it, you know?
But you're an innovator. I feel like you'd wake up with,
Well, I
with
made
some of
boards
the
with
ideas.
fiberglass and foam and urethane bumpers. I've
Right.
done all of it. It's already happened. And the generation didn't accept it, right? The helium thing, there were people who loved that construction. Element kept on trying to can it, and people kept on going, we want that, we want that. And then finally someone canned it, you know? Because that was around for 8 or 10 years. You
Yeah.
know?
We want to make 9 Club boards, but we're gonna make. We want revolutionary
Okay.
construction.
What do we got, Chris?
Got a good
I don't
idea?
know, some type of beehive, weird,
You connect to
durable.
no glue, but honey too.
Yeah,
Just honey
it's
and then
just paper mache, whatever, just something.
The best engineering comes from biomimicry.
Biomimicry.
Yeah.
what's that?
Copy
It's
what
just-
the animals do.
Just copying what Mother Nature does,
Hey,
right?
okay.
You know, it's a biological item, and let's mimic it. How do you think we got these little tiny drone cameras that you love so much, right? They were mimicking what
It's like a hummingbird,
little
yeah.
hummingbirds do, right? Like that's the reality. That's what biomimicry is. You know,
What do you think of the Cybertruck? Do you like it?
the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Are
a
you
pickup
fan?
truck, but I didn't even get to see how it hauls anything.
This is true. Right.
They weren't talking about that. They didn't make me aware. They just made me aware that the sledgehammer doesn't dent it, and the window needs some Nano Tubes.
The way a steel ball thrown out the window may or may not break it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to look at the potential. You take a ball that diameter, it looked like probably 2 inches diameter, right?
A little
It's like,
small ball, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like 4 or 5 pounds, and you take inertia and energy. It's like that's a lot of power, right?
Right,
Pretty
right.
crazy.
Well, he said that hitting the door with the sledgehammer cracked the bottom of the windows, and that's why. That was his
I didn't hear that, but
explanation.
I could believe that.
Yeah.
Because what happens with surface energy is energy always takes the path of least resistance, guaranteed, right? And so what happened, if that was the case and the bottom of the window was chipped, the ball hit it and the energy took that path of least resistance. And then,
Right.
because of the way that glass is designed, then spider out, right?
If Elon called you tomorrow and offered you a job, and you had to leave your warehouse, and he's like, "Dude, I like your style. I like your brain. Come work for me."
Make rockets with me.
Yeah. What would you want? What would you do?
I don't know. I know some people that work there already.
Oh,
They didn't seem to be that happy.
You and Elon sharing an office,
Yeah, no,
bouncing ideas back and
I
forth.
just know a machinist that works there that I went to college with.
I'm talking about in the you and Elon.
I don't know.
Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David sharing a desk.
Oh,
What would you? You and Elon just bouncing ideas.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
You're happy with
See.
the wood shop.
Yeah, I like doing what I do. But I like to make things. I like to make new things.
Yeah.
You know, have a lot of fun with that.
So you think the skateboards now will stick to the 7-ply?
I really feel so. I hope that what Powell and Santa Cruz have done, and also what's those other guys make the boards with the green urethane tips on them?
Oh, I know.
I can't think of the name now.
Green
I'm blanking.
urethane tips.
Anyways, they're doing some high end boards that are even better than what those guys do. You know,
Right.
but selling direct to consumer, $200. You know,
Oh,
type of
whoa.
thing. And you know,
How do they ride?
I wish them the best with it. Different, but people are liking them.
It's a $200 deck?
Yeah.
And it lasts for a long time, or I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
last time, really hard urethane bumpers.
What is this?
Really hard. Very much like I made them like 70D on my bumper board years ago. And mine was just me mimicking what Kryptonics did in the 70s in my revision of
Okay.
it, right? You know, and they've done their version of it. And it's really cool. But they're using like, I don't even know how hard it is, like ridiculously hard stuff. And it's got high abrasion resistance, so it doesn't razor tail easy.
What is it? I always trip out on, like, do they sound different? It must sound different.
They
when you
sound different for
That's
sure.
the only thing. I think I said a skateboarder, it's...
Yeah.
I was talking about the other day. I was like, man, I snapped my board up. I'm like, dude, that's what I want to hear.
Why
And
haven't-
if you don't hear that sound, it kind of fucks up your whole thing in skating, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
Skaters can't even deal with it's like they have to have that VX 1000 sound.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
similar to something like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, like when you hear that good wood, you know, it's good.
Everybody knows what they like.
Everyone-
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
reality. You know what you like. You don't necessarily know why. I mean, I have guys come to me all the time, and I'm like, well, do you always do that trick off the nose? Like, yeah, why? I don't know, because it works, I guess.
yeah.
They don't even
Yeah.
think about it, right? Like, it's just an organic thing. And then to me, I'm like, well, you want to counteract that and make the tail work that way? Oh, you can do that? Yeah, we could do that.
Like, why, when I ride switch, am I riding the board off the nose? Why not just ride it?
Right.
Ride
Well,
it
the whole thing about
backwards?
switch, there's a whole misnomer of thinking switch is opposite. I remember watching Battle of Barracks last year, and it was Jocelyn and Luan.
Oh, yeah.
Two amazing
guys.
flat ground.
Luan rides a board of like 3 fingers of flat.
His board's-
Okay.
yeah.
He's very flat deck. Mm-hmm. He's got really long legs.
Yep.
Okay. Jocelyn rides a board in a different mold, just regular like production style mold.
Yep.
You know, had a little bit of a different shape. I could hear their boards clicking on the floor.
In the video.
I could.
there.
That place is amazing. When events going on, there's a silence in
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
yeah.
And the
True.
intensity,
That's
you can
true.
hear it.
Yeah.
I remember like 5 years ago it was PJ against P-Rod. Same thing.
Yeah.
I made both the boards. They're down to the end. I'm listening to what's going on. You know, the pop, like how different they are.
If you were
Their style,
blindfolded,
their
would you
approach.
know which board was popping the sound?
Probably not.
Like that's
unless-
PJ. That's PJ.
I was like,
That's
wow.
PJ. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
That was-
that's P-Rod.
That's
Yeah.
definitely beer back.
Yeah, I don't think I would have that unless I
Okay.
listened to it first, because so much of it's just the dramaticness of that environment, right?
Oh, my
it's
God.
like a wind up.
Pin drop.
It's just amazing.
So the Luan Chris Joslin board, where were we? What?
So the boards are very drastically different.
yeah.
I could hear it. Luan's got this amazing pop. Luan's also got really long legs, so he can counteract that fingers of flat, that flat concave with his own energy, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you guys know what inseam pant you wear?
What?
What?
When you buy pants.
Like 32. Yeah.
I wear a 32, 33.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to your friends. So in general, tall guys ollie high, right? That's always been pretty known, right?
course.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I'm tall.
Yeah.
I don't ollie good. I used to ollie over a channel in the vert ramp, like, you know, coping bonk or something back in the day, right? But I wear a 32 inseam, and I'm 6'3".
Okay.
Pudwell has a 32-inch inseam too. He's nowhere near my height.
Right.
He's tall in the bottom. He's got that long leg thing going, right?
Mm.
You know, so it's interesting how, you know, people are built, right? You know,
Crazy.
and how their board needs to then counteract that or work with that.
Do you think?
Funny.
So what?
And they figure it out. They just don't know why.
Yeah.
So if you think that Luan had a steeper board, do you think he'd pop higher?
He has the control to use his energy when he needs it. So in general, a young skater needs a board of a really tall nose and tail. It takes a long time to hit. Okay.
Right.
So imagine just like little league, like they're pitching like this, right? In college and the big leagues, the guy's going to fall off the front of the mound.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Right.
And he's winding up, right? And now he's got to deliver this thing with accuracy and precision, right? So the same thing of an ollie. If we go back to ollie in the 80s, okay, it was 60, 65 millimeter wheels, half-inch risers. The angle on this thing when it hit the board's like a rocket, right?
Yeah.
And then there's no nose to level it out. So
Yeah.
you look at the ollies from the 80s, and they're not what we consider a proper ollie because you can't level out.
Right,
There's
they're
no,
just
there's no
rocketing.
lever
Yeah.
there. You know, and then when we made the nose the same angle and made it longer, it's like, oh, push the lever and I can get it up, right? Like,
Leverage,
and then that
yeah.
led to, you know, tricks and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Like that now that finesse and control was there. So it's always a challenge. Do you want power or do you want finesse? You know, and what are you looking for? And you want power on the nose or power on the tail? Because people want to think switch is exactly opposite. But what I was getting to before was at the Battle of the Barracks, one is doing the trick in front of them and the other's doing the trick behind them.
Yeah.
But they're both doing it switch. Their peer group knows they're not riding their normal stance.
Right.
And it's totally okay. I don't know how that's going to work in the Olympics yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Very interesting thing. But it's like that whole like he's riding his abnormal and he's doing it. But he does it off the tail behind him versus off the nose in front of him.
Yeah.
Because your energy on your tail, your body weight in general is, if you look to the center of the board, you're not really standing center. You're standing a little back on the
offset,
back,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when you go to nollie, you're setting up, you're getting close to center, and then it's like
Yeah.
your body weight never goes all the way there.
Sure.
Because it's in front of you,
Yeah.
not behind you.
You ever had a conversation with Roddy Mullen about this stuff?
Not really. I've known him since he was 10.
Really? Okay.
I remember
Just
staying at
wondering.
his house
This
back
was-
then. He was local at Sensation Basin Skate Park. It was like 2 hours north of Tampa.
It's fascinating. The way that you look at skateboarding and just skateboards in general is just, it's beyond my comprehension sometimes, you know? You're talking about this and that and this and
But
that. I'm
it's
just like,
it's a
whoa,
result of
dude.
my
Like,
environment.
no, I
right?
know.
It's a result of the people I've interacted with my whole life. If I was in a room with I would not come up with anything if I didn't have a solution, a need,
Right.
a process, right? You know, it's like it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, and then those that are willing to play the puzzle with me and interact and spend that time, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, there's
Right?
plenty of them out there. Like you said, I'm not the guy to think about
Right.
that stuff. You know, I'm just more of the guy of like, hey, I like this. This is a good looking shape. I put the trucks on. I put the grip tape on. Zip, 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 zip.
Yeah,
and
and
I go.
some people will be locked for years. Nigel's been unlocked for years.
It's crazy. I
Mold,
love it.
shape. He'd been unlocked for years. Lacey, I just sent her 5 new boards.
Yeah.
I did a mock-up last week at the factory without making a template. I did some stuff, and she's like, I think I want my nose shorter now. And it's like, she's keep on. In general, the tide with pro skaters is getting more compact. That's the tide that's been going on for about 2.5 years. I hadn't seen it. Usually it takes 4 or 5 years before it's market.
Yeah.
What I see happening with the pros, because it was for so long, it was a longer, more
So
and more,
now
longer
it's
nose,
getting
longer-
shorter and shorter and shorter.
shorter, more compact, and also people that are short going like, I don't need a 14-inch wheelbase. She rides.
What am I gonna? Yeah.
13 3/4 now.
Yep.
You know, but then I made some boards for Vanessa, and she's like, I rode Vanessa's board. I'm like, well, she's riding Thunders and you're riding Indies.
I changed the geometry.
Yeah.
No, not the geometry, the wheelbase. We judge our wheelbase by the truck holes. The real wheelbase is center of axle to center of axle. When Elon Musk sells a car and it has a stated wheelbase, Elon made the whole car.
Right.
But when you get a skateboard and you mix up that board, these trucks, these
Yeah.
wheels, you got your own combination, right? So it changes it. But then by her saying that, I'm like, okay, well then, and she's like, I feel like I need more power now. You know, where before she needed more finesse, now I need more power. Okay. You know, she gives me, tells me what she wants. I give her a prescription and she's like, oh, that's great. Okay, well, I'll make a template for it. Or she'll be like, oh, I didn't do what I thought.
Why do truck companies have different measurements? This drives me nuts. I wish they would just use one measurement. You got Indies that are like, oh yeah, it's a 147. This Thunder with the one, it's the same size truck.
Okay, well let's check what they really are. Take a pair of calipers, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times it's marketing, right? So
There's a pair of Indies right
These
here.
are 139s, I believe.
139s.
Okay,
now the
so-
same thing in
so
a
we're
in
gonna-
a Thunder would
Okay,
be
so
like
it's
a
a
149 or something.
I got
39.
Thunder.
Okay, well, this is a 137.05.
Oh,
What is it?
But
what
every
is it,
millimeter is 2/3 of the ply of the thick ply on a board, or the ply of the thickness of crossband.
what?
Yeah, everything relates.
What?
Raj, that's a one. What would you say that was?
So it's 2 millimeters off.
Okay,
This
From
supposed to be
the
they
state.
mark it as a 139.
139, but it was a
Now
130.
maybe if we take the washers,
Oh,
we might be able
See,
to
this is what I'm talking
say
about.
it is a 139 with the washers. Well, with 4 washers, it's a 140.
I just wish that the truck companies would just get together and be like, okay, you know what? We're gonna just.
It's got the right 4 holes in it. You got to be happy with that, right?
Will you talk to them for me and just
and
have
then if
them?
you want to check your wheels, chances are your wheel. If you rotate your wheels,
No.
I do sometimes.
okay. Well,
When I change-
for a
when I change-
Put on new
people
ones.
rotate their wheels when they see that it's coned, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
local.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back in
But
the
usually
day.
when people are in my shop and I check their wheels, I'll go like, oh, this wheel's 2 millimeters smaller.
Of
Oh,
course.
it's your speed check wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's under your back toe. Yeah, it's,
Oh, okay.
you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to rotate your wheels. You want to keep everything in balance.
It's funny because that 2 millimeters it's huge.
Yeah.
No, it is.
huge.
Like if you look at it and say, hey, it's a 50 millimeter wheel for easy math,
Yeah.
and 2 millimeters, right? That's 4%.
48. Were you good at math in school, or is that? Did you? Was it?
Yeah, it sounds like
I'm
he is.
pretty good at math. Okay.
5 times 5.
However, I'm not 25. I'm an applications engineer, though. I'm not a book engineer. Like if you have me sit down and talk with someone that has a science book or a math book, like I'm horrible at that. Application, I'm an
Numbers though.
application
Your
engineer.
numbers. You see numbers.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see numbers. Yeah, altogether.
What's your thoughts on the twin nose and tail?
So here's my take on twin. Would you rather have a pocket knife with 1 knife or 2?
2.
Okay, so if your nose and tail are the same length and your board is drilled center in the mold and everything's symmetrical, yeah, you don't have to worry about which is which.
Right.
Hopefully you figured out how to get your trucks balanced so you don't get thrown
that's a
off by
whole
that,
thing.
right?
Right,
Because if, you know, what's in front of you, what's behind you, the loose truck, the stiff truck. But when your nose is longer, it now reacts different. So why does he do that trick off the nose? Because it's hitting sooner. And it's half a degree or 2 degrees hitting sooner. And so, you know, in general, when the average board has a longer nose than tail, and you want to hit sooner, or you're bombing a hill in San Francisco and you want to get across that driveway gap and you want to go more forward than up, just ride your board backwards. Chances are it will give you that 2% that you need.
Wow.
It's crazy. I mean, I had a situation, this is quite a few years ago, Darrell Stanton, where this is like 12 or 15 years ago. He had 2 boards in his truck, and in that era, that was very like
Rare.
that era, right?
Yeah.
You wrote, and he's like, this one's the bomb. And I'm like, what's so great about this one? He's like, well, I had this spot. There's like a parking garage over stairs, railing, grass, sidewalk, curb, street. And I look at the 2 setups, and he doesn't know he has low on one board and highs on the other board. Okay.
Yeah.
3/8 of a different wheelbase, a 1/4 inch different in tail length. And I look at it and I go, well, from looking at these combination, I project that this one's going to go 10% further forward. He starts jumping up and down. I was missing it by 2 feet for 2 years. So as long as he was jumping down 12 feet, under 18, he didn't need any help. But when it came to 20 feet, he needed his setup to be just a little bit more, right?
Huh.
But they don't teach they don't teach you that. Skaters are just
gotta
they
figure
don't.
that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I
It's
tried
weird.
to do something a few years back with IASC and try to start this skate tech thing with the trade shows when I used to go do Creative Skate there and do
Yeah.
education stuff, right? And I tried to build a foundation for that, but I just couldn't get the industry to agree. Like, we've got to work on our ego. We don't even talk about that.
I feel
shit.
like work on the ego. I feel, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I feel like maybe 70% of the skaters really don't care. They just grab a board and go.
Right.
I think there's a small percent that actually
No, there's
really
a small percent that care.
focus on
and,
that.
And my whole career, that's who I've satisfied. obviously the laser steel's been there for 15 years, but before that, people were like, oh, that prick or that round edge. This is how you tell that it's from that factory.
What did you call
right?
Raj? Oh, my bad.
Thank God for you, man. You helped out skateboarding as a whole.
That's
That's
incredible.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So thank
It's been
you.
a fun
I wish
journey.
I met you. I wanted to. I could have had a whole different career if you were in my corner.
Yeah, well, by the time you've gotten that corner, they weren't using my factory anymore.
Yeah.
Part of that sponsorship business thing, like you got to pay for the forklift and stuff, and it's like, oh, well, I can get something cheaper here now, and you know, it's either stay in business with that or go out of business. We've got to stay in business, right? Like it's hard.
It's
I mean,
tough.
the compromise of business is not easy.
What do you think the price of boards? Price of boards, they've been about the same for
Yeah,
ever.
forever.
We've had people on the show that have come and said, yes, the price of boards, they should go up. And this, it's inflation and it's been the same and everything else, this drink here and everything else is going up,
Yeah.
right? What is your take on that? Do you
I
think
wish
that
I wish it'd go up because I've been treading water for 10 years. Right?
so even
That's
the
reality.
but even the manufacturer, so if you raised your prices,
Right, brands have to raise their prices. The retail price,
with the
let's call it,
brand-
and it's
but-
been starting to happen, but a lot of times it's happening where the brand's raising the prices, but the suggested retail doesn't change, and therefore the
Yes.
retailer gets now
They get hit.
Now
They
the
get screwed,
retailer
yeah.
gets hit because they don't get the margin, right?
Right.
And so there's a little bit of a. It's hard, you know. It's like in the world of business, it's collusion. You can't go do that, But at the same time, people have raised prices in the last year or two,
it's gone up a little bit, but
but
it's,
in
it
general,
hasn't.
boards are cheap. A skateboard is cheap, entertainment for a kid compared to anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like, the reality is skate parks are free, they're public, the street's free. Like, what do you need,
We need free skateboards.
Let me ask you a question though. Say a typical skate shop board,
Yep.
right? You get it for, what does that go for in this shop? $35, $40?
Depends on.
I don't know.
Depends on how competitive that market is.
Okay.
Because if there's a new shop that opened up that's selling them $10 less, then the established shop has to adapt until they go out of business,
But-
or whatever, right?
Your boards are superior to those boards. Your boards are going to last longer. So you're kind of getting what you're paying for, right? I mean,
Yeah,
somebody
well-
that buys a $35 shop board, they may not be getting that quality,
Right.
right? That
yeah, well,
you're,
they don't know what they're getting because in a sense there's not even a brand standing behind it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
basically
Right.
a wood shop
It's a
or
blank.
an import manager from somewhere in the world is selling this to the shop, and on eBay they're this price, and it's like that kind of scenario, right? It's blind. You don't know that there's any integrity behind it, right?
right.
Where me, it's like I know my integrity's behind. I'm the one of the few factories in the world that make it be known. Now you still got to know that PS means PS Stix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some brands say I want it to say PS Stix. Some like Plan B boards have my signature on it, Professor Schmidt, right? It's the branding's choice how they want
Sure.
to play that, right?
Right.
But then the consumer reads into that, and in general, I've always sold stuff to the top of the market my whole career,
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't physically worn out 10 boards, you can't tell the difference in between that shop board and this board yet. You're not you're not calibrated yet.
That's
You
right.
got to physically wear out enough boards to be calibrated enough to sense it, because it's that little, right? It's not a huge gap. It's not like in '87 you went to the shop and you bought a Schmitt Stix board with a 15-degree nose or a PAL board with a 3-degree nose. Well, a great team and all, but it's like,
Yeah.
right, drastic difference there.
Sure.
Right, and the kids in the know are like, oh, this is what I'm taking.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore,
Yeah.
because now it's just the minute details.
The whole thing's fascinating. Building the board. Now, you had mentioned Lacey Baker coming in, PJ Ladd, and you said that you were working with Mike V today
Yeah.
and developing a new shape.
So there were two
Right.
new shapes we made,
2 new shapes.
and they were both based on shapes that had been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But one had someone, he has enthusiast for street plant of the street plant battalion. So a battalion member drawn up. I'd like to see that board with a nose like this. So we print out the half template for the board,
Mm-hmm.
and then we print that out, and I scale it in Photoshop, and then so we lay it down on the table and just start to draw it out. Here's the wheelbase, here's the nose and tail length. How does this fit? Wider, skinnier, and then there comes a point where we end up with a half template that's 3/4 inch thick, a particle board. I make it out of particle board because it's easy to sand and shape and form.
Can you bend it easily?
No.
No.
No, you
You're
look
just
right
looking at the shape.
Just a shape, yeah. 2D axis, like X, Y, no
Gotcha.
Z, right? Like
Yep.
the mold is when there's a Z,
That's
right?
okay.
The blank.
Yeah.
You know? And so then we do that, and then I'll make a template with that. So I'll drill out a big, thick a piece of 1.125" maple plywood that I make for templates, sort of wood that had cracks or knots or whatever, and works fine for templates. you
Okay,
know?
yeah.
So I do that, and then pin it up and whole procedure, and route one side, flip it, route the other side, get it perfectly symmetrical, you know.
Up to this
And
point, how long is this? How long does that take? Is that a half a day, couple hours?
We worked on 2 boards today and did them in 4 hours.
Completed the process.
Completed the process. They're ready to run production. I could
He was
Oh, wow.
I could take the template to the factory tomorrow and make those 2 boards.
he was happy with it.
Yeah.
Now, when Mike V comes in, Mike V probably already has a blueprint in his mind. Is that true, or are you guys working together
he's showing me. He emails me something. Here's what the street plant battalion member made for this shape.
Okay.
You know, I asked him last week, hey, what templates do we work from? Because if we work from an existing template, then we might be using that tail, or we might be using the wheelbase, we might be using the nose or tail or the nose shape, right? So by having that, I have like these pieces, right? And it might be I want the nose of this, the tail of that, but I want to change the wheelbase to this. Well, now I can be a lot more accurate when I have the template. Today we did a paper printouts because I didn't go to the factory last week, so I didn't bring back the templates.
Oh.
And then he gave me what he wanted, and the factory sent me a picture of the template, and I scaled it in Photoshop, printed it out, and you know, it was something we made a while ago that didn't become production because someone had been stuck on, and it was a street plant battalion member wanted their short nose. They were trying to get back to the 80s, but then they wrote it, and it's like, that ride's so good. So it's part of that
The reason
whole
why
thing.
boards evolved.
Yeah, you can't.
Right, there's a reason why things evolve, exactly. So a lot of times I see it where they're sort of like, are you trying to be historically accurate? Okay, that's what I made for the mid-90s movie. Perfectly historically accurate.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Was it the best rider for the riders now? No.
Right.
Okay. And some brands out there do their history stuff that's historically accurate, right? And then, you know, square rails suck, or, you know, that no concave sucks. You know, it doesn't ollie good. You know, might be great for a poser shot or a mall grab or something like that.
Or Luan.
Right. You never know. But I could take any board. When someone comes to me, I'll usually take the board they're riding and modify it first. So what don't you like about this? Well, I'm having a hard time with my tray flips. Do a couple of tray flips. And I go in the shop, take the back truck off, re-drill it, and modify it. And the tray flip, like, yeah, that's what I want.
So
So what I'm saying is, even an old board like that,
yeah.
if the holes were drilled right and things were positioned right, you can still pull it off.
So Mike V comes in, very particular, wants a certain thing, got it in mind,
Yeah.
works with you, got the shapes going and everything. Person like me comes in, right? Just no knowledge of wheelbase, this, that, or the other.
Right.
How would we work together? How would you start
So the best way is, let's look at your board.
the current board that I'm riding?
Current board you're riding.
Okay.
You know, you mind doing some manuals and some ollies in the parking lot? It's crusty, but can you do that?
That's
you know?
okay, yeah.
Well, what's not working for you right now? Is it too hard to pick up the nose or too easy to pick up the nose? Okay. And to some people, be like they don't even know that, but when they feel it, like I'll have someone be like, I'm like, your nose manual isn't working right. And like, I don't care. I don't really nose manual anyways. And then an hour later, they're still nose manualing around the parking lot. I'm like, can I fix that for you? You're doing this on your nose manual and your tail manual. You're just locked, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Then it's like, oh, down the parking lot, around the corner of the building. They come back and say, yeah, I like it that way. But they can't see it because it's just the way they skateboard every day, right? You know? But the problem is, too, that if I make it more hyper, you might have lost some finesse. If I make it with more finesse, you might have lost some hyper.
So how do you describe finesse and hyper? What exactly does finesse mean?
You're a great example of the finesse generation, right? The mani pad generation.
Mani
That's
pad,
finesse,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it more concave or steeper for power?
It's really more about the leverage from the truck holes to the bend and how easy it is to pick up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what truck brand you ride. because where your axle sits within it
Okay.
becomes part of it.
Huh.
So I was saying with Lacey earlier, she's like, well, I rode Vanessa's board. I'm like, yeah, but it's got these trucks.
She's got different
But
trucks.
then I checked the math of the trucks, put it in the wheelbase. She's like, yeah, that's great.
You know the math of the trucks already, I'm assuming.
In general, yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Yep. Periodically, I'll go in the shop, measure a bunch of trucks.
Well,
and
we
go
just
like,
found out
here's the
today
type.
that these are, it's not a 149, it's
Yeah,
a
well,
137. I don't, know.
high
I don't
can-
even remember what it was.
A high can become a low if you tighten it enough, right?
Okay. Yeah, there you
Right?
go.
Like, so it's like there's the crazy thing about skateboarding, there's adaptability everywhere, right? So for instance, if you come to my shop and we modify your board,
Yep.
I want to watch you do the first trick or two.
Warming up.
No, the first trick or two after the change.
Oh, after the change.
Because 5 tricks in, you've already adapted to that change.
Okay.
Because you adapt to a spot.
Yeah.
There's a crack.
Sure.
There's pebbles. There's sunlight giving me glare. Skateboarding is all about adapting. You're adapting everywhere, right?
Every day. Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every time you ride, you're adapting.
Right.
So when your product then gets tuned to the right place,
Yep.
then your adaptation is set, right? Like that, I don't need to worry about that piece.
Usually, I mean, myself, I find the shape that I like, the width, everything, and I've been riding that board for 7-8 years.
And I have guys that have been on lock for many years on the same thing. And then some are like every 6 months or a year or
They
two or
switch it
three,
up.
they switch it up. Hey, I rode my buddy's board and there was something I liked about it. I'm like,
Right.
well, which board is it? Okay, yeah, okay. Well, what trucks does he ride? Okay. That bulge more hyper. He's in a different mold than you are. The molds make a world of difference because that's the curves and the surfaces, right?
So if Raj, if he rides, he rides tensors,
Love 'em.
and magnesiums,
and
I
the tensors still lean out like Ventures and Thunders.
Yeah, they feel like a venture.
So
Right.
and I ride Independence, right? So
Okay.
am I going
and your
to
axles lean in?
now? If
So
I
when
like,
I say lean in, if you look at the axle right here to the truck hole, right?
Okay.
So that's what really matters. So if you look at a Thunder or a Venture, as you look this way, you'll see that the axle's over here. It's
Yeah.
like above the bolt hole.
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
get the wrench around the nut
Yeah.
I hate that
because it's that way,
Yeah,
right?
it stands up more over the pivot.
But it might not hang up. Where in Indy you got this hang zone here, right?
Oh, okay.
So, depending on what your style of skating is, and does your hanger click or hang when you feeble or K-grind or whatever you're doing, wherever you're at,
Right.
might be that your favorite spot, right? It just doesn't work good with your favorite spot. It's great everywhere else, but that hanger keeps on getting me in that
Yeah,
spot,
yeah.
You're like trying to curse the spot. It's your truck.
well, I always blame
You're
it
grinding
on.
down your bolts or whatever.
I always blame it on my board. It's never me.
Well, I've heard that
never me.
once or twice. It might have been a color of veneer in the board, might have been red or yellow. or
Everybody's got
something,
the thing, but
everybody's got their thing.
If
right?
if I step on Roger's board, I like this board. I like something about it, and then but he rides tensors, I ride indies. If I go to you and be like, hey, I like Roger's board. There's something about it. You could take
Translate it, yeah.
and translate it into indies, and you would all the. It's,
Yeah. So sometimes I'll have prior riders come to me like, oh, well, something's changed. I'm like, yeah, your trucks. They didn't even tell me.
Yeah.
Like they're coming in, like they didn't say like, hey, I got to come in. I changed my trucks, even though we've been through it enough or they know it well enough, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, now that I know that you changed your truck, are you staying here? Well, I'm not sure, or maybe,
what about wheels? Went from 50 millimeters to 53s.
Wheels are never going to give you that drastic of effect.
Yeah.
So first of all, the difference between 50 millimeters and 53 millimeters is 3, right?
Still
So-
a lot though for a wheel.
Okay,
it's a
but,
big difference.
But it's only half of that from the center of the axle to the ground. Okay.
Center of the axle to the ground. Okay.
So there's how much wheel your center of gravity raised, because that's
Right.
1.5 millimeters, not 3 millimeters, right?
That's 1.5.
Right. So that's like one ply on a board. It's like a 16th. Really
One
close.
ply on a board is about 1.5 millimeters.
1.5 millimeters, yeah. 16th of an inch.
Crazy.
And those are round numbers that,
Is this the true number, or are you giving me the 2x4?
no, it's really close, but but a 16th would be 0.0625. Okay.
Yeah.
And the millimeter, so if you go back to 1 millimeter, it is, let's see, we'll change this thing over to metric. It's so hard to get it to go the tiny little
Got it
bit.
too. It's small.
There we go, I got it. Okay, so it is 0.0395.
.0395 is
So
what?
it's under 0.04 a millimeter. Okay.
What?
So that's a millimeter in decimal.
Oh, okay, yeah. In
decimal,
inches,
okay?
right? Okay.
And for easy understanding, that's about 13 human hairs.
That's minuscule.
13 human hairs stacked on top of each other.
13.
Yeah.
All right.
Lucky number.
Yeah.
Bad color. I don't know what.
Math gives me a headache.
You know, but sometimes people will wear out a millimeter or two out of the wheel and they don't even know it because it's their speed check.
Oh,
wheel,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if you're
The
like
board's riding crooked. They're like, this board's wacky. Or someone will come in and they're like, oh, this board's not working right. I go put a ruler against the base plates and I go, yeah, look at your trucks. They're nowhere near straight.
There's nothing more frustrating for a skateboarder, like when they're in this board crisis.
Oh,
I
no.
feel like I'm kind of in it right now, again, and I don't. But I went through it a long time ago, and I've solved it, and now I feel like I'm in it again.
I could solve it.
Yeah,
Those boards I made you last year solved it for that batch, right?
Oh, that was actually amazing. He made me some S boards, he put some graphics on it, and it was amazing. I need to get more of those.
Yeah, well, Don just said, hey, can you make this? I want to do this graphic and make it for Kelly to ride for an ad or something or whatever.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll make it happen. And he's like, well, what width? And he's like, 7 7/8. And I go, okay, Kelly's from this generation. I'm going to put him in that mold. And then when I see you at Tampa, you're like, how are those boards so perfect for me? And I'm like, well, you're a skater from that generation that rides that wheelbase in that mold. Simple as that.
You're telling me you could take whatever generation I'm from and design the perfect board for me without even seeing.
Yeah. Well, I can design what you were conditioned to grow up within, right?
Really
Okay.
changed shape in a long
Because
time,
you're
so-
conditioned, right? You're
know,
conditioned
but
by who you
still,
hang out
it's-
with. You're conditioned by what's available in the shop this year. You are conditioned by the tricks that are in the video that came out this year.
So if I wanted to get, could you make more? And then I'll
Oh, I
gladly
can
pay.
make. I got a serial number on it.
Yeah,
I know
serial
exactly
number. Yeah. This is
Maybe we can go down there and watch it
anything
get
I've
made or
made the
something.
last 15 years, I just type in the number and go, that's what he likes about this board. It's not the shape, it's the mold. Because it's got a 1/2 inch more wheelbase in his wheelbase or whatever it is, right? It's just math, you know? I'm just looking at the math and then trying to put it in the right zone, right? And the more feedback I have, so if someone ollies and mangles around, all the more, right?
What about a slappy guy like Raj?
Slappy guy's
I
fine.
used to be an ollie guy.
It used to be. He hasn't
Yeah.
clicked his tail in 2 years. But I mean, even a slappy, Matt, everything matters.
Everything matters. He doesn't even know that he wants a shorter tail, so he can get to really whip
Doesn't even
around.
know.
He might not even know.
I don't ride my board backwards.
Professor.
Yeah.
You started to?
I have been for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
And that board.
We gotta get you down there,
Is
Raj.
the mold symmetrical or is the shape symmetrical?
Nose is definitely longer.
Okay, so you're liking the tail. So what's happening is your nose is hitting sooner. That's why you're riding it backwards. And that's a characteristic that you like. And if you shortened it up, then obviously it would hit later. It would go higher in the air, right? So like that angle you set on your board and like, oh, that looks weird. Because you look on that 80s board and you're like, that's weird. It looks like rocket power. It's going straight up,
Yeah.
right?
That's funny is Luis Cruz gave me the mold that Day One was riding because like he had like a special mold when he was at like almost whatever.
Yeah.
And the tail was like super flat.
Yeah.
And for some reason I just fucking loved skating that board.
Yeah.
But lately like the boards I'm riding like have huge tails and everything else and
You can't find a good one, huh?
yeah.
Right. Well, you can counteract it any which way. So it can be counteracted by the mold, by the tail length. The wheelbase within the mold has a sweet spot for whoever you're trying to satisfy.
Are you guaranteeing Raj a longer feeble grind on the?
I can probably guarantee a stabler get into it. And then if you're stabler into it, you'll probably get more out of it, right? That's the reality, you know? But trying to understand where that stability issue is, right?
That's right. Right.
You know?
And
And
that's
sometimes,
where-
and people don't want to hear when you tell them to change their wheels. So I told you that story about Darrell Stanton, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for a couple years, whenever I'd see Darrell, he'd been on lock on 53s for like, I've been on 53s for years. And I'd see him as like, I'm riding 52s today, or I'm riding 54s. The easiest way to change the way your setup works is change your wheel diameter.
That's crazy.
It's true.
And it's the thing that people won't change. Like, I'm stuck on this size. And it's like, you want to get on that high hubba, you think those small, lightweight wheels are going to help you, right? But you can't get high enough.
gonna
You need to
counter-
put big diameter wheels on your board so it takes longer for the tail to hit. Your board's heavier, you're going to go higher up. Now, you could also say, I'm going to put some riser pads on my board. ooh, I want to ride riser pads. I don't know. You know?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Cody Mack and Matt Berger ride riser pads, and they're street league level,
They're
right?
doing
Like,
fine, yeah.
part of that math of getting that zone in place, right?
Yeah.
So you can do it different ways. But the easiest thing to do is change your wheels.
At the same time, it's the hardest thing to do because change.
Get used to it, yeah.
Skater, you got to use
Well, your
to
center
it,
of gravity
right?
changes, and that's a very interesting thing, and how you sense the ground and around you, right? So being an older skater, I used to always ride riser pads my whole life, and probably 8 or 10 years, I put some big wheel wells in my board and started riding no riser pads with 60s. And I love it. My center of gravity's lower. I feel the vibration through my board, that when you have riser pads, you get that dampening, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that dampening can be good or bad, right?
Yeah.
To me, I found out I liked it, you know, and that's what I ride. You know, now I also took and had 4 identical setups with 60s, 58s, 56, 54s, and rode them. I used to have a bowl in my backyard. And in that bowl, because it wasn't vert or anything, I couldn't go any faster or better on, none of the wheels didn't matter, you know? So it's like I do tests like that all the time. I'll set up multiple setups.
The thing that
and
sucks
see what I feel from it.
is trying to switch up. Yeah, the last thing a skater wants to do is have a bad day,
Right.
right? And trying to do new things can lead to a bad day of skating, you know, and it's a total mind.
But if you go in the mindset of like, hey, I wanna achieve this today. I want to do something new today.
You got to be in the experimental phase.
You have to be in the experimental phase.
Yeah.
And as a pro, that's like, I don't have to film a video this month. I'm not going to a contest next week.
Let's figure
Like,
this out, right?
I was just in the van for a month. I'm worn out right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like it's different for different people, you know, and that perspective, you know.
I'd love to just come down there and just, I bring my board and I just want you to watch me and just see what you see, you know?
Yeah.
You could change my whole career, you know?
Maybe, I don't know. You've
We
already
can bring
had
it
a good
back.
one.
You could bring it back. Yeah.
I don't know. There's this generational relevance thing. See some of those new guys, they're not settling.
Listen, I don't want to jump down some rails. I just want to have
They're
fun.
not settling for Manny Land only, you know.
We got to get Chris back up on that stage, dude. That's where we got to get him to.
Yeah.
What stage? At the courthouse?
Yeah.
Can't get up on the stage anymore?
He needs bigger
No,
wheels.
I can't.
Let's just get some riser pads at least. We'll get you up there. So
I'm down. I'll try anything.
So check out a thing. If you Google, I did something on Ride Channel a couple of years ago about how to ollie higher.
Okay.
And riser pads. And there's this kid, Spencer Newsy. Hey, Spencer. And he would do these YouTube videos, you know, with that group.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he was willing to be my guinea pig. I'm like, I can make you ollie higher, you know? And, you know, stacked up boards and this and that. And, you know, basically got him another board in height by giving him riser pads. But Hip and Cool was never going to let him have riser pads, right? And then he goes through the adaptation of it. But Google that. Anybody that wants to understand this leverage and wheel size or riser pads and how that fits, there's a really good piece. And I was super stoked when we did it, but it was sort of like the kind of thing that they were like, that took too much time to create for the revenue stream that
Sure.
it creates.
Right.
You know, that was a challenge. So we actually filmed 2 episodes and they only edited 1 and got 1 out.
Oh, wow. But it's online right now.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll put the link in the description. People can
do
go
for
check
sure.
it out. Yeah.
Check it out. I send pro skaters to it all the time because I was like, now you've been through some of this, go watch this because then it will mean something.
Can't I just ride bigger millimeter wheels without the riser pad?
Yeah, you could, but your boards could be heavier.
Ah.
Okay.
See, this is why I need the professor around. I need you because my ideas suck.
Just give him a ring,
And then
dude.
even part of the diameter of a wheel as well is that center of gravity, but it's also that feeling of vibration, right? The smaller wheel has a different resonancy to it
Get
because
that,
that
yeah.
energy's got a lesser distance to travel, right?
Right.
You know, even the size of a wheel, how wide it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like to see your wheels stick out from your board or not see them?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
So the less you can see your wheel, the easier your board will flip.
Oh, the less you can see
yeah,
it
yeah.
because of the
leverage.
The
It's
leverage.
basically, the edge of the board is a lever, and if you can't see the wheel, then the leverage is better. If you can see the wheel, the leverage is less, right? So go back to the 80s, you could see all the wheels hanging out all over the place, and our progression wasn't happening.
They're not
right?
flipping their boards, right?
Right.
Huh. I used to have trucks that would stick out like Frankenstein because I thought it was a easier grinding surface.
Yeah.
You know, easier to get on a crooked grind or these
and
tricks.
it may be for that thing, but then the compromise, it's not
The
as good
flip,
for this, right?
right,
So even the shape of your wheel, if you ride a wheel that's got a big round radius, your flip is going to be slower. If you ride one that has a sharp radius, you're going to put more energy in it. When it goes, then it's going to go more, right? It's just math. People are like, man, I love this shape of this wheel. They stick with the same shape, just like the diameter, right? Yeah. They don't know why. Nobody explained it to them because the people that explain things are too busy talking about egos to talk about substance, right?
What about like really thin wheels though?
What about them?
I mean, like
a wide truck with a thin wheel.
Yeah,
you can see the edge of your board. You can get what Chris is asking for.
You can flip it or grind. I don't know what
it's really about the edge of your board.
Yeah.
You know.
But I see some wheels that are like
so
really
where's
thin.
your board?
Chris does
a popsicle over there in the corner or something.
My board?
Yeah.
It's in my bike over there. The trunk of my. No, it's at home.
I got one over there, but it's a size 8. I don't know.
What do you mean the edge of the board?
So grab me that. That's a complete fitting by you, Kelly. What's that one in the corner there?
Is this the stuff you're talking
about?
No,
the one next to
I saw that one. The Mark Johnson one.
This one's weird. This one's really
okay.
Really
take that sticker.
Right,
take that note off.
I'm just going to use it just as an example, right?
Okay.
Just to talk about
Some fan
this.
sent this in. It was covered with beer.
Right here, the energy to flip this board. This board, you can't see the wheels. The trucks are narrow.
Yep.
See how easy?
Oh yeah.
It tips like
That's
this, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's going to be easier to flip.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Get that leverage.
But if I put a wider truck on that, so the riding surface of the wheel compared to the edge, right?
Yeah.
So the further the edge is away from the riding surface, the bigger leverage you have to flip it.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Now you still obviously got to have your body in the right position, and everything else has to be set up.
Yeah.
But you're framed, right? And someone with the skills can overcome any of that, right? You know, that's really what being pro is, right? You got the skills to deal with it.
Right.
You know.
So this this is the easier board to flip. Now put some longer trucks on there. So it's a whole thing.
Or a square wheel.
Yeah.
A square wheel is going to have the riding surface out on the edge now.
Right.
Right? It's going to be harder to flip. Now, whether it's enough to matter for you and your skill, that's the situation, right?
What about the board's flat? Like the concave, is it easier to flip if it's...
I feel in my perspective, I look at board width as a preference, and I really find that concave across is really a preference. And in general, it's going up. People are wanting more concave, you know?
Really?
And more concave makes a board be stronger, okay? But it also gives it a resonancy, a flex and come back type of thing. So let me see that board. I'll explain
there
something
used
more.
to be, I think maybe even Seek, but the alien boards back in the day were concave. They were super steep.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved the steep. I'd put chocolate, get an alien board, put chocolate stickers on them.
There you go.
Don't tell Rick or Mike.
Okay. So here's a
that
little
tool?
gauge.
What is this tool?
So this is a gauge. Let me see. I can't see it, but I'm
says
trying to
error.
It says error?
Oh, no, there it goes. Okay, 0.6.
Okay, so which one's the home line? Let me just do it from my
What is this?
my view.
What kind of tool
This
is
is a tool that I created a couple years ago trying to solve that puzzle called PJ Lat.
Wait a minute, you invented this tool?
Well, no, this is a little tool that I put on a table saw blade to tell the angle of the blade.
Oh.
So I just put some bigger magnets on it to tell the angle of the board, right?
Oh, you're putting them on the bolts. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So the magnets hold the bolts. So
Yeah.
So this particular board has a 32.8 degree angle. This is very Manny space,
This is
right?
very manual and
very
oriented.
finesse construction
Okay.
because in general most pros now are riding 35 to 37.
Oh, okay.
Now, mind you, that
Now-
a fan sent us this board and claims that it was Mark Johnson's board. So at one time, this was Mark Johnson's board.
So here's this little gauge. So does it read proper right now?
33.8.
Right. So then if we go this way,
This was the nose you were doing. Now
Right.
you're going to do the tail.
right. Okay, so here,
Let me guess, 32.7.
33.1. Because the tail's probably a little longer,
Right.
maybe a little shorter,
A little
excuse me.
shorter, right.
You know, and nose a little longer.
Oh, he's
And then
getting,
we
what,
could
are you getting out now?
validate
He's
that.
getting his tape measure.
You don't live life with tape measure?
No, no,
Cell phone,
no.
keys, wallet, no
Tape
tape
measure.
measure. 6 and 7/8. So nose is longer, right? This mold looks like it also could be steeper on this end.
Yeah. But it also depends where.
Well, here's where your steeper comes in. Look at the fingers of flat.
Yeah.
It could be shifted forward a hair.
Where are your fingers all right now? I can't really sense.
At the end of
So
the
so I'm
bolts.
the end of the
sensing.
bolts.
So I'm sensing that the truck holes, right, and the
like you're
fingers
doing
are
a
flat.
Ouija board
so I
right
got
now.
one finger that's absolutely in the flat, right, and this comes from pro skaters telling me I want more fingers of flat in the '90s.
Oh, yeah?
And they look
Okay.
at me now and go, huh? And then on Instagram they go, can you pull a tape measure out? And I'm like, I always have my fingers with me everywhere I go. Okay. But here you can see I'm pretty much like 1.5, 1 5/8 fingers to the center of the bend.
Okay.
But it's hard to even get that from a tape measure
right.
to know what that is.
Yeah.
It's actually easier to use with a finger.
Have you measured your fingers? Do you know the
Well, I know, an inch, the average width of a man's thumb is an inch, and like some king somebody back 500 or 1,000 years ago set that rule. That was inches. The
Really?
average width of a man's thumb.
Let me see your caliper, Larry. Let me see this thing.
So let's
Hold on,
see,
Let me
yeah.
see. I want to see if this is true.
So,
Measure my thumb. There. I got big knuckles, by the way.
Okay, we're going to 892. So you're under an inch.
I'm under an inch.
Okay.
That's the only thing I'm going
How big is
to.
Roger's thumb?
That's the only thing I'm going to allow you to measure.
That's
the only thing I'm gonna allow you to measure.
My thumb is 946. Okay.
Roger's thumb.
Rogers 920.
So it's
So we're all under
it's
an
a
inch.
good. You,
But
thank
see,
God we're all in the same boat.
10%, within 10%
Wait till you measure
accuracy,
mine.
back 1,000 years ago was pretty
Actually, we
good,
should.
right?
What, I'm sorry. What I was focused on us being under an inch. No, but
No, but the gap in between that is very little, right?
Right.
The gap is very little. So it's like it's calibrated within 5%. I can't get the lines in a tape measure to be accurate enough to get the 5% distance there of my finger.
and as a I mean, let me see. 2 fingers. I don't even know what this means.
Right,
You
so
know,
you're center
I-
of that hole to the center of the bend, right? And you're about 1 5/8 fingers, the same as I was.
Yeah. My fingers are smaller than yours, though.
Not much.
I don't get it. I think I need to come down there and really get a Professor Schmidt.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to go to the stage in Santa Monica, and I'll bring a drill and a couple tools, and we'll just fix it online,
Wow.
live in sight, because I don't have.
But it's my
that.
body that can't do it. It's not my board. It's my body. I don't have
and
the
as long
mus-
as I'm not there to help solve the problem, it's real easy to go, well, that's not solvable,
I
right?
don't have the muscles in my legs.
Glad you admit that.
Be
though.
funny though. It'd be a good. I mean, I would be down to try it.
Right.
You know?
I think you could ollie up it if you.
I could ollie up it.
Yeah.
You know.
How tall is that thing? Like 24 inches?
I think it's like 27.
27 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, it's under the.
It's weird. 'cause
Under
that
board
doesn't-
height.
Yeah, it's like 27, I think, around there.
Interesting.
Right, but it's still not a picnic table.
What is
It's
Against
it's
picnic
higher.
table.
It's higher than a picnic table.
I think it's a. I think it's a little bit higher. It's
Yeah.
a little bit
Little
higher.
think it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By 2 fingers, 3 fingers. Maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's under an inch.
Who knows?
I think it's under an inch.
Who knows?
It's a thumb.
Yeah. So if you want to understand the fingers of flat thing on my Instagram, look for #fingers of flat, and there's lots of stories.
Oh,
where
you
I
hashtag
explain
them.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Fingers of flat.
Yeah.
Fingers of flat.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. If you check my Instagram, you'll find it somewhere, and then
Mm-hmm.
I always tag it. Like the things that I talk about, triangle of leverage is in there a bunch of times.
I need
How
at
many-
least 3.5 fingers of flat.
3.5 fingers of flat.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's more than the wand.
I'm telling you, Raj. Raj is the one who should get a
I
Professor
can make it.
Schmidt
It's no
board.
problem.
He's a picky motherfucker.
Then I
No,
can
he's
make it
definitely
over and
Roger's
over and
not
over.
picky.
He's picky.
I'll write- I'll
dude.
write-
Have
whatever.
you seen when he's been riding lately? He rode a toy machine board that was crazy shaped, like super flat. Now he's riding an FA. It's board that's steep as shit. He doesn't really care.
I think he cares a little bit.
He's having fun with adaptation, right? There's a
I
certain
switched,
place.
I switched it because things weren't working.
I'm way more pickier than he is.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah, but that willingness to try and adapt, right?
We
But
all- yeah.
The learning is always the gap in between two things. It's never the far end. It's the space in between, right? So it's like, when something doesn't work, I always look at it and go like, well, 180, go the other direction, right? And then you'll sort of find the gap in between. Somewhere you'll close into figuring that out, whatever it is.
Well, we're glad you can help people or skaters find this stuff out.
Crazy.
You might-
Without you, I don't know what people would do.
I don't know.
Serious though.
It might have been different without me, or it might have taken longer to get where we got.
I think it would.
don't know.
I think it would take a lot longer. I think
for
we
sure.
wouldn't be where we are right now without you.
The reality is, having been from the East Coast and the struggle to get to California, or how hard you had to work to do it, right? And it gave you this certain awareness, right? And I've seen it with many pros over the years, that sort of were willing to work hard enough to break that barrier. It's not much of a barrier anymore. It used to be a huge one, right? And that lets you look at things different,
I think we're just given people that innovate and change. And skateboarding was given you.
I'm lucky I found skateboarding, I'll tell you that.
You had a lot to do with where we're at right now.
Hell
in
yeah. True,
skateboarding.
yeah.
Definitely.
100,000%.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's amazing.
We all thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it still doesn't change the base effect. The best part about skateboarding is, you know what it is? You're
The 1 inch
rolling.
rule?
You're rolling. There's vibration through your feet. Maybe a little air on your face. You're moving,
fun.
right?
Yes.
Like you decided what you ride: long, short, wide, fat, plastic, whatever, right?
As long as you're cruising around.
As long as you're moving and flowing, right? You decide where you're at. All the freedom of choice, right? You decide who you're at. You decide where you're at, who you're with,
Where you're going?
what you're going to do. The ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
That's the best part about skateboarding. It's almost like that push in between the trick, that like the trick is the pinnacle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the joy is that just fluidity, that movement,
Just getting there.
so
wherever that may be.
That's been there ever since people took roller skates on 2x4s, back, many years ago, 40s and 50s that started. But they had the scooters that they sort of break the handle off,
Sure.
right?
Back to the Future.
Right,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
That's where
The
it all
reality
started.
is
That's
that
where it all started.
you look how long it took. The roller skate, the 4-wheel quad skate, was patented. I think it was 1856 by a furniture guy in New York City.
Really?
The what was patented?
The roller skate.
Oh, the roller
that
skate.
got broken down to make the skateboard, and then it took a roller skate company, Roller Sports, which is still in business in Illinois,
Wow.
not in California, to make the world's first commercial skateboard.
Wow.
Because people were taking apart their roller skates, right? So skateboarding started from innovation from the start. Break a roller skate, make a crate out of it.
Yeah.
The crate falls off. I made a reproduction board last year, and I've been searching when I'm like in Central California, I go to skate camp, like barn sales and stuff. I always had a hard time finding the right crate. And this one day I was at a place and I found a tall crate. I was like, can I swap this crate for that one? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Took it back to my shop, took it apart, nailed it, glued it, straightened out the nails, fixed it. Had to look era accurate, right? Took some old pallet wood from behind my shop that had been in the sun for 5 years and made the board and the T-handle for it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was riding it at the Van skate park.
With the handles on it?
With the handles. A presentation with some like
Like,
sales.
get out of here, scooters.
Okay.
sales meeting. And I go to turn for the first time
Oh, no.
and I got crate bite.
You got crate bite.
The crate bite. So before wheel bite was crate bite.
Yeah.
And the skateboard got created. The story is that the crate got busted off. But I didn't know it was because of crate bite until I experienced crate bite.
For yourself.
Yeah, so if you come down the shop, you can ride this board. It's got metal wheels, and you can get some crate bite in.
I'd love to get crate bite. Wow.
Crop bite.
It's incredible. Where do you think skating's going to be in 10 years?
Here. It ain't going anywhere. I mean, when I was a kid, they're like, oh, it's a fad. It's like the hula hoop. It's going
Right.
away, right?
Right.
And so you realize that skateboarding in the 60s went through that phase, okay? And it had a high and then a low, and it did in the 70s again, right?
It's a
and then,
wave.
And
It's
then
a
the
wave.
80s. You know why?
Innovation.
Boredom?
A little bit, but what it really is the first half of the last century, people were born based on wars and recessions.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have these huge generation swings, and then a family would have 3 to 6 kids, and they would have them in their 20s, okay? And it changed, where, in the modern world now, it's like they'll have 1 to 3 kids, and they'll have them in their mid to late 30s, right? When they're prepared to be a parent and they got income for toys. But is that cycle keep on evening itself out, right? And when we came out of the 80s, we felt a slight bit of it in the start of the 90s, but not much. And then it's just evened out all the more ever since, right? It's been very constant from the 90s on.
Yeah.
And that's because the generation cycles, the boom and bust, the people being born and economics and wars and all that type of stuff, they stopped affecting what's happening. That's really what got skateboarding to be established. Now, as we go in this Olympic mode, it's going to be a whole new thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be those that weren't paying attention. You got to realize in the 60s, a skateboard was a surfing related thing, generally coastal.
Right.
But a roller skate company in Illinois made it, and other people made it as well, right? And Chicago trucks were out there, and it's like, you know, that happened, and Mid-America got the bites of it in the 60s, you know. But in the 70s, when it really got around everywhere, right? You know. Wow. And then in the 80s, it really became, you know, the everywhere. Where, you know, up into the 80s, you could live and not even know a skateboard existed.
True.
Right? Where now a kid, you can't. That's not the case. I can remember years ago, we were working on our Costa Mesa skate park. I'm talking like 20 years ago. And city council meeting, and the viewpoint of the council and the age. And this one little reporter girl, she was like 28 or something, new in newspaper reporting. And she just could not understand the perspective of these older people, because the first time she ever went out in the neighborhood, someone came by on a skateboard, whether she chose to rose it or not.
Right.
But that old person on the city council at that time didn't choose to ride it, didn't choose to accept it, didn't choose to acknowledge it. So the acknowledgement that's going to happen with the Olympics is going to be interesting, just as what's happened with public skate parks, right?
Right.
And then the male-female dynamic. In the 60s, female was a big thing in skateboarding. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was there, but very, very minuscule.
Sure.
And as we got into 2000s, it's like, I can't go to the skate park and not skate with girls.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a whole different thing. And after the Olympics happens, that's going to happen more. Yeah. And you see, you know, countries out there having their Olympic team and traveling around the world and going to events. And, you know, you see that. Like, you see, like, Eric Kirkwood's taking those kids from Taiwan all around the world, right?
That's right, yeah.
Skate camp buddy. And he's like,
camp.
he's teaching kids how to skateboard, and now he's the Olympic coach for that country, and they're everywhere. It's like, oh, my gosh.
How do you think that, since the Olympics are happening, how is it going to affect the skateboard industry, like where you work, where you make skateboards?
Well, I think in the activity, I don't think it matters, okay? If you want to jump a fence, drain a pool, skate an alley, it's not going to change any of that, okay? Right. If you decide you don't want to go to skate parks and all you want is a mani pad, that's all you want, right? So you still get to make your own choice.
Right.
Okay.
But do you think it'll help, or how do you think it'll affect your business?
I hope it can be positive, but the reality is that ever since 2000, the skateboard industry has been a commodity.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's part of that establishment thing. I remember very much like 2000-ish, like Y2K and all that excitement of like what's going to happen, you know? And it's like, and I remember watching X Games that year and seeing that it's now 5 years in and it's in control of the media of our industry. It's in control of our public perception. Our industry didn't want to acknowledge it, probably still doesn't want to, but they are, right?
It's true.
You know, and that viewpoint. But then also that changed it. Now public companies got in the industry, and you know, the commoditization of things. You know,
right?
Business was easy till 2000, in my perspective.
Yeah.
Ever since, it's been really hard.
Huh. Okay. It's fascinating, man.
So does it help? I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah.
The reality is, as a consumer, you know, you buy things and you vote with your dollars, right? So what are you going to vote for? You know, something that you appreciate, and that might be a brand, a pro, a graphic. It might be a board from this factory. It might be whatever piece it is. You know, you have to have an emotional buy. You're not spending that money, right?
Man, just we could talk for 4 more hours about all this. It's crazy, but ultimately nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
It's skateboarding is just on this path that it's just going
as an activity is very healthy.
Sure.
Right? Okay. As the business is very challenging. You know, you see retailers. You know, retail as a business place is challenging. Just like trying to make web and sales and that interface and that customer service vehicle is challenging, right?
Everybody's kind of scrambling.
Yeah.
Right. Without knowing.
And you would think that with all the technology, it would just get easier and easier. And it just
Right.
gets harder and harder. You know, but the barrier to entry is so low, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, we can make a skateboard company right now.
Yeah.
Put it on Instagram, get a logo, do all that. We got boards. We're good. I mean, it's happening every day.
Right. It happens every day. And there's nothing better to you than local pride.
Sure.
So a shop board is local pride in that skate shop.
Right. Yeah,
That
yeah.
little brand is local pride. That regional brand that is going to just drive. They're only going to sell it within the distance of what they can drive to contests and stuff of.
Yeah.
Because they'll go to that town way more than the girl team's going to visit,
Oh,
right? Or the
totally.
team's going to
Yeah,
visit.
exactly.
Once every couple of years, it's like they're there at every contest.
Right,
So it's
right.
like that's really cool and healthy, but it's healthy for him. But really, it's just his hobby, right? Because most skateboard business, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not really a business. The public company side, well, that has to be business.
Sure, sure.
But so many little brands is really a hobby, and it's like,
Yeah.
and,
But
and
they're-
it's hard to graduate from a hobby to a business, and then be careful for what you want is right.
Right.
It's like Mike V works out of his garage. He doesn't want to have a forklift or a warehouse.
Yeah.
When he came to me 5 years ago and said, I want to start this brand, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, you just got to make it flow, he's like, give me 500 boards. I'm like, I can't give you credit for 500 boards, I'll give you 100, and I'll give you 100 more next week, and 100 more next week, and
Okay.
pay the bill and turn it around, right?
Right.
But it was a case of, but still, what he does is a hustle.
Yeah.
You look at how he has to run his social media and be on it, and it's a personalized skateboard with his signature that you're getting,
Totally. It's amazing.
and that perspective, right? And you can't buy that somewhere else. Nobody else is giving what he's giving, right?
So true. Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah.
Huh. He taught me street plants.
All right.
Yeah. I taught him the crab walk. Should check it out. It's a good video. It's a good video.
I saw the
It's a
street
good
plant thing,
video.
but the crop
Yeah.
walk isn't registering for some
It's
reason.
you probably didn't make it through the whole video. Okay, so now we got new deal, 30 years. You guys guys just came out with product like a month ago or
Yeah.
something, right? You've been promoting the whole 30-year thing, my new deal story. It's amazing.
We sort of started working on it a little over a year ago.
It's incredible.
And putting the pieces together, to do the 30-year relaunch. Steve's sort of been pushing on me for years. Hey, let's do it. I'm like, I don't need a distraction from my real job. Eventually, we got a distraction from the real job, but it's been a lot of fun, right?
It looks like you guys are really having fun.
We're having fun with it, but the consumer has to vote with their dollars to make the business
This is
work,
true.
And there's multiple stages to that business, right? So, a shocker to a lot of people, the heritage stuff, I'm not building it or selling it.
What do you mean?
Dwindle sells it and builds it.
DSM.
Oh, you're not making the boards.
Not the heritage line.
Oh.
Okay. There's multiple lines.
Got you.
Okay. But we didn't want to go try to develop a system to deliver to every country around the world, to all the people that appreciated that brand. And people were like, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it. No, there's a whole distribution system. We'll get it out there. You had to pre-plan.
Wait a minute, don't you have a distribution system?
No, I just make boards.
you
Right.
Got you.
I don't.
Okay.
I've been out of the branding distribution thing for many years.
Right.
We didn't really get into that, but sort of like when Giant wind down in the '90s,
You turned into the
2000s,
you're just
I
manufacturing.
just focused on manufacturing.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So you had to go with somebody else for the distribution.
So we did that to get it every crook and cranny around the world, but also making a business deal that works with licensing,
Right.
and payments and prepayments and deposits, so we could build the system, right? So we basically got somebody else's system to let us build a system.
Okay.
Okay, that's what it comes down to. Now we have another product line called WTF that's just been shipping here as well in the last month. That's boards that I built, and it's a line of 9 boards that are all very different.
Yep.
From 12-inch wheelbase to 16-inch wheelbase, from 7.5 wide, 9.5 wide, like some of it being very like norm 8 1/4 popsicle to not norm, right? Like all of it,
This is one of them over here, right?
Yeah,
the
so that's
30-year.
That's my founder's model.
Founder's model. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. Is Armando
so that's-
Barajas going to come out with a part or a board? Or anything?
Not sure yet, but
Okay.
Steve had a great meeting with Armando.
Oh.
Armando loves what's going on. He's
Amazing.
just busy in life.
Yeah.
And can't get into anything right now. You know?
Okay. Just making sure.
I know I interacted with him a couple years ago, and I was sort of surprised when we started. So I couldn't get him to respond, but then when he finally did, I love what's going on there. I'm totally cool with it all.
It's amazing.
I just can't get in the middle of it right now.
Yeah.
But because we're doing 30 years, it's 30 years for 3 years in a row. Okay. So people are like, well, I want that Justin Gerard, well, that's not, we're doing 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's part of the excitement of it is it's going to continue to roll out, right? So you're going to see these series continue to roll, and then some will be like this Heritage series that just shipped.
Yeah.
There's another Heritage series, same shapes with a different twist, right? So like I made all the shapes for everything, and I had to interface with the other factory to get it right with their systems, and change the shifts and the drilling and the double holes and all the pieces to get everything right.
So you're saying it was the 3 exciting years at the beginning that you're
Right. We're focusing on the 3 exciting years.
Oh,
yeah, because
okay,
the brand basically went into, I don't know, 2000 or 2001. But honestly, after Andy left, it was a Me Too brand. And it was in business to be in business. It wasn't generationally relevant. It wasn't exciting the market,
Right.
Now, I could say that, but then when things came out on Instagram, someone was like, I can't wait to get my New Deal lobster board. And me and Douglas were like, oh, that was like the worst of the brand.
But everything means something to everybody else.
Your first board's your first board.
Right.
So right now we're focused on that first 3 years.
Awesome.
And you'll see, every 6 months there'll be some more stuff coming out. The WTF line will continue to come out as well and build. And that's only available like in 30 shops around the world.
Wow.
And online.
How's the reception so far? Good? You guys are
Reception's
getting
been
a
great.
good,
Been lots of fun, but people got to vote with their dollars to
This is
to
true.
make it work.
Yeah. I
So
like
it's
that. Vote with the dollars.
Well, as a consumer, like you wanted to make wise choices, right?
Yeah.
You hopefully voted with your dollars to get the car you got or whatever you have in life, right?
Right.
Headphones, whatever it is.
Headphones, microphones. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when we went to the art show,
Yep.
crazy turnout.
This is packed.
Crazy.
Did you
Almost.
get in?
I didn't even get in.
I waited like 4 hours outside.
Oh, it was crazy. It blew me away when
It blew. I almost turned around and went home.
I gone up
The lines were 2 lines down either side of the
Yeah.
block. It was insane.
like that was all Andy's vision for it, and the collectors that are out there that loaned us
But that's what I'm saying.
product.
People love
right.
it.
But the whole the culmination of all that, right?
Yeah.
And Shepard's influence and Andy's relationship with Shepard in the art world, right?
Sure,
You know,
sure.
And Andy's sort of like this mysterious guy, right? The pros don't walk out at the top. Andy did. He didn't wait for it to dwindle. He was just busy doing
Yeah. Life.
like I'm engaged with this, I'm going to go do this, right? And so his art was sort of the same way, and then he would do these commercial projects and was part of like leading a lot of that skate art movement in the 90s. And then he got into being a business guy, and for 10 years he's been doing business stuff. Nobody even saw his art. Right?
Successful,
He wasn't
too.
successful.
He's got a
but-
patent as well.
Yeah.
yeah. So he wasn't playing that game, right? So it's like, so now Andy's playing the game of like, celebrate the past and enjoy it,
Right.
And still, it's like for all of us, it's just a part-time project,
Well, I'll tell you something. It's incredible because, hey, you know what? Sometimes companies, we're doing some re-releases, and they just kind of put it out there. You guys are going in. You guys are really doing like art shows and just rad stuff. You're not just like, hey, here's a couple boards. Hope you guys buy it. You're telling the story.
Re-releasing videos too, right?
Re-releasing-
or like,
Yeah.
like DVDs.
So there's a DVD
There's a
now
whole
that just
thing.
came out. It had a little bit of a false start with some problems,
Oh.
but now it's out, and it's got the promo video, 1281 useless wooden toys,
Okay.
and then a bunch of extras. So there's some edits where Andy's doing a voiceover of his part of years
sick.
ago, or Chris Hall's doing a voiceover of his part.
Chris Hall was
this
great.
place,
Wow.
this thing. I did a couple things in there. There's one about the history of video formats. Because I had to dig out the masters and go deal with all that, right? And my encyclopedia knowledge from up to New Deal and building New Deal and all that.
Right.
And there's another interview that actually talks about the New Deal videos and how we sort of got there. Because when Rocco's office moved, when the team manager moved out of my wood shop, Unreal Productions moved in, and they were in the front office, Dusty Wood Shop. And I knew Don Hoffman well already. And Don was always like, what do you think, Paul? What do you think, Paul? Because I was a generation and he was 10 years older, right? So it was, I always had that awareness, but also like, oh, we can't go there. That's way too expensive.
Yeah.
Raja, I think that's your shape right there, bro. I think you'd like
I
that.
can skate that.
Yeah? Can we get Raja board over there?
it's got the rails and everything.
Maybe, we'll see.
Vote with your cash, Raj.
That's
Vote with your
why I'm broke.
cash. No, it's incredible. Like I said, skateboarding would not be where it's at if it wasn't for you, and your innovation and your hustle and your drive. It's incredible,
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
I'm lucky I pulled it off.
It's
I keep on wondering, like, when are they going to call me a phony? And
oh, please.
I'm not going to get to play this game anymore.
No.
I remember business was hard when I moved my factory to Tijuana. I was sort of like, am I going to pull it off or not?
Oh, yeah.
Am
Did
I
you
going
get backlash for that?
Am I going to become a FileMaker programmer? Oh yeah, big time. A lot of people are mad about it. It's like, well, do you want me to be gone?
To survive. Yeah. That's what people don't understand about business.
They don't realize, that part of it. I remember I did an interview with Olson for Juice, and I saw the Juice girl like, is that interview going to come out? It's been a year and a half. And she's like, well, we're mad at you because you're moving to Mexico.
Oh, God.
Really?
And the reality was like, okay, well, I'm just adapting because that's what I've done my whole life. Adapt or die, right? And it's like, and then they ran the interview.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But it was interesting because in that era, so much of the industry was manufactured overseas with a total lie. Nobody said, hey, this is made here.
Right.
And we're just going to sell you lesser product and you're not going to know any better, or, that's just the reality of it. Like the consumer got duped. The skateboards in the 90s were way better than the skateboards in the 2000s.
Right. But the purists knew.
Because the purists knew, yeah. But it's sort of like that hot pressing. So in the 80s, 70s and 80s, skateboards were hot pressed. Mm-hmm. And the other big brands were still hot pressed in the 80s. Mm. I was cold pressed because, it's like you leave a board in a trunk, right? Like, the desert out there where there's no trees? There's a reason why there's no trees in the desert.
Right.
Wood doesn't like it when it's that warm. Yeah. Right? So when you hot press a skateboard, it's like, hey, you got this great filet mignon. You want to do it on the barbecue in 20 minutes and make it really great? Put it in the microwave for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what it's like, right? And the boards that are hot pressed in general, they have a glue that's very crystalline in nature, because that's how they make the process work.
Okay.
So they close the press, they give it a bunch of heat, they get the glue to turn to glass, take it out of the press, doesn't warp, it's good, it's got enough glass in it to not warp, right?
Okay, yeah.
Then when you ride it, you pick it up, you're like, wow, this thing's stiff, well, it's pretty nice.
Good.
And you ride it, and it's like it breaks down so quick, right? The pop goes away so fast.
Oh.
Because basically each time you land a trick, that energy is dissipating through that.
And how do you cold press?
So cold press is basically the mold is it's just cold.
Refrigerated?
No, it's just room temperature press would be the right way to say
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay.
It's not hot press, but it's room temperature press.
Oh, I thought you were feeding in like some type of coolant.
No.
Okay.
No.
Huh.
You could do that in a hot mold if you heated it first and then cooled it second, but you'd still have to have that crystalline.
Have you tried dry ice mold?
No, I haven't tried that. You got something figured out there?
I don't know. I just thought of that. Could be something good.
Tried some urethane molds back in the 80s.
Yeah?
Molds.
Hard to control the shrink rate. It was really, really heavy block of urethane.
I bet.
Shrinkage is the worst.
How to adapt to all that stuff, right?
Oh my God. This is fun. I had such a great time. Like I said, I think I have to watch this. I have to watch this episode like 3 times. There's so much information. It's incredible.
Well, thanks. I like to share. I've always liked to share. It's part of my mode. It's like sort of when the lab coat came back on for me was sort of in the Schmitt Stix eras, right? It was like I was in the background doing business, and then I would give tours of the factory in the late 90s, and people would go, it was business people, so it'd be like, hey, Schmitt Stix and this and that, and it's like, I put all the lab coat, and people are like, yeah, they related it, right? And then I literally wrote this essay of my factory tour and how we make a skateboard and how trees grow and how all this happens. Uh-huh. And then at the end, I turned that into an educational program called Create Escape.
That's right.
So this takes place at schools across North America. Mm-hmm. There's a power tools version for wood shop, industrial arts, and non-power tools version for art class, math, science, whatever.
Cool.
Sort of 5th grade and up. And they make skateboards, and they learn about the relevance of math, science, ecology, biology, physics, engineering, artistry, because a skateboard doesn't exist if all that doesn't collide together. Yeah.
And do you physically travel to these schools and teach them, or do you have people that help?
Now I have a video and a curriculum, and the teacher runs it. They get a 40-page manual.
Oh, wow.
20 pages of skateboard homework, because it'd be expensive if I went.
This is true. Now, do you supply, if they're making skateboards?
I supply a kit for the deck only. Deck only.
Yeah, of course.
If it's art program, they're cut out. They have to sand the edges round and smooth.
Yeah.
If it's a wood shop program, they get to design the template. The same template I use with pros in my workshop.
Wow.
Same system, and design their own shape.
There might be a mini Schmidt coming up, and
Maybe
you don't even know it.
I'm trying to develop that in a sense because back when I started it after doing a factory in China and seeing the how well the copiers copied.
Oh yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing, and I wanted to try to give something back. Like it was like there's nothing left to hide anymore.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing left to hide. Where before then it was sort of like a hide it, keep it secret.
Little trade secret. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And it sort of just went to the point, who cares? We're past that now, and it's really about how to share and educate. you know?
Yeah. Open source.
Yeah.
Let's
in a
get these
sense.
kids involved.
In a sense, yeah.
amazing.
So anybody that wants to get Creative Skate going in your community, just go to the website, creativeskate.org. Schools, Boy Scout troops, after school things, anywhere where kids are learning.
It's amazing.
Right?
Wow.
And that's the cheapest deck you'll ever get.
Yeah.
It's only $15 a deck.
Wow,
I
dude.
mean, the kids at school got to raise $20, sandpaper, art supply, shipping, right? But they got to work for it,
Yeah.
Can we order 3?
They can go
One for
collect
me,
some,
you, and Kelly.
Maybe just come to the shop and make it with them.
Okay, that's a better
I'll show you
idea.
how
I
it
like
works.
that.
They can
I
go
like
collect
that.
some
works.
cans outside and go make it happen, you know?
Yeah.
Get those aluminum.
Yeah.
What was it? Rogers Recycling. What was it?
So you're talking about magnesium rails or aluminum cans? I'm confused here.
I don't know what we're talking about. This has been incredible. Like I said, we could probably we should probably do a part 2
Oh,
sometime.
totally,
Bring you
totally.
back
Maybe.
here,
Well,
talk
if-
about
if-
more
We should do
stuff.
a visit.
Think about stuff. Yeah, come visit.
We
Come-
should.
Come do a on location episode for your other show. Bring the
Yeah,
whole
it'd
crew.
be awesome.
Be amazing.
Hell
Bring the
yeah.
whole crew.
Yeah.
It'd be rad to get a factory tour.
Yeah, well, if you want to go in Tijuana, go all that way, we can do that too.
Let's
for sure.
do that.
You would blow Justin's mind. He would know what to do on there.
All right.
Yeah.
That'd be so funny to watch.
Yeah, well, when people come down, they get blown away for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy.
And just how it happens, right? It just keeps on moving. It's a machine, But it takes a lot of people. As I said,
Takes
I'm
an army.
conditioned by everybody I've ever had the opportunity to interact with.
Right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, And same thing with my factory operates with those people that are conditioned by that environment. But
Yes.
I'm a result of them because I couldn't do what I do if they didn't do the part they do, right?
It takes an army.
It
takes
takes
a team. Yeah.
That's what's been interesting about the New Deal thing is that Steve's progressed so much in business and Andy's progressed so much in business. Like we're all have this experience now.
He's only
And
Like if you had that experience
Yeah, if you
30
would've had
years
that
ago.
experience
You guys would've
then,
crushed it.
And it's like that's been the funnest part about that, totally.
amazing.
Yeah.
Where Steve and I had worked together 15 years ago, but Andy hadn't been, We've gone to skate camp a couple times and stuff like that.
Well, he was off doing his. He was off
Yeah, he
building
was out-
businesses
out
and
building businesses.
makeup apps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, we need to come down. We need to come down there, do a little segment maybe. Like I said, you got to come back in the future and just rap out with us some more because I feel like 3-4 hours isn't even cutting it. I feel like we need more time.
Well, I got a lot to share. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I like to share. I always have. I used to do a column in Transworld back in the 80s called Technically Speaking.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
Probably before you skateboarded. Maybe a lot, I don't know.
80 what?
It ran like 88 into 90. And then as we started New Deal, I was so busy with that. But then they went to I think it was 89, they went to monthly. And before it was bi-monthly.
Yeah.
And I was
Easier
like, I
to-
could sort of handle it,
Right.
right? Like the stories. And I did stuff about like ramps, wheels, trucks, wheelbases,
Amazing.
radiuses, all kinds of stuff.
You wrote
So
it.
I've always had a teaching thing as
Yeah.
a whole. I was like,
It's kind of in your system. It's in your
yeah,
DNA.
It's in
right?
my DNA.
Yeah.
So like I get to do this really cool thing with the Smithsonian called Ineskate.
Oh yeah,
You know?
Ineskate.
And that's been a fun program. It started, 7-8 years ago. And it was interesting going to Washington, D.C. to the Smithsonian. It was almost like, this is weird. And they're like, our job here at the American History Museum is to document American culture. And skateboarding's part of American culture now.
Yep.
Right? So it's a very interesting thing how they look at that, and how they look at innovation because skateboarding's just innovating every day all the way through,
And you donated one of your boards to the
Yeah, so I had this yardstick I rode for years.
Yardstick, yeah.
And when they went to do the event, they're like, "Well, ship everything out." And I'm like, "Well, I want to skate it." Well, if you turn it in, you can't skate it. I'm like,
You can't take it
I'm
back.
bringing this there. And I brought it, and it was go skateboarding day, skate down the hill from Palace to Pulaski.
Oh, there you go.
That's
know?
sick. Yeah, that's so
And then you
sick.
handed them the board.
Yeah, and then basically no, because it had a mini ramp outside, so skated the mini
Yeah.
ramp in the lab coat. You know, it had ceremonies. Tony Hawk donated his first skateboard in that ceremony, and donated stuff in, right? So that was cool. But we've done, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 events over the years. You know, and I've had this whole collection of old skateboards, and I sort of teach the history of how we went from no grip tape, you know, to rubber grip tape, to silicon carbide, to aluminum oxide. You know, excuse me, aluminum oxide, then silicon carbide. How that affects shoes, your whole body.
Yeah.
Right? The whole sport, the whole progression, right?
God, bro.
You know, and that's just that part, right? And then there's, you know, boards. I've got these era accurate boards that Neil Blender did the art on the set that I have now. Because when I did the first set, we donated them to Smithsonian. Then they wouldn't let me use them at the next event.
Right,
I'm
right.
Like, no, I can't skate them now.
It's in their collection now.
Yeah, so Lance did the art on the first set, and then Neil did the second set, and I keep on taking these around to events. And I asked them just to give me what's your impression of the era, right? You know, so they did different art for 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then really since the 90s, you know, we haven't really had progression the naked eye can see.
Yeah.
Sure.
There is progression. Blues have gotten better, crossband orientation. Like, there's stuff always going on. But to the naked eye, it's the same skateboard.
We can't. Right.
Right.
Huh. No wonder I haven't seen anything change in 10 years.
Yeah, well, it's so refined.
I know.
I mean, as much as you want to say, hey, let it change, it's so refined. I mean, you know, things that are better, it's like, oh, yeah. Someone said the other day on Instagram when I posted something, they're like, it's so great the kingpins don't break all the time anymore, you know. And it's like, and we got hollow kingpins and axles and lighter trucks,
Yeah.
you know, that have improved that side of it, right?
Sure.
Urethane formulas have gotten better
Right.
and better and better.
So it's constantly changing. But like
Right.
you said, for the naked eye, you don't really notice.
Right.
Unless you're a purist. Those purists out there, they know everything.
Yeah.
Raj, you aware that they're using better urethane now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raj knows everything.
Raj is
Or
a
better,
kid.
or better processing.
Right.
It can be that, and it can be not even raw materials. It can be processing, for instance.
It's so incredible.
You know.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
This has been
Been a
an
blast.
amazing
Yes, it's
experience.
very informative.
Learning. Yeah.
Thank you. I think the
Thanks
whole
for
stuff
having me.
about the board, the dynamic of that whole thing, a lot of skateboarders, weirdly enough, don't know about that
No,
stuff.
they
No, they
don't know, and they
Yeah.
weren't again because of the marketing is about branding. It's not talking about it. Right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you figure out what you like, you go through a bunch of stuff and a bunch of time to get there, you know, and that kind of thing. You know,
Well,
So-
usually trying to educate the public is for a brand new product, right? That nobody's really seen. And
Right.
that company has to go in and educate the public why you should buy this. Skateboards have already been established. There's no reason why a company should be like, this is why you should buy my product. It's almost a waste of time for that company, right?
Yeah, well, it's
already
a shame to say, you know, that,
Sure.
that brands don't build product; they're branding companies.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
They're marketing
in my
companies.
era, I built the Schmitt Stix boards. I was the company that made the product that you bought, right?
right.
And it's just a different era, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way the world's
It is,
changed, right?
right.
Like they're manufacturing moving to Asia and stuff, and all the frustration over that, right? Well, our government didn't have any protectionary walls. Someone's trying to make some walls now. You know,
Yeah.
might even have more expensive skateboards because of that wall,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
But the reality is that if you go back 200 years ago, you know, and the Industrial Revolution in the United States was stealing all the manufacturing from Europe, right? Like things move, things change, right? You know, as much as I like manufacturing, I love doing it. I love making things.
Yeah. That's your heart and soul, man.
Yeah.
Right? It's in your DNA.
Yeah, totally.
Build.
Totally.
Love
Is there
it.
crazy stuff happening from going to Mexico back to the U.S. now?
No,
No?
I mean, the political landscape obviously has had its highs and lows in the last 2 years with
Sure.
that, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that Mexico is one of our largest trading partners. Mexico and Canada are, and they're in the middle of that new deal they're working on there. And we have fair business relationships with Mexico and Canada. But the number 2 trading partner being China, it's an unfair relationship, right? It's not like, hey, you buy this, I'll buy that, right?
Oh,
like,
okay.
you know, it's just like, hey, let's just take it all, you know?
Yeah.
When I went to build skateboards in China, when I found out that the United States and Canada did not restrict the movement of hard maple logs, I'm like, how do I win? They got my raw material. The raw material comes from my continent. In the whole world, hard maple only grows in the Great Lakes region of North America.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And our governments aren't, they're like, sure, you can have our stuff. Go for it. All the jobs with it, right? Like, but lumber's moved around the world for, when they were massed on the ships, lumber moved around. How'd you get teak to Europe? How'd you get, mahogany there? Like it's been a traded commodity
Right.
for a very long time.
Yeah.
So how do you reverse it, right? And obviously the current political landscape is trying to reverse it, but in a very rough way.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's very interesting,
That's where our politics can affect skateboarding. or
Yeah, well,
business.
I think it will be the piece that raises the price of skateboard is going to be politics.
Wow, that's crazy.
Try the hemp dry ice. I think that could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think hemp is just a weed.
Hemp's a great.
It's a great.
Hemp
yeah.
is a great fiber structurally.
Try it.
I consider it nature's fiberglass.
There it is.
And it's not abrasive to tooling. It's fabulous to work with.
The dry ice. I think there's some component there that you should try. I don't know. I
Isn't
could be
dry
wrong.
ice kind of like not cool to use? It's kind of sketchy.
It's just dry
Oh,
ice,
burn you.
Yeah.
and it'll make your drink all scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Halloween.
And it will disappear. Hey, let's make a disappearing mold. Sounds like a great idea to me.
Listen, this has been incredible. Can we give you some 9 Club stuff to take home?
Well, only if I can give you what I got in my bag.
Ooh. What's in the
We'll,
bag?
we'll make a fair trade.
Fair trade.
Fair trade, yes.
However, I found out I left something at the shop.
Oh, well, that's okay. Just having you here
So I'm going to have to come back
is
this
our
time for
present.
that part.
Oh, it's
But
perfect.
I still have parts.
Kelly, will you grab Paul some 9 Club stuff?
Of course. XL?
What's that?
Double X.
Double
got it.
XL.
Do we have double X?
Raj?
We have a couple. I might need to check.
Yeah.
We have like
All
a
right,
ton
well,
of
what-
orders to the black. I mean the
Oh, we
Saturday
already have
weekend.
orders. Okay.
You guys sell some stuff this weekend?
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
Well, I love the enthusiasm people have for your show
Yeah.
and what it's about, and they want to back it. Like I'll see people with the shirts, like
That's
they're backing
awesome.
it, right? Like that's the whole thing. Vote with your dollars, right?
Yeah.
So vote for what you want. Make sure that you're, getting what you want out of life in this world when you spend your dollars, right? 'Cause
Totally.
You probably worked hard for them, right?
Yeah, and supporting what you love. You
Yeah.
know, supporting the people. Yeah, it's like I was just saying, Baker just came out with their full length video, an
Yeah.
hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like they just gave you a free video.
Yep.
Why don't
Yeah.
you go support them? Go buy their boards. Go buy their clothes.
Yeah.
Like they just handed you
Yeah.
this like
Gem.
In the early
Gem.
early 90s, that was like a $40 VHS tape.
Right. Exactly.
vote with your dollars.
Exactly.
Have you ever considered like moving your manufacturing to like the Great Lakes region?
No, even though I lived in Wisconsin as a kid.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Be closer to the trees.
Closer to the tree.
Closer to trees, yeah. There's a hard thing in sourcing. So like I paid a bit of truckload of wood here every week, right? Or every week. Or two.
Every truckload.
Yeah.
You're getting raw
So you're
wood. You're
buying
getting
layers.
big.
I'm getting veneer and sheets.
Oh,
big
you've
sheets.
okay.
And then I cut it down, and it will all be dyed colors when I get it.
Oh,
Is it already
You know, and
pre-sanded,
I'll
or you sand it
No,
by
I
yourself?
sand it.
Yeah.
Do all that.
Oh, it's
Put
already
the
dyed,
downs.
though.
Yeah, it's dyed.
can you order different colors, or do
Yeah.
you get? Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to buy truckload quantities.
Okay.
So that's part of that hard thing of making skateboards. You can't go buy, I want to buy 10 boards worth. It doesn't
Right.
exist, you know?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's hard because I always have people with crazy go, well, sell me that. It's like, I don't have a system for that. It took me a lot of time and money to build that Creative Skate system.
Yeah.
To have
Like
it
the
work,
juice
right?
isn't worth the squeeze, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good analogy for sure.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that.
All right.
Thank you, Kelly. Look at this, huh?
All right.
First
Thank
of
you,
all,
Thank you.
the professor.
Thank you.
Man, look at this.
All right.
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate what you guys
This is
do.
incredible.
I love your expression of skateboarding enthusiasm, right?
Who, Raj?
You guys as a crew.
Hey, we have a fun
We're
time.
just doing it.
Here is
Yep.
our
All right.
Krob mug.
I like
This
it.
was a Muska graphic.
Obviously.
One of our fans got us graphics, turned that into
That's great.
a graphic for us.
Manufactured in China.
A reality of the business world, right?
Raj, don't tell him that.
They might have sublimation printed it here.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
It came from, the mug is from China.
Right.
It's printed here. There's a 9 Club double X.
All right. Good deal.
It's a
It's
sidebar.
a long sleeve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sidebar.
Sidebar print.
Oh, long sleeve too. I like it.
Oh,
Oh, it's sweat
this
season.
is our.
This is
It's getting,
fabulous.
getting a little chilly,
Yeah.
Professor.
I will take it. Thank you so much.
And
Wow.
of course, the 9 Club hoodie,
There we go.
So there's
double X.
Good deal. The other day I was going like, I need some more hoodies this
Complete with a
season.
Post-it note.
Because right now I'm
Oh, watch out.
double
wearing
XL.
hoodie.
Not only that, I have another special. Oh, do you have some? Let me give you this first.
Wow.
This is a.
I think I know what that is. I think I saw something happen in the last
This is a
couple
pair.
episodes.
This is a pair. This is a pair of shoes.
Good deal.
It'll pop up. What size are you? 10 and a half? 11?
13.
Whoa.
Yeah, way off.
This is a Nixon watch that the good people over there at Nixon.
Thanks, Chad
They
and Drew.
have their, Chad. Yeah.
Vaguely.
They have their own design your own watch. We went
Yeah.
online, we designed our own Century watch.
That's
Did
cool.
the whole colors, did the thing, and we engraved your name on the back there, an episode number.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Look at that. We couldn't fit the professor.
174.
We couldn't put the
174.
I hope you don't mind. It's just
No,
Paul
I'm great.
Schmidt.
I'm great.
I wanted to put the professor in there, but it was
All
too
right.
long. It's crazy. You go online and you just do the second hand, the band, the face, the whole
There's
thing.
a process and procedure behind that.
Yep.
That's how websites work, right?
Oh, he's
Episode
getting up.
174.
Yeah, I got some stuff here for you guys.
Look at that, huh, Raj? I'm gonna order one for myself.
I want to do the blue one.
Can they?
Designed.
Can someone make that same one if they wanted to? Like the
Yeah,
same
they
color?
can go on there and make the same shit.
I don't think they're gonna be able to find the orange.
Oh, the orange is special
Mini,
to
yeah,
us.
Whoa! What? Whoa! Santa's
We
here.
got Santa Schmidt. Wow.
Brought my Santa bag along.
What?
What do you think?
That watch here, bro. We got it. Okay, so
Santa.
he put on a Santa hat.
Santa
and he's got a
sack.
Santa sack.
Santa sack, right?
Santa sack.
Okay.
I don't know.
Got a couple
Okay.
boards here.
great big sack.
Rogers.
Now, I'm not
likes
gonna.
Santa sack.
I'll probably put this back on, huh?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I like the.
I will.
It's a good look. It's a good look for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. He's
Well, see,
getting
it
his,
ties back to this ad, right? So this Schmidt
Oh, there you
Stix
go.
ad,
Who's the kid in that Schmidt Stix ad?
87.
Is that a relative?
It was my girlfriend's son at that time.
Okay.
His name was Todd.
Oh.
Had to go find a Christmas tree in September and all the decorations and everything to make it happen. You know?
Shot that in September.
And then kids literally got this skateboard for Christmas that year, one of the best-selling boards,
No way.
Wow.
the Cero board.
That board did really well. Yeah.
Yeah, it did really, really well, put it mildly. You know?
Love
Still
it.
running that graphic.
So I've been playing the Christmas thing for a while, you know. It's not new. Just like the professor thing, it's not really new.
Does Todd
Professor.
skate? Still or?
Professor.
Anyways, I got a couple boards. So you guys can decide
Wow.
which ones you want to ride,
Look at this. bro.
which ones maybe one of your fans or two want
Just put
to
this back
win
on
or
the shelf.
something,
Yeah,
or
we gotta-
I don't know, maybe a question contest or something.
Maybe
Who
for
knows?
the
I'm
prize
not,
pack.
Wow.
I'm
maybe
not sure how
prize
you
pack
manage
this week.
that.
Look at that.
So this is
Okay, what is this?
This
my
is the founder
founder's
board.
model.
Oh, this
Okay.
is the board Raj wanted.
So look at the rocker. Okay. So we're going to explain skateboards here, right? So all the Schmitt Stix boards were rocker. Okay. The first year New Deal was rocker. And Rocco said rocker's dead.
Really?
Because in the goal of finesse, it didn't pause well at that point. Okay.
Okay.
Because of progression, rails are needed for a reason. Things are needed for a reason, right? Like
Born out of
progression.
necessity.
So Rocco set the tone that it's got to be flat. And a year in the New Deal, I made new molds and made it flat across here. Still, in general, my boards do have a ever slight about a rocker because you can take that rocker and just put your body weight on it, and it flattens out.
So-
But then the minute you jump off your board wants to jump at you because it's tension. Right, so we're managing the tension,
Like
you
a
know.
spring.
So this board has a lot of rocker to it.
So by rocker, you're talking about I can go from the nose and tail and rock it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So a surfboard has rocker, right? It's
Right.
not flat.
Some normal boards you go width. You rock the
Right.
width. You're rocking the length.
So this is my dimensions that I like to ride, mixed with the New Deal spray can shape, which was a hybrid board back then, a foam fiberglass bumper board. So it was like the legacy of Schmitt Stix going on in New Deal in that case, right? Got wheel wells in it because wheel bite sucks.
That's true.
The wider the board, the more you need wheel wells, right?
Crate bite.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a good board.
So there's that one.
It's a 9.5 Rush.
Here's Andy Howell's founder board. This one's 8 5/8.
Okay.
That's one.
let's see. Let's
Every
get this
board's
out.
in a different mold, but here you could sort of see the normal.
We getting a little
okay.
That one just barely got
Okay.
any rocker to it, right?
barely.
You know,
Well, it can rock it left to right.
right,
but,
you'll rock it left to right, but that's more like a modern rider board. This is a 8 5/8. I think it was 14.5-inch wheelbase. It's a blend of Andy's old shape with a popsicle. So it's got hints, but it's still like a modern rider super function.
Love it. Okay. Wow, we're going through.
Here's the super flat.
Yes.
It's 1993.
This is my shape.
yeah, that
Right
was
here.
Yeah.
awesome.
This is 7.5.
I saw the other day you mentioned, they had a custom press or a custom
Yeah.
mold, right? Well, when that brand started, it was pretty cool. One day Spike came to my office and he's like, yeah, we're starting this brand. I knew the crew he hung with, but he was like, he can't reveal very much.
Yeah.
And I gave him some samples of, here's a new mold I made. I've been making molds, trying stuff, and I couldn't satisfy anybody in the giant crew.
Yep.
So I made a mold from my perspective of what I think skateboarding needed at that time. And those guys are like, oh, this is great. This is right on.
Yeah.
Look at this board. It's
Wow.
amazing.
Wait, what size is that? Is that
7.5.
7.5.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So was that mold exclusive for them for years?
No,
or?
they had a lot of other people used it.
Oh.
But it wasn't really known to that.
Yeah.
Pretty much I built Girl the first 10 years of Girl.
Yeah.
So in that era.
Oh, okay.
All right. What else you got?
So this one's just a useless wooden toy shape. Again, this is like a modern rider popsicle 8.5 board.
Wow. Look at that, Rush.
But here you can see, I've set this down.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, sorry.
so this is probably that hint of rocker, right? So you see
Yep.
how I can press this out.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
It doesn't
right.
take much body weight up, but the minute I come up, it comes up
bounces
with it,
back up.
right?
Interesting.
So it's about energy return. So when I got the skateboards thinner, when Element Featherlight started in '98, it now became this action reaction thing, because now the board gives back, right? And that's that liveliness that you sense and feel with pop. You sense when it's gone, right?
Ask you a quick question, real quick.
Yeah.
Right, Rush.
So I noticed like on a lot of like yellow stain boards, whatever, there'd always be like a little bit of green, like droplets sometimes
Right, so-
in the veneer.
So this could have been pressed against a green bottom that was next to it.
Okay.
And the hole, because it's breathing and paint, is just doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, all right.
Little
Like the
seeps
die,
in a little
the
bit.
die is not locked. You notice if a board, like if you grind your tail down and you get it wet, you'll see the die run.
Yeah.
Right? It's like food coloring.
Yeah, totally.
I see some
Right.
green right there.
I just remember always having like yellow boards and it'd always be like little green speckles
Yeah.
sometimes and like
Well, yellow was picked as a color for New Deal when we started it, and as Gorm laid some boards out, they had a yellow top. I was like, guys, we just got to do yellow tops for now because
Yeah.
it just
It's
says
amazing.
the brand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well, that's my favorite
that's-
color anyway
Yes.
of the boards.
That's just another
Same here.
popsicle. Now,
Yeah.
Kelly, you might want to come check this out because this shape might look a little familiar. the graphics. So here's 3 of the different graphics,
no way.
but it's that board.
Really?
Yeah, I made them for you.
Dude, you're the best.
so
There's
silly.
a stack of 3 of them.
You are so
Now,
rad,
now whether
dude.
those guys are going to let you keep 3 or they're going to have 1.
Let me see.
Or
Can
they
I
want
see?
to ride
Can
with
I,
these.
can
I
I
think
see
you like
one
it,
for
Chris.
what-
Probably
I
don't
think
like
you might
one of
like
these.
it too, Chris.
Let's see. What's this?
See, look at the fingers are flat on the thing. It's got a good 2 fingers, right?
Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah.
Good. That's pretty good. That's, yeah, about
Inch.
Trying to get
Oh,
your
your
inch
thumb.
thing going, yeah.
about
Yeah, see, the thumb doesn't cradle in there. The fingers just really cradle
know,
right.
but
They
the
deal with
thumb-
the change, right?
No, thank you. That's really, really cool. I'm definitely
good
gonna
shape.
I'm gonna set one of
I
those
got
up,
something else too.
please.
Seven-
Oh, what?
7.875.
Chris, hey, seriously, you should try one. I think you'll like
You'd
it.
actually like it probably.
Yeah.
Put a chocolate sticker on the bottom.
Oh yeah, it's true.
All right. Santa Schmidt is not done.
What else?
These are available for regifting.
Oh, what is this?
Mike V was the first one to get one today. He's been here and
We're the
he was in
second.
my shop. supposed to get this on, right?
For the second, okay.
Now, these are custom-made, one-of-a-kind coasters. We got to protect this table with cork here.
Look at that.
Okay, because it came all the way across the ocean. The Focus guys made this, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So
Look at this.
the interaction on Instagram with all the makers that are remaking skateboard stuff is just amazing.
Yeah.
Now, notice
way.
there is the coffee cup version.
Yep. Oh, that fits nice.
Wow.
And then there's the beer version, right? Yeah. Or soda cans. Or what are you drinking over there now? You're drinking
I'm
what?
drinking both. Let me see. This is, I don't have I need the,
That's amazing.
give me the big one. there,
Dude,
Raj.
that is sick.
I don't know. I
So
don't have
they're not perfect. You see some air bubble. I'm trying to develop a process for this, but
It's amazing.
I just didn't have enough time to work it all out.
That's
you
so
know?
cool. Thank you.
Like
for
even
this.
the finish on the outside is hand rubbed water-based polyurethane, and then the inside's epoxy so that it can sweat and not damage it, right? And then the cork obviously is to protect your table,
So
keep everything in good
later.
shape, right?
Yeah, these are the Focus made the tables and Schmidt made the look at that.
I might even made the board that's in your table. I don't really know.
Look at
That
this.
could be true, actually. Yeah.
It's so some of the makers will send me pictures of the lasers. You know, when they're making stuff, this
Yeah.
is made with that. So cool.
That's
you know?
so
This,
sick.
this is kind of maybe it's weird sounding, but like, can you tell what board's yours by looking at the side of it? Like the
Not necessarily because it's the making of lambs can be different, right?
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean,
yeah.
like a brand will decide the more colors of dyed veneer, the more money it costs to make. Okay, so a brand will decide how much dyed veneer they're going to put in the board, you know, and sort of 3 is the standard good, but 2 is acceptable. Some people do 1, some people do 4.
oh
You know?
okay.
And in general, the long grains are dyed, not the cross grains, because the cross grains are thinner, they're more fragile.
Oh wow,
And they just
interesting.
can't
Actually,
handle the dyeing process so easy. We've done it, but you just don't get the same yields out of it.
is there? We've talked about this before. About I was just saying earlier, the yellow is like, oh, I feel like I get more pop with yellow for some reason. Is there any truth behind any of that? Like, is there any
the veneers
Yeah.
being different colors, being
like is the color actually
Stiffer.
like could affect it anyway? Even with like
The nanotubes. Does it affect the nanotubes?
or like the weather or something like that? Could a certain color? mess
no.
with-
Let's stay on the color veneers. Is there any truth to them being?
I have never scientifically justified that in any way or form. I've had it asked, wondered, curious. I mean, red sucks, right? For a couple years, I made red-only boards for Scheckler, and he was out winning contests with it, right? So it's like, it's really your own thing.
Yeah.
It does go back to Nano Tubes, though. That's how we got that dye into that wood, right? So the veneer is dyed in an autoclave. So this process started for skateboards in 1986. There was a veneer mill in Rutland, Vermont called Rutland Plywood. And they started developing this process, and they sent it to us, and Taylor Dykema got it.
Oh,
So NHS and PAL didn't get it for years because there wasn't the capacity to do it, but also because they didn't press their own boards, they couldn't affect it, right? You know, and sort of like the Lucero and Grosso boards, those were the breakout boards for dyed veneer. Those are the ones that showed, look at this new look. And then
Right.
the wheel wells in them pop because that was different,
Yeah.
right? You know, it was functional. You know? You could put any truck or wheel on there and it would work.
Yeah.
Where most wheel wells don't. You know, it's hard. You know, that's why the wheel wells on that board are big, because it's got to fit the range of truck brands, wheel diameters, riser pads, not riser pads.
there's a lot of variables.
A lot of variables, yeah.
I went to DSM and I was actually amazed on how wheel wells are actually cut the way
Yeah.
they do it. You know, it's like sliding in like
Yeah.
Oh, like kind of
into
little-
like a bladder sander or whatever it is.
Huh? Interesting.
Yeah, grindy wheel in some
Yeah.
manner, probably.
Listen,
So let me
Oh,
see.
you
I
more-
got something else in my trick bag here.
Oh,
So I got more of these in there, but I'm going to leave those. So I made something extra special for you guys, and I left the box in my shop.
Oh, it's
So
okay.
luckily this made it.
okay. What do you got there, Santa Schmidt?
keeps going back to
I
his
know.
bag.
Love it.
Bag is endless. It's
I
just
love
This is
it.
great Christmas.
Look at
Really.
this. 9 Club coasters.
What is this?
What are you drinking?
I got some milk over here.
Okay, so you got the milk. So if you got to drink out straw.
What's he got going on over here?
What is-
something here? I make you guys understand pop at a whole new level.
Pop.
So here's your straw.
Maple syrup. Is that
Here's
for
your
me?
straw.
Okay. I got
So just have a sip of your drink and see if it's satisfying.
Here we go. Let me see. I don't have that much left in here, but
Not working very
Is
good.
this a trick
huh?
straw?
It's why? What's?
There's probably a hole in it.
The tube is broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of
So
weird.
you drink a soda out of a straw
Yep.
that doesn't have a solid straw. You might get 40% of the soda, but you feel like you got 10%, right?
Yeah.
Same when your pop's dead, right? You're like, it's only 20% gone, whatever it is, who knows? But you feel like, oh my gosh, it's over, right? Like it's over, you know?
Right.
So realize that there's all these microscopic straws in there,
Uh-huh.
and that's what pop is. Pop is a bunch of microscopic straws. Where like the helium thing, I engineered 20 extra straws in that construction,
Gotcha.
but they're bigger straws so they can flex more
Huh.
and do more.
What does the maple syrup have to do with it?
Well, first of all, everybody needs maple syrup. Right? But pop is from maple syrup.
What?
Yeah.
It's
So next time you have maple syrup in the morning, so each of you guys get a little bottle here.
wow.
This is Trader Joe's
Trader Joe's
organic maple syrup.
Thank you. I just got
Okay.
some Eggos the other day.
Kelly, I'm going
I
to show
wanted
yours
to,
over here for a minute.
Yeah, you
I'm
can-
gonna-
I gotta spot
I'm
some
going to explain
Eggos.
what syrup has to do with pop. Okay? So a hard maple tree, where does it grow?
In the ground.
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes region of North America. What happens in the Great Lakes region in the winter?
It's cold.
It's cold and it freezes, right?
Yeah.
What happens to water when you freeze it?
It freezes.
Nice.
Turns ice, but what happens to it?
It crystallizes.
It expands.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the spring, a tree starts to grow, and in the summer, it's growing really quick, right? It's like, you know, its leaves are growing, it's firing, right? You know. Then it gets to the fall, it sheds its leaves, it's getting cold out. The fluids in the tree freeze. They're inside a tube. They densify the walls of the fiber of the wood and make a better tube.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Then, as spring comes along, so all winter long, the sugars in the tree are commingling with this, right? And then when the spring thaw happens, it's usually like a 2-week period, but it could be like 2 to 6 weeks depending on the weather that year.
That's when the maple's flowing.
Then what happens is if a farmer puts in a tap,
Right.
3/8 diameter hole in this huge big tree, path of least resistance, all the syrup goes out that, okay? An average big tree will get 20, 25 gallons of sap out of it.
Wow.
Okay, it takes 40 to 50 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of maple syrup. So that's why when you go buy the pure Vermont maple syrup, that's why it's expensive, right? But it's got a high sugar content.
Yeah.
It's got antioxidants, like the health benefits of Mother Nature stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. So as much as my veneer comes out of mills in Wisconsin, but sometimes we get logs from Vermont.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's raining in Wisconsin and they can't get the tractor in the forest,
Right.
but it's frozen in Vermont and they can get trees out of the forest. The tractors won't sink in the mud because it's frozen, right?
Right.
So it's like the logs travel around on train cars in the region
Right.
based on what's going on, right? Sometimes logs will go from Canada to Wisconsin to be veneered.
Oh, yeah.
So most of the veneer for skateboards is coming from mills out of Wisconsin. The 2 main mills that support the industry and do the dyed veneer are there.
Okay.
But then logs will just go straight to China as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
You know, not even get turned into veneer. So maple syrup is pop.
If Roger pounds that whole thing, he'll have more pop.
I'll have a
He might be
bellyache.
hyper.
I'll have a bellyache.
I think it
but,
works that way. So when you
Might be
have some
hyper.
maple syrup, just think about your pop, right?
That is interesting.
It's pretty good. I just literally bought some Eggo
we
waffles.
can make some old fashions with some whiskey with that. It'd be good. I did that
Ooh.
last night. That's where the 4th bottle went.
You know what?
I had a maple whiskey last night.
Rush, take a little sip.
Getting ready for tonight.
That's good.
It is actually tasty. You take a little sip of it. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Is that
this
good, Rush?
supposedly is a blended syrup of multiple farms and that kind of thing. When you go to that region, I was actually up in Vermont a couple springs ago, right after the thaw. The ropes are still, the tubes are all hooked up to the trees, and they'd already done the boil off, but they were selling the syrup and
Trick straw.
they'll sort of just boil it down till it gets to the right color and consistency. And this could be like alcohol, just sit for years and years if it's closed and preserved.
It'll be good.
Now that it's open, you want to refrigerate it.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But
Yeah,
it literally
of
will
course.
just hold for 10, 20, 50 years.
I feel like we could have another conversation on maple syrup for another hour and a half.
Possibly.
Wow.
Possibly.
Dude,
Santa Schmidt.
Thank you for the gifts. This
I
is
know.
awesome.
Yeah,
It's really rad.
First of all,
Well, I wish everybody having the skateboard you want for Christmas this year, right?
Yeah. This is incredible.
These are
Did you
awesome.
give Mike V the 9 Club ones, or did you make special
Yeah, I
ones for
gave him a
him?
9 Club one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mike V, he's a big fan of the show.
Yeah, I know.
Big fan. He loves it.
He told me he was going to do a post next week when it comes out.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for the coasters
I can
and
show you a picture.
what? He's got
See,
more shit?
There was some
Oh.
discussion earlier, and I'll at least show you a picture.
All right, what do you got?
Since I forgot this box. Like Kevin Marks today, working on my look back library.
Oh, there you go.
He spent a couple hours in there filling in some holes for me and
Sick. Nice.
updating sheets and stuff. And I gave him my box of surplus mags when I buy lots on eBay for that. You want one mag and you get 12.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he gets
yeah.
the rest. You know?
It's amazing. What do you got?
Those
Nick, what, are you going to show us
frustrating
the photo of what you forgot?
Yeah, I'm going to show you the photo of what I forgot.
Okay.
So I don't have a picture finished.
What is this?
Looks like a red curb.
Red curb.
The hell is that?
A mani pad.
Oh my gosh.
And weren't you guys talking about something at the courthouse the other day?
Let me zoom that in.
So these are intended, they're mic stands,
Oh, no way.
but the piece isn't screwed in it. So there's this thread goes in there.
Oh.
This 27 count 5/8 thread.
Yeah.
Really fine one though. I could get to tap the wood very good. If
So
have a
you
course
came
thread, you
here
can tap it.
in
give you pedestals that represent what you like to skate.
you came here to recon. You wanted to see where Mike
I
stands.
finished
and
them though. I just left them
now
off
he's
at
like,
the
I
shop."
forgot them, and he's gonna perfect them.
And there was some
when he
other
gets
stuff
back.
in there too.
I
But
wonder why he's like.
just have to.
Yeah, he's measuring. He's got his calipers out,
bring it
measuring the
up.
microphones.
Oh, I actually forgot
Listen.
to put these back on. Huh? They're supposed to.
All I need to
Or does
say.
it matter?
Santa
Too late.
Schmidt,
It's over.
you're the man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
maple
Thank you so
syrup,
much.
Yeah.
the coasters, the 9 Club coasters,
The education.
the
Yes, please. Yes, that was awesome.
education. You know,
Yeah.
thank you for being.
So follow the hashtag Skate Science Saturday. I try to share scientific facts that tie to a skateboard. I've sort of been doing that for a couple years, just having fun with it.
It's so crazy.
You should have like 1 million followers. How many followers do you have?
50 something,
That's
a
pretty
lot of
good.
followers.
57 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have 1 million.
Okay. Get me there.
We'll try.
We'll get a bump.
We'll get a couple. We'll get a couple followers. No, seriously, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This has been incredible. You have to come back
Yes.
and hang out with us again.
I'll come back.
Seriously.
Let me know when you're ready.
Bring some more syrup.
Yeah, bring some more
You guys
stuff.
come down.
This is
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I
we-
love being
Next
I love
Christmas.
getting
Skate
presents.
science.
Yeah.
It's real, I'm telling you. Skate science is real. Whether you believe it or not. You know, it's like oh, I don't believe in science or the power of triangles. These things work on triangles. How do you think GPS happens? There's 3
They
spots out there and it can tell
triangulate
exactly
the-
what's going on, right? It's math.
You're starting to
Just
scare
like
me.
with the nose and the tail and the wheel, right? Triangulation.
Is the Earth flat or round?
I don't know. You're
Oh,
starting to scare me.
no.
It's
Let's
so
not go here.